Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Had an Unknown Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The Cursed Hero. People are not born equal. What a bunch of crap. Everyone is born equal, the world is responsible for their changes, and the people are responsible for the world. Those who came to this world and were left by themselves are the only ones who can complain about injustice. They got their chance snatched from them. They have the right to be mad at the world. They have the right to impose their will against everything. In this new world, there's only one absolute truth: villains aren't born. They're raised. My name is Midoriya, and at the age of 4, I was told I had a quirk nobody could identify. The doctor who examined me showed us the proof that I had the third joint on my pinky toe, which represents the evolution of humanity, the birth of a new generation of exceptional abilities users in this new world where fantasy becomes reality. This little detail could dictate how your life would progress, how you would be treated by most people, and how you would live. After I was told that for this new world I meant nothing, I kept trying to live as a hero, trying to absorb their ideals as my own. I kept trying to be like the hero I admired so much, All Might. I desperately waited for the day my quirk would activate. I studied everything about it, analyzing other people's quirks endlessly, and I found nothing, but I kept going. I trained alone in an abandoned place next to my house, learning how to fight by myself using videos and books as reference, and my quirk didn't activate, but I kept going. Back then, when my mother gave up on me, feeling sorry for her normal son and the suffering he would face in his life, it hurt most than anything, but even after that, I kept going after all. A true hero never gives up and always faces everything with a smile, right? After years of mistreating in Kaken's hands, could you really blame me if I were to become a villain? He just told me to kill myself. The person I also admired for so long, the person I considered my friend. The one who uttered these words to me is someone praised by adults, someone considered suitable to be a hero, a model to the next generation. He's someone who aims to be the strongest hero ever. This is just stupid. I was stupid for trying to follow him all this time, being humiliated, inflating his ego for years. How stupid I was. Midoriya kept walking, repeating the words inside his mind when he heard a strange voice behind him. A medium-sized body to hide in. He looked over his shoulder to see who was speaking and locked eyes on a giant slimy monster. While it looks like a villain with a transformation quirk, he analyzed in less than 2 seconds, jumping away from the danger the monster was emanating. But before he could gain any distance, he was caught and engulfed by the sticky substance that started covering his face, preventing him from breathing. Just before passing out, he heard a familiar voice, a voice he had heard 1,000,000 times on the TV. "Fear not, Sharingan, I am here." The last thing he remembered was a strong wind pressure before fainting. He woke up after being softly face-slapped, instantly looking at the man in front of him, thinking he could only be dreaming. All Might, the #1 hero, was right there. An autograph. Where's him? He looked around and found his burned notebook opening just to see the hero's signature on it. He already signed it. When the hero said until next time and was about to leave, Midoriya felt despair. He still needed an answer. He needed to hear it from him. He was sure that All Might wouldn't turn him down like the others. As the symbol of justice, he was sure he was going to believe in him. Just because nobody had an answer to his unknown power, it didn't mean he was useless. "Please, wait. I want to ask you something." The hero turned and Midoriya looked away, too embarrassed to maintain eye contact. "Can someone without a quirk become a hero like you?" Without a quirk? All Might kept staring at the boy, wondering what he meant by that. After the hero questioned him, Midoriya explained that after being tested over and over again, his quirk never awakened. Although everyone was sure he had one, they just didn't know how to turn it on, not even Midoriya himself. "Sharingan, I can understand what you're feeling. Having your power so close and yet having nothing at all, it must be frustrating. But I can't be an irresponsible adult right now and just say that you can become a hero." Midoriya's face fell as he heard the only person in the world that he expected to believe in him, to give him hope, doing exactly the opposite. A pro should always be ready to risk his life, and without power, can one really become a hero? I don't think so, Sharingan. Midoriya just gripped the front of his shirt with his eyes closed, trying hard not to cry, feeling his words hit like slaps. "If you desire to help people, you could become a police officer. There's nothing wrong about dreaming, but you need to face reality, Sharingan. I'm sorry, but with the way you are, you cannot become a hero." He turned and jumped away, the wind pressure making Midoriya's hair stand. Just like that, it ended. Midoriya's dreams, ambitions, hope. He kept staring at the ground, not knowing what to do, where to go. He was lost. This was a little harsh, but the sooner he faces reality, the better. Also, this is the first time I heard about a quirk that no one can classify. That's odd. Lost in thoughts about the boy's strange past, he didn't notice the bottle he just dropped. The bottle containing the sticky villain he captured. Midoriya looked up to see All Might's figure flying away. He kept watching for a few seconds, mortified. He felt his head hurt after hearing those words. He just had the last shred of hope ripped from him by his idol. He opened his eyes, but his vision was blurred by tears. He wiped them out, but he still couldn't see things in front of him. Everything was blurred, and before he could ask himself what happened to his eyes, he grabbed the sides of his head, feeling it hurt, that he fell to his knees. He wanted to scream, but his jaw was locked, his hands pressing his skull in an attempt to relieve the pain. It was like someone was crushing his brain. He kept there on the ground, waiting for the pain to pass and felt it spreading to his eyes as well. After a few minutes, it just suddenly stopped, like it never happened. He was feeling dizzy, and after opening his eyes again he saw two flies next to him, and it looked like they were flying in slow motion. He took a step forward, but as he did so, everything came strangely close, as if he was seeing everything from a wrong-sized pair of lenses. He could still feel the depth, he just wasn't used to it yet. What the hell is going on? What is this? He tried to walk again, his arms raised in front of him to help with his balance, and went to the small stream next to the place he was to wash his face and his eyes that were now aching. When he crouched to get water, he saw something reflected on the water's surface that made a chill run through his whole body. He saw a pair of red eyes glowing, and suddenly, he was aware of everything around him. The processing speed of the incoming visual stimulus was off the charts. That was all Midoriya could think as he saw 4 fishes underwater, 10 meters ahead, and somehow could keep track of them even after turning to look at some bees flying around him. Somehow, everything seemed slow to his eyes and his vision blurred again, but this time caused by the tears falling down his face as he realized those eyes had to be his Quirk. His Quirk that has just awakened. I'm not useless, I'm not quirkless, I knew I wasn't useless. After recovering, he wiped the tears and looking back to the place where his dreams were destroyed a few minutes ago, he swore. I'll show you I'm not useless, I'll show you too what it truly means to be a hero, All Might Bakugo. He heard an explosion and turned towards its general direction. He could even hear some sirens. He ran for a few minutes until he reached the crowd that was watching a sticky villain who just abducted a boy fight with pro heroes. The villain was using explosions in every direction, making people gasp, a few filming with their cell phones. Every time Midoriya blinked, his eyes automatically registered a new detail in front of him, somehow keeping track of movements made by those around even after passing by them. He saw the hero standing back because it was dangerous to approach the explosive monster. Explosions. Midoriya noticed those explosions and how they reminded him of a certain someone. He swiftly walked through the crowd, finding the narrow spaces while moving swiftly until he reached the front row and saw the look on the boy's face. The one who was being chalked just like Midoriya was a few minutes ago was Bakugo. He locked his new red eyes with the boy's eyes, seeing only fear and despair on his face, instantly running towards the villain, jumping over a sign, not even realizing what he was doing. He is going to die and everyone is just watching, waiting for another hero to save the day. You are all pathetic, you call yourselves heroes. He approached, barely aware of the screams coming from behind, telling him to stop. He was focused on the sticky villain, who saw his advance and tried to blow him with a direct blast, but he just stepped aside, dodging the heat. What the hell, that was too easy. He threw his backpack directly in the villain's face, which made him let go of Bakugo's face, allowing the boy to breathe again. Deku, why? It looked like you were asking for someone to help you. Midoriya saw the villain's left arm coming his way and dodged the explosion again, feeling the hot vapor against his face, but everything was so calm that he wasn't feeling pressured at all. However, he noticed something alarming. He was getting strangely tired, as if his whole body was getting too heavy for him to handle. His breathing getting out of control, and his legs starting to drag. He kept dodging and throwing anything he could pick up from the ground directly at the villain's eyes, making him unable to focus on Bakugo. After a close call, where he got a small burn on his left wrist, he turned to the crowd and shouted, "For how long are you going to keep watching? Do you call yourselves heroes?" He was almost at his limit. He just discovered this new power and was already fighting a monster with Bakugo's power, yet he was holding his own for more than 5 minutes and nobody lifted a finger to help. Suddenly, he felt a presence that was going to grab his arm and instantly withdrew it when he was about to be touched. He saw a hand close on thin air and heard the same familiar voice talk something about lessons, but he wasn't paying attention to those empty words anymore. They meant nothing to him now. All Might blew the villain towards the sky with such force that a tornado was created, and a few seconds later it started raining. Midoriya finally could rest, so he sat on the sidewalk still feeling his body fatigued. What was going on? He looked at his arms and legs, and after a quick analysis of what happened, he concluded that he was still seeing everything with that distorted eyesight. He understood then he needed to stop his power, he needed to turn it off because it was draining his energy too fast. But how could he stop that? He tried closing his eyes and concentrating. But the answer simply popped inside his mind. He just needed to want to turn it off. So he did, and after opening his eyes again, the world came back to normal, the pressure instantly getting off his body. He looked around and saw Bakugo, who had fainted a few seconds ago, sitting as well, being praised by some pro hero because of his toughness and his quirk. But he just looked down, not bragging as usual. "Yay, you're the one that got saved by me. Maybe if I had killed myself today as you suggested, you would also be dead by now." Midoriya just noticed that a pro hero was trying to scold him about being reckless, so he grabbed his bag, getting up, and after looking directly at the pro hero Death Arm's face, said without any fear or insecurity for the first time in his life, "Someone was in danger, and there were no heroes available, so I did what I thought was right. Now if you excuse me." He walked away from a perplexed hero and was pierced by Bakugo's stare. The moment he passed by the perimeter tape, he saw the place where the number 1 hero was giving an interview. He looked at him, feeling a new kind of feeling. It wasn't rage, it was a feeling he never experienced before, something that caused a sensation of betrayal. All Might felt the urge to look back and their eyes met for a second. What All Might saw there made him stop his interview mid-sentence and wonder. His eyes just changed color, didn't they? Crossroads. Coming back home, Midoriya remembered how he spoke to Death Arms at the scene of the fight. He spoke like that to a real pro hero. Also, the way he shouted before that, towards the others, that wasn't like him at all. He never considered himself to be explosive, but everything that happened today made him a roller coaster of emotions. He wanted to apologize like he usually did, but this new feeling of anger prevented him from doing so, which made him not entirely sure if he was sad or not. In a part of his mind, he could stop finding that feeling liberating. He heard someone coming from behind him and turned. Quirk. Well, I guess it could take some time to get used calling him by his name. Hey, Deku. Midoriya was about to ask what he wanted, when Bakugo just harshly spoke with his fists closed, looking more insane than ever. I never asked you to save me. As if you could even help me. I could have beaten him myself, how dare a quirkless Feilu. Before he could keep the insults, he looked at Midoriya's face and froze. His facial expression was wrong. He looked unaffected by his words, even bored. Nothing even close to his usual I am about to cry face. Yay, you really didn't ask for me to help you, but you're welcome anyway. And I didn't save you, All Might did. If you could beat the villain by yourself, I guess we'll never know. As for the last part, Midoriya closed his eyes for 1 second, switching his power on, feeling nothing but pleasure seeing Bakugo's thunderstruck face as he looked into Midoriya's eyes. You got your quirk, so fucking what do you think changing your eyes color is some great shit? Don't you dare mock me, you shitty nerd. He shouted the last insult and turned, walking away and leaving Midoriya sighing. I need to go home so I can research something about eye-related powers. I can't waste any time since I have only 8 months to the UAS admission exam. I need to figure exactly what this power is before going there. I guess I'll let Mom know today as well. He was already walking again, an involuntary smile on his face when he imagined his mother's reaction to the news. I am here. All Might just stormed out of an alley, blocking the boy's passage. I found you, Shaonan. Good. Midoriya just looked at him with a strange feeling of deja vu. Shaonan, I came for you so I could make a proposal. You see, if I hadn't heard your story, if I hadn't witnessed with my own eyes, I would be nothing but fake muscles and insincerity. Fake muscles, insincerity, what Midoriya thought while trying to make sense of his words. I'll show you, but don't post on the internet or something like that, okay? After saying that, he disappeared in a cloud of dense steam and a skeletal man appeared with the same clothes he was wearing. Oh, that was all Midoriya could say. I am sure you, as a fan, also sees me as the symbol of peace, but the truth is that I'm not what I used to be. This is my real form. What you saw was nothing more than an illusion. I do that every day. I use my muscular form as if I was wearing a costume, just like those swimmers who puff their chest trying to look imposing. I got seriously injured during a fight 5 years ago and lost my stomach and most of my respiratory system. The surgery was tough and now I can't perform my hero job as a full-time activity. Midoriya was just staring at him and at the scar he was showing, but instead of being shocked by all that and by the impressive scar, Midoriya was remembering something that happened this afternoon. I couldn't help but feel inspired by you. Someone who, for all purposes, doesn't have a quirk, was the one who acted. It will spurred me to action. Most of the top heroes show signs of greatness even as children. Many of them claim that their bodies simply moved before they could think. That's what happened back there with you, right, Shaonan? I can say for sure you can be. Let me stop you for a second, All Might. While the wind brushed leaves all around, messing the boy's hair, All Might's smile slowly faded away as he looked inside the boy's eyes. Midoriya knew what his next words were going to be, so he stopped the number 1 hypocrite hero. I imagine this wound to be related to your fight against Toxic Chainsaw 5 years ago, right? I don't know the exact extent of your injuries, so I can't say for sure which were your motives. What I'm trying to say. He took a deep breath and continued. After we talked today, and you told me I couldn't become a hero, you said that a pro hero always has to be ready to risk his life, didn't you? I did, but I don't know how, but after all those things you said, somehow, I miraculously awakened my quirk. Well, that's amazing, Shaonan. Today, although I cannot completely control it yet, I got a glimpse of what it can do, and what it can do is allow me to examine things very well. I can see a lot of details in a very short period of time. Could you guess what I saw today? All Might saw that something was different on the boy's face. It was nothing like the face he made when they first met back there. He was blushing and smiling, reacting like a fanboy, but now he just looked sad and disappointed. I couldn't know, Shaonan. The funny part is if you never showed me this form of yours, I would never know. I saw everything. All the heroes standing while the villain tried to take control of Kaken's body, all the people in the crowd. Mount Lady, who instead of shrinking to get to the fight faster so she could use her quirk after getting there, preferred to play dumb and watch. All the pro heroes who remained still while all they should have done was to work together. Somehow, I can remember all their faces, including the faces of every person in the crowd, and at the moment I passed through them, I saw you. I saw you next to a light pole. However, back there, you were just a random citizen to me, because you were in this form. But now I understand that you were there the whole time deciding if you should help him or not, deciding if you should let him get killed or not. All Might's face showed surprise as he saw the boy walking again passing by him. He wanted to explain the situation, but the boy spoke louder, looking over his shoulder once. I won't tell anyone about you in this secret, so don't worry. Thank you as well. If it wasn't for our encounter, I would still be the same naive person I was. All Might couldn't help but worry about that boy. Something was definitely wrong there. Sharingan, did something happen to you? You seem way different from our first encounter. I guess my power is not the only thing that awakened today. The name is Midoriya, by the way. Midoriya Izuku. Do not forget that. The fiercely thought. He never looked back as All Might just watched the boy disappear at the next corner, wondering what exactly awakened today besides his quirk. The moment Midoriya arrived home, he saw a note from his mother on the table, saying she went out to buy groceries and would be back soon. He went straight to the bathroom and looked into the mirror. He didn't spot any changes on his face, so he tried a few things. First, he tried to activate his power with only one eye, but nothing happened. Then he tried to activate his power without closing his eyes, and as he was looking at the mirror from up close, he felt like the mirror started to shrink. As the same effect from earlier happened again, but he didn't close his eyes this time and saw his iris becoming red. The red was too vivid, so vivid that he noticed his eyes were slightly glowing, allowing him to see something around his pupil which became strangely small. He leaned closer and saw one black dot outside his pupil with the shape of a comma or a swirl, like a mark or something, making a diagonal alignment with his pupil, like two black dots. He didn't remember having any markings on his eyes, but he left that question for later. He took a step back and saw how the red didn't fit his face at all, but he couldn't despise his amazing power. No matter what it was his, and he would find a way to turn it into the greatest quirk ever. He heard his mom arriving. "Izuku, you're home." "Here, I'm coming," he said, switching off the red and seeing the familiar green take its place. Inko threw a small dinner party to celebrate her son's new power and his decision to apply for the UA Academy. Hours later, Midoriya was in his room, typing and clicking like a madman, his face too close to the computer screen as he desperately tried to find any information about his power, but nothing popped out. His room, which was excessively full of All Might's toys and posters, had just one gigantic box now, with all of it stuffed inside. After taking everything off, looking at the clean walls and shelves, he felt something odd. A strange feeling, like he had won something, not lost. In front of his computer, he let out a sigh and pushed himself away from his table, making the chair move, ending in the middle of the room while looking at the ceiling. It can't be. He closed his eyes for some time, thinking while leaning back in his chair. He looked at his clock on the nightstand a few minutes later and saw that he had been at it for almost 5 hours and still, nothing relevant appeared. He then started muttering, tipping his finger on his chin. "I can't believe ocular powers are so rare. There has to be more, right?" The sole example known as UAS teacher Aizawa Shotoak. I'll erase her head. "Even after narrowing my power to the emitter type, I still can't find any examples of ocular powers that enhance the senses. Most of them are physical powers that belong to the transformation type." Midoriya stopped and went back to his computer, trying another type of search. He tried to go for the broad terms. He typed red eye, ocular power, enhanced senses in the search bar and got a bunch of fake red eye contacts, a few strange Googles linked to cosplay, and even a guy who was probably trying to sell drugs. Nothing made sense until he found a store's website called The Old World. He clicked and saw that was an antique store selling vases, amulets, books, and more. He kept scrolling, and right before he decided to close the tab, he saw a picture of the insides of the store and opened it in a new tab to zoom in. The picture showed the store and he could see a frame with an oil painting being displayed, but what caught his attention wasn't the painting itself but the eye color of the people displayed in it. All the people displayed in the painting had either red or white eyes, and that couldn't be a coincidence, right? Midoriya wrote the address. It was almost out of town, but he still needed to check it anyway since that was the only lead he had for now, but it was almost daybreak, so he decided to get some sleep and find some answers later on. He started closing tabs and the last one was from today's news. He took a minute looking at his slightly blurred face again and the article's title, "Unknown Middle Schooler Helps Pro Heroes Defeat Criminal." He closed the tab and jumped on his bed, unable to stop the smile spreading on his face. "I didn't do that to help them, I just did what I was born to do." Across the city, the TV was broadcasting the same story, but the two people watching weren't looking at the title or to the villain's face. They were more interested in the part where the teen shouted to the trashy heroes. "What an interesting kid," Shigaraki Tamura said while narrowing his eyes. "Yes, interesting indeed," Kurogiri recognized, pausing the TV at the moment the boy looked at the crowd, his red eyes glowing, full of rage. What it was and what it can be. The school was chaotic the next day since all of a sudden, Midoriya was a celebrity. Somehow, people discovered that Bakugo was the one who was held hostage and that Midoriya was the one who saved him. Bakugo looked like he was going to have a stroke, but kept his mouth shut all the time, perhaps because of what happened yesterday or maybe because of Midoriya's response to all the attention he was getting. Midoriya knew that most of those who came trying to pat him on the shoulder, shake his hand or even exchange cell phone numbers, were the same people who laughed at him a few days ago after the teacher asked if he applied to go to the UA. Now, just because he made it into the news, they all suddenly liked him. That made him even more aware of how nasty people could really be. He didn't shake anybody's hands, didn't leave any open body language that could indicate they were allowed to touch him, and said his number was exclusively for family and close friends. To the few that treated him like a normal human being before, he explained without giving major details about what happened and about his quirk. Lunch hour finally kicked in and he almost ran out of class. He made his way to the roof using an alternative route, away from the corridors where even students from other classes were trying to see him. The boy with an unknown quirk who saved the great Bakugo Katsuki while fighting side by side with All Might. As far as delusions and rumors go, their delusions were getting a little out of proportion. He arrived at his usual spot on the roof, in a corner protected of the sunlight, and started eating his bento, but after just a few seconds, he stopped the chopsticks halfway to his mouth and asked as if someone was there with him. "For how long are you planning to stay there?" Looking at me like a creep, he started chewing again, as an indistinct shape passed by and landed by his side. "Now that you got your fucking quirk, you're talking big, huh? Maybe I should teach you a lesson about how changing your eye's color isn't a fucking quirk at all, just a fucking joke." "Please, go ahead," Midoriya said, still eating, pissing off Bakugo, who heated his right hand, spinning his body to make a swing, but when his palm was about to touch Midoriya's face he deviated, creating a small explosion towards the wall, followed by a tiny smoke screen that blocked his vision of Midoriya's expression. When the smoke vanished, he expected to see his red eyes again, but just saw the green-haired boy staring at him with his eyebrows up, still chewing. "Are you finished? I want to eat in peace, Kaken." Bakugo got straight and instead of leaving, leaned on the wall next to where Midoriya was sitting, his arms crossed on his chest, asking, "How did you fucking know I was up there watching you?" he asked with a different voice, still aggressive, but with a lower tone, more controlled. "Well, this is new," Midoriya thought. "I just knew. I felt your presence, I guess." "That's too vague, Deku. What exactly is this shitty quirk of yours, huh? I got it for one day and you already expect me to know everything about it. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll let you know firsthand when I do, don't worry." "Oh, is that a fucking threat? Deku, are you trying to pick a fight with me?" Bakugo said, smirking, and his hands started sparkling. Midoriya had finished his bento and after brushing the dust off, stopped in front of Bakugo, saying, "Not at the moment. Don't take too long or you'll be late." He went back inside, leaving Bakugo alone, asking himself who the fuck was that and where did the real Deku go? Damn nerd. While going downstairs, Midoriya felt the adrenaline running through his body. He could finally stand his ground against Bakugo, his hands weren't shaking, he didn't feel fear, he didn't even feel troubled when he was attacked. He passed by a window and saw his reflection, surprised to see a smile on his face when he didn't even notice he was smiling. This is the best. It was almost nightfall when Midoriya arrived at his destination. He had to take the subway and 2 buses to get here in this remote area. He saw the store from the internet ahead and picked up the pace, thrilled by the remote, yet real chance to discover the secret about his powers. He got in and was greeted by an elderly man. "Mace." Midoriya started wandering inside the small shop, looking for the painting on the walls, but after seeing nothing, he went back to the cashier, asking, "Excuse me, sir. Good evening. My name is Midoriya Izuku and I saw a painting on your website, but I can't find it here. It was some kind of family portrait where they had red and white eyes. Would you possibly know where it is? And why are you looking for that specific painting?" Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya didn't want to talk about his quirk with a stranger, but lying was also uncomfortable, so he just omitted part of the truth. "I wanted to see it from up close and buy it, but if it was sold, there's nothing I can do." He waited and the old man just smiled. "You'll have to do better than this to convince me. If you want someone's help, you shouldn't lie, it's just rude. Tell me what you really want with that painting and I may still help you find it." Midoriya pondered for a few seconds and decided to tell him the truth. It wasn't like he was going to be mad after knowing, right? Also, it looked like this man knew a few things if he was fishing for information like that. "It's about my quirk. My quirk awakened yesterday and I couldn't find any information about any similar power anywhere else. After I saw the portrait online, I came here to check if that portrait has something to do with me." "And why would that be the case? Why would this portrait have anything to do with you?" The old man waited for Midoriya's answer with an educated smile. "This is the only place where I saw something similar, precisely on that painting." The man just raised his eyebrows and he signed, giving up on the evasiveness, briefly closing his eyes, activating his power. The old man's eyes almost popped out when he saw the red glow, asking with a weak voice, "It can't be, you must be joking. How, what's your name again, boy?" Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya was also a little jumpy because of his reaction but kept his cool, seeing something on the man's expression change. He looked away and back at the man, seeing a grim flash through his face and hell broke loose. The old man, who was probably 70 or something, jumped over the counter while delivering a rounded kick, which was dodged by Midoriya. The poor boy didn't know what to do right now. He put some distance between him and this crazy geezer, noticing he knocked down some bookshelves when dodging the first kick. "Ojiasan, what the hell are you doing?" The old man just lunged at him, with a storm of punches and kicks, forcing Midoriya to dodge the incoming assault, knocking a couple of boxes and vases on the way. Midoriya was trying to understand how in the world he was so fast and what kind of style was that. Also, if he should engage before his energy ran out again, or if it would be wrong to hurt an elderly person, even if he was attacked first. Before he could decide, the geezer stopped and said while panting, his expression showing surprise as if he had just seen a ghost. I can't believe it, Midoriya Izuku. Right now I must give you 2 choices. These choices will dictate how your life will progress. If you choose wrong, you'll die a very miserable death, full of anguish and despair. Now, knowing there are only 2 paths ahead of you, would you like me to give you these choices, or would you rather leave this place without this burden? Consider your position carefully, because once you know, you won't be able to leave this behind. Is this a joke, a scam? It doesn't look like one, but I have a terrible feeling about this. Even so, I can't turn back now. Maybe he really knows something about all this. Here, what will you do when I answer? Hello, don't worry, I won't attack you anymore. Okay, then I would like for you to give me the choices, sir. First, sorry about that, I had to be sure that you never mind, follow me. Midoriya saw him moving around the store and began to lift the bookshelf he knocked down, but the geezer just said leave it as he walked towards the entrance of the shop. He went to the glass and turned the sign to closed, turning the lock, walking back fast-paced towards the back, where he pulled 3 books from a shelf, starting a gear noise. Suddenly, the bookshelf moved out of the way, revealing a hidden door and a staircase to a lower floor. Midoriya was a little reluctant to follow the crazy man downstairs, but he had to know the truth. They walked down a spiral staircase too quickly, and once or twice, Midoriya had to grab the man by his shoulders to prevent him from falling all the way down. Maybe that brief fight they had left him a little off balance. We're here, boy, get the lights on your left. Right there, on the wall. As soon as Midoriya switched the lights on, he saw an enormous oval room with bookshelves within all its extent. Between the bookshelves, he saw numerous paintings, and on the far right side, he saw something that reminded him of an operation room, isolated by plastic walls, a table on its center. Once he noticed that, he felt a shiver. I guess it wouldn't be a terrible idea to leave it on. I still can't see this man's true intentions, so I should keep my guard up. Midoriya thought after a quick look around, switching his power on. He then noticed the man coming closer, asking while looking into his eyes. How do you activate it? He was with his hands behind his back, an excited look on his face. Midoriya couldn't decide what he should do or what he should tell, but the man said as if he could read his mind. You are free to leave if that's what you want. You chose to come down here by yourself, so don't worry, I won't try to hurt you. I couldn't, even if I wanted to. Midoriya pondered that for a few seconds, deciding that his words made sense. He turned his power off again and answered the question. The first time the power turned itself on and the first time I had to turn it off, I just felt inside my mind. I don't know how to explain it. It was like closing your eyes, but you don't actually close your eyes. You feel some kind of imaginary second pair behind the first and you blink them so they can turn off. I don't know if that's the best explanation, but it's the only one I can think of right now. Now, I just use this blink when I want to turn it on and off and the quirk obeys. It's like you're telling your power to start and to stop. When I was a child, I was told my quirk was always here, but they couldn't classify it as an emitter, transformation, or mutant type. Yesterday I was talking to someone and I suddenly felt a headache. After it happened, my eyesight became blurred and my perception changed, my iris becoming red. Somehow I miraculously got my quirk some kind of sense enhancer. And this person you were talking to, is this person still alive? Midoriya wondered why would he ask something like that. What a strange question to make. Yes, he is alive. Why? So, did this person physically or emotionally hurt you? Why was he asking those kinds of weird questions? It was like he knew what All Might did. Yay. How do you know that? He answered, remembering again how All Might's words destroyed his hope and broke his spirit for a few minutes. I can't believe it. I can't believe that after all these centuries, you suddenly were born with it. That's unbelievable. I'm sorry, Oji-san. I can't keep up with you. You're talking about my quirk, right? Midoriya-kun, it's time to tell you the choices I mentioned before, and don't worry, you don't need to give me an answer, but you have to understand what they mean to you. Before we start, allow me to introduce myself properly. I'm Hirotaka Shinji. Please, take a seat. He indicated a chair next to a table to the left, and as soon as they got closer to it, Midoriya saw the painting he was looking for hanging on the wall behind the table. It was bigger than he thought, and as he analyzed the people displayed, he felt a chill. A woman with white hair and long ears that reminded him of rabbit ears. Her eyes were white and Midoriya looked at her face for a few seconds before moving on. Below her and slightly in front, there were 2 young men. One with red hair and the other with white hair. Below them, there were 2 boys, slightly towards the red-haired one, both with black hair. Midoriya realized he was holding his breath because he couldn't take his eyes off the boy to the left. His eyes were red, just like his. He felt startled when Shinji said in a low voice, "Yes, the Moon family tree." "Your family tree, boy? What do you mean my family tree? Are you telling me not way? Am I somehow related to them? Who are they?" Midoriya was a little anxious, but the geezer just sat with a gentle smile and indicated he should do the same. He then started, "Do you like old tales, Midoriya-kun, the ones about our past?" "I don't know. I never heard many, just a few when I was little and the ones we learn in school. I would like to tell you one that is called The Myth of Creation. It may seem long, but bear with me." He cleared his throat and began. "Our tale begins before creation itself. Before anything existed, 3 gods appeared on the high plane of heaven, Amenamenikanashi, Takamimusubai, and Kamimusubai. Somehow, these gods started to use their imagination to create the cosmos and the motion of the universe, and after an immeasurable amount of time passed, they created new versions of themselves, until 7 generations of new gods came into existence. This 7th generation was a special one. The 7th generation consisted of 2 deities, the male god, Izanagi, and the female goddess, Izanami. Those 2 received the task to make a form of the chaos that was Earth by the elder gods. They started trying to create things, seeking to have children, but after failing twice, they felt something was wrong with them. Their failure showed up in the form of their children, who were born without arms, legs, eyes, ears, and most organs. They decided to send their children on boats down a river so they could meet death and rest, while they turned to ask the elderly gods what was wrong with them. The gods explained that the reason for their failure came from their own minds. When they started trying to create their children, they wished for distinct things. Izanagi asked for a strong boy, while Izanami asked for a smart girl. The inconsistency coming from both of them resulted in a child without any of the traces they couldn't agree on. After being instructed by those elderly gods, they finally achieved what they wanted. Their children were born and became the islands that are now Japan. From Izanami, the gods who were to shape this earth were born: the god of the wind, the god of the forest, the god of the trees and mountains, the god of the sea and other natural manifestations. On a faithful day, Izanami gave birth to the fire god, Kagetsuchi, and as he left her body, she was burned to death, making Izanagi so enraged that he murdered his newborn son. From their bodies, various other deities were also born. Izanagi, unable to forget Izanami, traveled to the underworld in a desperate attempt to retrieve his beloved, but once he arrived in that strange place, he found himself lost in the darkness. After days of wandering, he finally found the shape of a mansion, and outside, he found her. The place was so dark that, even from up close, he wasn't able to see her face. He asked her to return with him to the world of the living, but she answered that she couldn't return with him to the world of the living, because she had already accepted her fate and ate food from the underworld, binding her to that place forever. Seeing Izanaga's despair to that situation, she promised him she was going to ask for permission to leave the underworld to the lord of that land, and that he should wait there for her to return. She told him to not look for an at her. Days passed by, and Izanagi grew impatient, ending wandering again. He entered the mansion, looking for her, and once he found his beloved, Izanagi approached from behind her, desperate to see her face one more time. He took a comb from her hair, lighting it ablaze. She turned and he saw that her body and face were rotten, full of maggots and wounds. Lightning demons were clinging to her body and he desperately fled after seeing her appearance, being chased by the demons under her command. She became enraged by the shame of being seen in that form. He managed to escape from that place and used a giant rock to seal the entrance to the underworld, leaving her behind for eternity. Then Izanami, who once was the goddess of creation, became the goddess of the underworld or the goddess of death. After Izanagi returned, he found himself impregnated with darkness, so he decided to clean his body, to purge all the evil energy from that place, and as he washed his face, 3 new gods were born. From his left eye, the goddess Amaterasu, goddess of the sun and the day. From his right eye, the god Tsukuyomi, god of the moon and the night. From his nose, the god Susanoo, god of the seas and storms. Izanagi then stated that these 3 gods would reign over the high plane of heaven, labeling them as the most extraordinary gods ever created. He paused and Midoriya snapped out of this tale like he was brought back to the present. I wanted you to know how these 5 deities came to be. They are important to your past and future, Midoriya. The boy just waited in silence, his hands slightly sweating as Shinji resumed. The relationship between the 3 siblings was never perfect. One time, Susanoo killed a priestess from one of Amaterasu's temples, making Amaterasu hid in a cave in sadness, leaving the world in complete darkness for a long time. Susanoo then apologized by gifting her a weapon, which she accepted alongside with the apology, but as she received the gift, she also swore that their relationship would never be as deep as before. That's the reason the sunlight can only go to a certain depth of the sea, and the reason storms block most of the sunlight. Tsukuyomi, who was married to his sister, Amaterasu, once attended a feast held by the goddess of food Yukmachai on behalf of his spouse. After arriving, Tsukuyomi watched the goddess create their feast. He became horrified as he saw the goddess spitting rice and fish from her mouth while pulling food from her other orifices. He was so repulsed by her methods that he instantly killed her. After Amaterasu learned what happened, she was horrified, using her power as a ruler to label her husband an evil kami, unworthy of returning to the high plains of heaven, condemning him to pursue her across the sky for eternity, resulting in the cycles of day and night that separated them forever. Tsukuyomi had a large number of children, and after a few generations, a few individuals from his bloodline became obsessed with the precept of heavenly power, wishing to use their blood to become gods. They named themselves the Moon Clan. Shinji took a few breaths and Midoriya wondered if he was okay. Sorry, our fight from earlier left me a little out of breath. It has been some time since I exercised that much. Now, continuing with our tale, we move to the second part of our story, the tale of the bamboo cutter. He leaned on the table and started again. Centuries after the birth of the Moon Clan, humanity finally came to be. One day, a couple that was returning home heard noises coming from the forest, wandering for some time until they found a girl trapped inside a bamboo trunk, and with her, they found pieces of gold. The couple, that wasn't capable of bearing children, decided to take her as their daughter, taking her and the treasure to their village, where she was raised as one of their own. She grew beautifully, being courted by all the powerful men from Japan, including the emperor himself, who she rejected, just like she rejected all the others. Every night people could see her looking at the moon while crying, but when asked, she didn't know the reason for her tears. One night, the village is awoken to see people coming from the sky to take her back, claiming they were her people and she was their princess. They said she was sent to Earth to be protected from a heavenly battle, and the gold sent with her was meant as payment to the humans for her stay. She was taken and never returned. Her name was Kaguya, Princess Kaguya. What they didn't know was that Kaguya, in her time on Earth, had found something. Shinji got up, walking to a nearby door, disappearing from the view, returning a few seconds later with a bottle of water and 2 cups. He filled a glass and, after drinking, continued. Sorry, where did I stop? Yes. On her time on Earth, Kaguya heard tales about some forbidden fruit. Humans said the fruit came from a sacred tree, and that eating would mean damnation to anyone. She heard tales from others about how the fruit was cursed, but she went and ate it anyway. After eating the fruit, instead of dying, she developed incredible powers connected to nature, being able to create and manipulate a new kind of energy that represented the life of all beings. Later, that energy came to be known as chakra. The woman you see in the painting is exactly who you think she is. She is the Princess Kaguya. Midoriya was slowly shaking his head, disbelieving everything he just heard. That's impossible. You're telling me I'm a descendant of a goddess? This isn't a manga or a novel, this is the real world. Are you for real, Ojiasan? Yes, this is the truth, and our tale still hasn't reached its peak yet. Listen. He placed his hands on the table and resumed. Kaguya originated the chakra, or the vital energy of all the human individuals, and this energy could be manipulated by a few of these humans after intense meditation and training. These special humans destined to control and manipulate the chakra were named shinobi. You probably saw a representation of them in movies or books, I'm sure of it. These people learned how to manipulate the energy to the extent they could also create and manipulate natural powers, such as wind, fire, lightning, water, light, darkness, earth, between others. They were the legacy Kaguya left behind, but she had another secret. She also left 2 more secrets behind. 2 sons, 2 boys that she created after eating the fruit, using her goddess ability. After their mother's disappearance, they grew apart from each other, parting ways at an early age. The one with white hair inherited the first ocular power called Bakugo from his mother Kaguya, becoming the founder of a clan named Hyuga. His descendants inherited the ocular power as well. The Bakugo allowed them to see through objects and long distances, see chakra inside people, and have a 360 field of view around their own bodies. This power had further evolutions, but all information past this point was lost. He pointed to the other brother on the painting. The one with red hair had 2 sons who were named Indra and Asura. Those 2 started a curse between them, a curse that affected all their descendants, leading them to always end up fighting and eventually killing each other. Indra was the one who inherited the second ocular power from his grandmother Kaguya, called Sharingan. He created a clan named Uchiha, and his brother created the clan named Senju. For centuries, their sons and grandsons died in battle against each other until 2 of them somehow broke the curse. Their names were lost throughout the ages, and the only thing remaining from them is a sword that was supposedly wielded by the Uchiha brother and a white cape with the word 7th on it that was used by the Senju. Midoriya was stunned by this crazy story. He looked at the painting again. His eyes locked on Kaguya until he reached Indra. No one knows exactly how or why, but the shinobi were extinct, so the few people who knew their true story remained and made a vow to pass that information to the new generations, so they would never be forgotten. Nowadays, this is all nonsense or just a fairy tale to tell children, but centuries ago, all of this really happened. The living proof is right here in front of me. The last known Uchiha was a woman who became the chief of her village. I believe the term they used isn't chief but kage, that means shadow, a title offered to the one responsible for leading their shinobi village. Her name was also lost. The only information is that she wore glasses. But if this happened years ago, why is this happening to me now, and why is this my quirk? After all this, Midoriya-kun, I have a theory that could be wrong, but I believe this power you possess, I believe this power is in your quirk. Oh, what are you saying? Shinji-san, I have the joint on my pinky. I'm not saying you don't have a quirk, I'm saying these eyes can't be a quirk. They're an ancient power called Dijutsu, something you inherited from the gods, something holy, something forbidden, and this finally brings us to your choices. Midoriya looked at him again and waited for the worst, after his sudden change of subject. You have what was once called Sharingan, the eye of insight and hypnotism. Those small dots inside your iris are called Tamo. These markings represent the evolution of your Sharingan, and since you currently have 1 Tamo, you can evolve it 2 more times. The exact power of your eyes is unknown to me, but they possess one last written information. The Sharingan is the eye that reflects. His soul. A long time ago I saw a line where someone referred to it as the curse of hatred. They called it like this because the only way to activate your Sharingan is by experiencing loss or stress related to a significant person. The common knowledge in the book said to kill any Uchiha on sight because they're a cursed bloodline. It's written that they're individuals who get stronger by being hurt and losing their empathy and love towards the world and the people. They're destined to become villains, so they must be eradicated. The stronger the Uchiha is, the colder he already became after the things he experienced to achieve such power. That's why I shall tell you this, your bloodline is cursed. You have 2 paths ahead of you, young man. One leading to power, but this path will consume everything you hold dear, including yourself. The other leading to happiness, but this path will leave you weak, and someday, somehow, that weakness may hurt you too. Think carefully about your fate, because this world has amazing powers, but none can be compared to your eyes. Of course that having these eyes don't instantly turn you into an Uchiha. Over 2,000 years passed, so who knows how they mixed their blood and how many new clans were created. You could be something completely new, but as far as history tells, this is the only name we have to specify what your power is. As I can see, the similarities indicate this can only be a Dojutsu. Now, I'll get you 2 items that have been passed in my family for generations. I'll be right back. He left through a small door between the bookshelves, and Midoriya's mind started racing as he got up, approaching the painting. Their predecessors looked imponent, powerful, fearsome, and godlike. What should he do now with these choices? I don't want to be weak, I want to be a hero, someone who can save others with a smile. No. Someone who can save others no matter what. I wonder what will be the cost for me. What am I going to pay for this power if I choose to embrace it? What am I going to become? I don't want to become a villain either. He was lost in thoughts when Shinji returned, placing a small red book on the table and a thin-shaped package covered by cloth, tied with strings. This book is to be delivered to those of the cursed lineage. What they may do with such knowledge is up to them. After saying that, he pushed the book towards Midoriya, who grabbed it and softly touched its cover, which was made of red leather. The second thing, and I don't know the meaning of this, so you must figure it out by yourself. This item is to be delivered to the cursed lineage. What they may do with such item is up to them. He gave the wrapped thing to Midoriya, who undid the knots, revealing a simple but thin sword, long and sharp. What is this sword? So that's what it was. Huh, these markings, I'm sure of it. No one knows if this is true, but some said this is the sword that Indra yielded. Others said it was the sword of the Uchiha brother that broke the curse and achieved peace. And others said it was just a weapon that represents Tsukuyomi and the Moon Clan. Midoriya just nodded, imagining how this weapon could have thousands of years and still look brand new. I don't know how much time I have, and I don't know anything that's written inside this book, so I'm happy that you appeared. They never allowed us to read anything in the books. It was the ultimate law in my family. I won't deny that I tried a few times, but the books never opened. The only ones who can read what's inside are the ones with such powers. The only thing I know is what my parents said to me, and what their parents said to them, and now I'll recite to you. If the time comes when the Dojutsu has awakened again, give the books to the chosen ones and tell them their tale. The books will tell the rest. The red book to the cursed, the white book to the gifted, and the purple book to the reincarnated. If the cursed one turns good, he has the soul of a king. If the gifted one turns good, he has the purest heart and the devotion of his people. If the reincarnated turns good, it would mean salvation to us all. His righteousness will bring the blessings of the gods upon us all. If the cursed one turns evil, he has the soul of his ancestors. If the gifted one turns evil, he has the heart of the devil and the fear of his people. If the reincarnated turns evil, it would mean the end to us all. His hatred will bring the wrath of the gods upon us all. Midoriya felt a shiver after hearing those words. It was like a prophecy. He looked at the time on his watch and got up, wrapping the sword again while getting up. I don't know how to thank you for all the information, Shinji-san. How much do I owe you for the book and the sword? The geezer laughed and grabbed Midoriya's shoulder, walking him towards the stairs. Your ancestors already paid mine, don't worry. Just promise you won't turn evil and it will be enough payment for me. Midoriya was inside the shop again and heard the hidden door closing behind them. If I'm not here and you wish to go inside, the combination for the door are the books, cursed, gifted, and transcended. He pointed to the books and Midoriya nodded again, but didn't understand why would he come back. He helped clean and organize the fallen books, and as he placed his hand on the door handle, the man called and he looked over his shoulder. Get one thing inside your head, Midoriya. Everything I just told you about the curse happened more than 2,000 years ago, and even there, the 2 reincarnated brothers broke the curse and achieved peace. If they took a different path despite the one imposed on them by fate, why couldn't you? This is not as simple as that. I wonder if I'll still be alive to greet the gifted and the reincarnated. Shinji-san, are you the last one of your family? Unfortunately, yes. I can't have kids and normal humans can't handle this kind of sacred knowledge, nor handle these kinds of items. After I'm gone, I guess you're the last one who's directly connected to this world, meaning this store will be yours after I'm dead. Keep it neat, alright. Midoriya just smiled, not noticing the old man was serious, and saying goodnight, he walked away. The man waited for him to disappear to sit on his chair, his expression sinking. I'm sorry, young man, I wish our prophecies were wrong. I wish I could tell you, but sadly, we aren't often mistaken. He took out of his pocket a severed page from an old book where he saw and read what was written centuries ago. If the reincarnated appears first, bow. Your God never died and returned for guidance in this new world. If the gifted appear first, rejoice. The future is bright. He will protect all of his people, even if it costs his life. If the cursed appear first, brace yourself. The darkness inside him may reign over the earth. After getting off the second bus, Midoriya walked, unaware of his surroundings, thinking about the past, the present, and the future. The sword was tied on his back by the strings attached to it and the book inside his hoodie pocket. He wanted to get home so he could read the red book, but he heard something before seeing anyone in front of him. He was a boy of his age, but he was a mutant type. His head was like a crow's or a falcon's head, and something big was behind him, attached to his body. The strange boy looked up and said between his teeth, "Oh, run, I can't control him." The strange being looked like a giant version of the boy's face, like a giant black crow made of dust iron. What was that strange black substance? Midoriya had one insight and understood. That thing, somehow, was made of darkness itself. That quirk amazed Midoriya, his hands moving like he was going to grab his notebook, but he remembered he left it at home. Suddenly the giant beast attacked, but the advance wasn't that fast, so Midoriya easily dodged it, without even having to use his power. That thing was faster at the moment it started the attack but ended it staggering twice. Was that his doing? I guess he still got some control over it, well, enough to slow it down at least. Midoriya quickly analyzed, as the monster turned and advanced again, missing him and colliding against a light pole, bringing it down. This is like a puppet that got out of control. Wait, if you want to stop a puppet, all you need to do is to stop the puppeteer. Midoriya ran towards the boy who was grinning his teeth, which was strange since he had a beak, delivering a high kick to the side of his head, knocking him out cold. He looked at the monster and felt a chill. The giant crow was just standing there, staring at him with a calm expression, his eyes fixed on Midoriya and on what he was doing. That was so creepy that he felt his entire body shiver. The monster then laughed and shouted before lunging at Midoriya again. Yes, I'm finally free, let's have more fun, more fun. Midoriya quickly realized his mistake. This wasn't a puppet at all, this was an independent entity. The monster's speed was at least tripled and he struck a punch to the side of Midoriya's face, who blocked with his arm in the last second, activating his power after being thrown away. He checked the monster for vulnerabilities, but couldn't see any changes he could spot right away. Maybe it was smaller. He didn't have enough time to think about that since the creature came again. But now, he wasn't that fast anymore. Midoriya easily dodged, and after a direct attack, he noticed something. Why is that thing attacking with such a strange pattern? It's like he's dodging from something that's in the way. The dark entity came again, doing the same strange movement, and Midoriya finally understood after dodging once again. That monster won't pass through the light coming from the pole. He's making turns to avoid getting under it, but why wait? If he's made of shadows or darkness, it's only natural that he would be afraid of lights, right? He just passed below the light coming from the pole and instantly retreated. It makes sense. Let me put this to the test. Midoriya took the initiative and lured another attack from the monster, and as he suspected when he entered under the light, the dark being instantly retreated. Okay, I got you. Now, how should I stop you? I need more light. And he saw that the second attack left a broken pole on the ground next to the boy's body and that the light was still on. Midoriya ran towards it, but the monster followed his gaze, understanding what he was trying to do, cutting him off, standing between him and the light pole. But Midoriya threw a feint, breaking his ankles, if he had any, grabbing the piece attached to the lamp, turning toward the beast that screamed and started to gradually shrink, going back to its master's body. The metal was hot and burned Midoriya's hands, but he kept holding the lamp toward the boy for a few more seconds, just to be sure. And after the monster disappeared, he left the lamp on the ground, facing them as he went to wake up the passed-out teenager. Hey, can you hear me? Hey. He tapped his shoulder a few times and held his head while the boy opened his eyes, still foggy. What dark shadow? Stop. He tried to move, but Midoriya held his head while also shouting. Stop, you got kicked in the head, don't move for now, and just wait. That thing has gone back inside your body. How did you defeat Dark Shadow at night? How? By his voice, he sounded impressed. I used light and he retreated. Wait, does it have a name? Yes, he is my quirk, Dark Shadow. My name is Takoyami Fumikage. I'm sorry about what happened. I rarely go out after dark, but as long as I keep under the lights, I'm usually okay. The problem was that those two back there exploded after a circuit was fried and Dark Shadow took over me. Thanks for the help, you saved me. He tried to get up again, but Midoriya explained. Wait just a little bit, I need to immobilize your neck. I kicked you pretty hard, sorry about that. There's no need, look at my neck. Midoriya saw a red choker to keep his neck up and exclaimed while letting go. Takoyami sat and checked Midoriya, who was grabbing his fallen package. What's your name? Oh, sorry. I'm Midoriya Izuku, nice to meet you. Midoriya said while approaching, offering his hand to get him up. Yeah, you too. Takoyami answered, grabbing his hand to get up, suddenly losing his balance for a second, putting his hand on the side of his head. Holy, you weren't kidding when you said you kicked me hard. He blinked repeatedly. I'm sorry, I thought that if you went unconscious, the Dark Shadow was going to disappear. It was a good call, and he would have returned if it was daytime, but at night he turns into a demon, completely out of control, releasing power enough to maintain his form by himself. Wow, this doesn't sound terrifying at all. Oh, damn, it's getting pretty late and I still have a train to catch. I'll be taking my leave. Where do you study? Midoriya. Oh, Aldera Junior High. Fukuoka Daiichi High. So, you're applying to UA next semester. Yes, and I guess you too. How with a quirk as powerful as yours, you should get in quite easily. Speaking of it, you didn't show me your quirk. What is it? Here, I can't really show it to people, I'm sorry. He slightly bowed and Takoyami just shook his head. That's all right, sorry for asking. Well, Midoriya, I hope we meet again on the exams. Good luck and thanks again. Yup, try to keep the things light, will you? He smiled and Takoyami smirked back at his joke. See you around. They turned and slowly walked away from each other. Midoriya stopped and looked over his shoulder, noticing that the boy was making sure to stop under every light for a few seconds. Midoriya checked his phone again and ran towards the subway. Hours later, back at home, he was lying down with his book in hands, deciding if it was really a good idea to open it and learn its secrets. Everything I hold dear. That means my mom. I don't know if this power is going to somehow harm her, or if enemies will try to hurt her, but if I don't get stronger, I won't be able to become the hero I always wanted to be. I won't be able to protect anyone, including her. He then decided to go for it, but the book wasn't opening. What now? He tried to see, but there was no lock. Then he looked at the symbol on the cover and realized it. After turning his eyes red, he tried again and the book opened without resistance. It was all handwritten using a dialect that resembled Japanese, so he tried to read it and guessed the strange kanjis scattered here and there. If you are reading this, it means our blood runs inside your veins. I won't be in this world when this book is found, but I hope this can help you on your journey. I hope this can guide you in the right direction, but remember, destiny isn't written in stone. We all are what we want to be. We become darkness when we allow darkness to enter our hearts. It's your duty as a carrier of our blood, as a continuity of our legacy, to not lose yourself as your predecessors did. You are not a tool. You are not crazy. You are not a demon. You're an Uchiha, so wear that on your heart proudly, and I promise you that everything will be okay. I wish you the best of luck in your path, hoping this can be a beacon to someone in need. 9th Hokage, Uchiha Sarada. The next page displayed a hand drawing of this woman, Sarada. She was beautiful and indeed wore glasses. The next page was too thick, and Midoriya noticed that the page had been folded multiple times. He started unfolding it, and at some point, he thought he was seeing a map. A few seconds later, after opening the page at least a dozen times, he saw a genealogic tree of this family. His family. What, there's a time when only 2 men were alive? How does this mean this one killed the other? Why did he kill the only one who had the same blood as him? Why, oh, he is Sarada's father, Uchiha. Damn, I can't understand this kanji. Well, at least she had more children. 6, huh. He unfolded more parts of the paper but froze when he saw that 27 of them died at once, leaving the clan with only 2 people. He unfolded the last part and felt a strange kind of sadness when he saw the last 2 members, a mother and her daughter, marked as dead. He was tempted to write his name down but refrained himself. He didn't know for sure what he was and if these eyes were just a coincidence or not, but he couldn't be sure that he was from their bloodline. After a few more pages, he stopped as he arrived at the part he was looking for. The Sharingan. Well, let's see. Eye of Insight, yeah, that's the one I've been using all this time. Eye of Hypnotism. The user can inflict confusion on the target after eye contact. The Eye of Hypnotism can be activated at the 2 tomos mark. What in the world is this real hypnotism? If they look in my eyes, I can hypnotize them. I guess I need to check this when I get 2 comas. What is this? 3 tomos will take you to the highest level of the Sharingan. He passed one more page and saw one name that was slightly blurred, but he could still read it. Manjikayo, the evolution of the normal Sharingan towards true power. Okay, how do I get you? How? Oh, here it is, requirements for activation. The next page was torn. He could see that the next 3 pages were torn. Why? What could a Manjikayo be? And why is it so dangerous that even an Uchiha don't want me to use it? He continued to the end and saw 3 severed pages stuck to one another. He could read the titles. The first, Manjikayo Sharingan. The second, Fumetsu Manjikayo Sharingan. The third, Rinnegan. Okay, what now? He decided to start with the first. The Manjikayo is the strongest power of the Uchiha. Alright, show me what you got. He raised the page and started reading. After awakening, the user develops subjective powers, which may differ from other Manjikayo users. The left eye of an Uchiha is focused on ninjutsu, while the right eye on jinjutsu. The eyes can develop distinct paths, or they can be linked to the same power. They can also stray from the common path, appearing on an inverted side. The brothers are the perfect examples. The oldest had Tsukuyomi, one of the most powerful genjutsus that ever existed, capable of reality and time distortion. This power manifested itself on his left eye and the eternal flames of Amaterasu on his right eye, contrary to the usual pattern. The youngest had the eternal flames of Amaterasu on his left eye, and the full manipulation of those flames with his right eye. Being capable of extinguishing the flames, change its shape, intensity, and combine it with another's natural elements, something that was never seen before. Genjutsu was lacking, but his control over the eternal flames was nothing less than perfection, opposite to his brother who lacked control over the flames but had an extraordinary Genjutsu. This example demonstrates how subjective and personal the Manjikayo can be, and how he may stray from what we know. I can't read this kanjis at all. This looks like a novel. I can't believe I'm not reading something made up. Every time I think these are my relatives and that I also have this power, I feel like I'm going insane. There's no way such things like this can exist. The eternal flames of Amaterasu, endless black flames that burn the target forever, can't be extinguished. Tsukuyomi and Genjutsus to hypnotize the target, and what is this now? What? The last and most powerful weapon of the Uchiha is Susanoo, the ultimate defensive ability, which can be evolved until it reaches the perfect balance between offensive and defensive capabilities. The god Shinjusen told me about her all here. Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, so we have the flames, Tsukuyomi, the god of the moon. So we have hypnotism, and Susanoo, the god of the seas and storms, that gives us what fighting capabilities. Okay, it's all well and good, but I want to know, how can I get this Mangekyo? Oh, here it is. To achieve Mangekyo, one must kill the closest person to his, her heart. Midoriya's blood was drained from his face as he read that. He read again, just to be sure he was reading it right. To get stronger, he would have to kill a friend, a person close to his heart, his mother. This can't be. How can something like this exist? This surely is a cursed power, oh my god. He kept reading while feeling nothing but shock. Although the Mangekyo is the strongest weapon of an Uchiha, its use will result in partial, followed by complete blindness. What? The blindness can be reverted by achieving Fumetsu Mangekyo Sharingan. I am scared to even look at what is required to get this. He turned to the second page and looked for the information. To achieve Fumetsu Mangekyo Sharingan, the user must implant both eyes from a close relative, preferably the brother, sister, resulting in the activation of the Fumetsu Mangekyo Sharingan, which can be used at full power, without any limitations. What the H? This is just sickening. I should kill a friend and then rip my siblings' eyes out and implant them on me. What kind of shitty clan is this? He snuck a glance at page 3 regarding the Rinnegan, but the whole page was tainted, so he didn't bother to continue reading, tossing the book aside, trying to sleep without success. The irony of it was amusing. To become a hero, he had to become a murderer. Oh, and he also would need a sibling to get the eyes from, which means he could never achieve the Fumetsu. His options were limited to kill your mother and get blind. He felt trapped, without options. Then an idea appeared, and he grabbed the book, returning to the first pages. Of course, it was so obvious. Where was it? Here. 3 tomos will take you to the highest level of the Sharingan. Continuous use of the normal Sharingan doesn't affect the user's eyesight or the user's lifespan, but consumes a considerate larger amount of chakra, also having less range and intensity on both ninjutsu and genjutsu. If I wanted, couldn't I just go for the regular one? It won't get me blind, I don't have to kill my mom, and I just need to master it and get used to it. The thing is, I won't develop like the others, but killing someone is out of the question. I can't be worrying about this right now. I need to focus on training, and I need to get my 3 tomos. So how do I train these? Oh, here it is. To acquire the second tomo, the user must train awareness, combat, and reflexes while the Sharingan is active, until exhaustion. To acquire the third tomo, the user must train awareness, combat, reflexes, and the use of the Eye of Hypnotism, while the Sharingan is active, until exhaustion. I guess this is my training schedule. I have 8 months to get physically stronger, and to get to 3 tomos, I guess this shall be easy. But he noticed a small note below the instructions. The number of times the user is required to train is relative, varying from one individual to another. The base of each evolution converted from days into hours is the following: 2 tomos 2,000 hours, 3 tomos 3,000 hours. Midoriya threw the book on his desk and started the math on his head. Okay, 80, 81, 82, 83 days to get the second, and 125 days to get the third, making a total of 208 days. This gives me 6, almost 7 months, but that isn't counting the sleep time or the school time. So if I take 8 hours of sleep and 5 to school, this takes me to approximately 2,000 more hours, totaling 7,000 hours, and I barely have 6,000 until the exams. Damn. What if I reduced to 6 hours of sleep and 4 of school by ditching? I would get 1.6, I guess. I would go to 6.6 thousand. Well, that's close enough. Since this could take less time, I need to find any information about how I can improve this training. He regretted throwing the book away as he got up to pick it again, rushing through the first pages until he found the instruction he needed, but there was no hint, so he returned to the basic instructions and found his answer hidden on a side note. The most productive way to maximize tomos is through actual combat experience. Yep, this will do. He smiled and stashed the book inside his drawer with a solid plan inside his head. Tomorrow, I'll begin my path to turn this curse into a blessing. After school time, Takoyami Fumikage was casually walking home. He waved goodbye to a few classmates and was about to turn a corner when he heard someone calling him. He looked over his shoulder and saw the boy from last night, turning to ask, "I wasn't expecting to see you so soon, Midoriya. Why are you here? I wanted to ask you something." Midoriya made a dramatic pause and smiled before asking, his eyes shining. "Since you're also applying for the UA, would you be interested in training with me, so we can crush their exams, Takoyami-kun?" That sounds oddly interesting. All right, you have my attention." The unlikely trio. A security guard heard a loud noise, followed by a minor tremor coming from the old abandoned hangar out of his office's grounds. They told him the hangar wasn't part of his responsibility, but he wanted to check it anyway, so he went toward the building. The noises became louder as he approached, and fearing that a villain could be hiding in there, he took off his radio and spoke in an almost inaudible voice. Sakamoto, 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 God damnit. Yo, don't yo me. What were you doing actually? Never mind. Listen, I heard something inside the old hangar, I'm going to check it. Okay, but why aren't you supposed to guard only the office you're going out of your way on your first week? Just call the cops if I don't answer in a few minutes, okay. Whatever you say, Tanaka. The man named Tanaka walked slowly, hearing the loud noise again, like if someone had just exploded a bomb on the ground, making it shake a little. He took a deep breath before tilting his head to look inside, seeing something that made him frown. Two teenagers were fighting each other inside the hangar. One of them had a giant dark bird attached to his body. This boy was trying to crush the other that kept moving, faster than your average person, with strange steps, as if he had a movement enhancer or a speed quirk. Something about the way he moved reminded Tanaka of how an assassin would move. The abandoned hangar once was part of a giant airport, but after renovation, the runway and most of the hangars were destroyed, giving place to houses all over the place, but this hangar stayed as a deposit and now was empty and abandoned. He didn't want to meddle in their fight since he didn't have a quirk and they weren't really trespassing, but he noticed that what was happening between the two teenagers wasn't a real fight. One of them was dodging while the other was standing still. The only thing moving was his strange bird. To Tanaka, it looked like they were training. Midoriya was dashing around the place, dodging everything Dark Shadow was throwing at him, predicting his attacks that usually left a hole on the ground. He tried to push his concentration to the maximum by dodging everything, from punches to flying debris, while also attacking here and there. After Dark Shadow delivered a right uppercut followed by a left horizontal claw swing, Midoriya backflipped from the uppercut, instantly dashing forward, sliding past between his claws, stopping below him, and predicting his next attack. He dodged to his left with a pirouette, while Dark Shadow spun and struck the place he just stood, sending dust everywhere. Takoyami noticed Midoriya's eyes glowing through the dust and tried to react in time, but it was too late. Midoriya concentrated, looking straight into Takoyami's eyes while whispering, "Moonlight." Dark Shadow returned to his master, disappearing a few seconds later. Takoyami was on his knees having trouble breathing, and Midoriya, realizing what he just did, ran to help him up while turning his power off. "Damn it. Are you okay, Yami? Sorry. I was concentrating too hard. It doesn't matter how many times you use this on me, I cannot get used to it," he said while brushing off the dust and shaking his head. After a few seconds, he asked, "How long do you think this will take?" "Midoriya, I don't want to be the pessimist here, but we are running out of time and options." I know. The time limit I stipulated is almost up. We have only 3 weeks until the exams and I'm still stuck at 2 tomos. It's pathetic." Takoyami frowned. "You must be joking, right? I would not go that far and called it pathetic. You move too fast despite you not having a movement-based quirk. Nothing can touch you when you are using it, and if someone looks directly into your eyes, they are gone. The moment you manage to master the lightning technique that I cannot record the name, you may become unstoppable." "You mean the lightning enhancement? That thing could cut through a tank." It was remarkable. "You're really going to speak like we're in a vintage movie, Yami? Even when there's just the two of us, you do realize it's kind of annoying, right?" "I already told you my reasons." That was all he said, and Midoriya shrugged. "Maybe you should let all of that go and be yourself. You may think that I'm becoming someone else, but this is who I am. I won't pretend as I did before. Not anymore." He looked away and remembered his first middle school year and the desperate need to fit, but the kids pushed him away, afraid of his evil aura, afraid of Dark Shadow, and especially afraid of Takoyami's lack of control over his quirk. He decided to go ahead and embrace his dark side, being true to himself now, understanding that his emotions were the reason Dark Shadow was out of control for all those years. He chose his new philosophy a few months ago when he said after finishing a training day, making Midoriya spit the water he was drinking, "I was always in the darkness, so darkness I shall become." What? Just that confidence was enough to make Dark Shadow stronger. It was as if the acceptance strengthened their link. His new way of speaking was something he always liked to do, but he forced himself to talk like a normal teenager to reduce the differences between him and his classmates. Midoriya recognized that look on his face and regretted making his friend remember those things. "Sorry, I wasn't trying. I know, there's no need to apologize. And is it turning out to be effective? You just witnessed how big he has become, and my control over him has improved marvelously. I wish I had an offensive choice like yours, but it keeps bugging me. Have you ever considered using him as a defense tool?" "How so?" Look, the first thing I thought to myself when we fought the night we met was that you were a summoner or a puppeteer, so the common knowledge stated that if you go down, Dark Shadow goes down as well. This leads us to the problem. Since he's your offensive weapon, his lack of speed retracting back to you is a major problem if you stop to consider it. Imagine that I could just bait you into sending him as far as possible and go right at you afterward. It isn't viable to have a long-range weapon that leaves your body unprotected. Have you noticed how sometimes I can attack him and sometimes my attacks go right through? Why is that?" Takoyami held his beak and looked to the tiny Dark Shadow that resurfaced behind him, looking confused as well. "I control Dark Shadow with my mind, so on the times he attacks using his claws, they indeed become solid, but I don't think specifically about this action. I don't know how his physics works, that's up to you, but how about a way to make him come back faster, or make his limbs stretch, so he could stay closer to you, not having to go too far, or maybe you could even stay inside him, hardening his body, leaving his claws as mobile weapons, like armor with 2 extensible limbs. That would be amazing, but I guess it could have some negative effects such as movement restrictions or energy consumption. I guess you'll need some movement practice using the hardened body first, so you can look for parameters, but you would also be required to check the levels of. He kept talking, now staring at the ground, tapping his chin repeatedly. Takoyami stared in silence as Midoriya started writing on his hand with an imaginary pen like he used to write in his notebook. Takoyami chuckled before sighing. Midoriya, you're at it again. He snapped out of it, putting a hand over his mouth. Sorry I got carried away. Heh. You gave me some interesting ideas, and I thank you, but it will take some time to put them to test. It took me almost 6 months to get full control over Dark Shadow in the daytime and some overnight. This makes me worry that I will be out of high school before I can get this far. I guess you just need to find the way to control the hardening consciously, using it to your advantage. That shouldn't take long. What about your lightning enhancement that time when you applied it to your sword? That was something amazing to see. Takoyami noticed but never asked about his sword or the reason for him to stop training with it. He sure could guess that after some consecutive failures, he gave up on even carrying it with him, making Takoyami think how that was a shame since he was getting dangerously good with that thing. It was as if handling a sword was something natural to him. Wasn't the case today, since he brought the sword and left it aside, next to the wall. I brought it today, I just don't get it. My book specifies that I'm more likely to be compatible with fire, but I can't cast it using the words there. That time with the lightning was just luck. I don't even know how I did it, Shinji-san, and I found and bought a few books that may contain more information about my power. But they're coming from somewhere in the US and a few others from Europe, so I have no other choice than to wait for this information to arrive. And I do realize this is a long shot, but I have to know about what could be my only offensive weapon. We shall. Midoriya stopped mid-sentence and glanced at the door, feeling someone's presence there. He saw a man wearing a uniform. Midoriya elbowed Takoyami to look behind him while the guard came slowly, asking after looking around to all the ground destruction. What are you two doing here and why are you damaging others' people's properties? Hello there, sir. My name is Takoyami Fumikage, and this is Midoriya Izuku. Apologies, but we have been using this place as our training ground for more than half a year, and we did not do any damage to one single structure. Every day we finish by closing the holes with dirt, which also helps get rid of the grass growth, Takoyami said while Midoriya just nodded twice, making the guard frown to his composure and way of speech. Looking at you two, I can already tell you're training for the UA exams, right? I get it, you boys need a place to train, but you two were doing such a fuss that even the ground was shaking. Oh ho, Midoriya thought. We didn't know that. Sorry about the trouble, sir. Listen, we still have 3 weeks to go, and we would like to keep using this place if you allow us. We'll stop the noise, we promise. Midoriya asked, and the man scratched his head before answering. You two look like good kids, but I could get into trouble for this, so just promise me you won't damage anything and keep it quiet. Okay, I'll leave you two to it. Sure thing, thank you very much. Absolutely, thank you. After Dark Shadow got the ground leveled, they headed out, thanking the friendly guard again. A very friendly guy. You're heading home now? Takoyami asked after getting no response from Midoriya, who was looking at his cell phone with a dumb smile on his face. The books are arriving tonight, Yami. They went to the street and fist-bumped each other. Midoriya looked at Dark Shadow's sad face and chuckled, fist-bumping with him as well. Dark Shadow waved as they part ways. Good luck. Be sure to call if anything happens, Takoyami said while taking the opposite direction. Midoriya didn't want to go home, so he decided to take a walk around town until he could go to the bookstore. He started his stroll, his sword on his back inside his shinai case. He was forced to use the weapon because of his weak offensive skill set, but the lightning changed everything. He saw in the Red Book that his predecessors had more affinity towards the fire, but one was mentioned to have an affinity to lightning. This individual and his connection to the lighting were so mysterious that it was written he tamed the lightning, but that had to be a kanji misinterpretation. One day, he decided to give it a try, just for fun, ending up with a sword coated by energy. He felt the tingling sensation on his hand and arm, swinging the weapon, the destructive damage. Unparalleled. Since then, a few months have passed and he tried to repeat the process, but for some reason, he wasn't able to. He even started trying to get mentally stronger by meditating, which didn't solve the problem. It didn't solve the real problem too. The real problem was the third Tamo. The book said he could improve his chakra limit to twice the amount he had right now, meaning double the amount of time he could keep his power active, so according to his math in the records. On the Red Book, he speculated something between 90 and 120 minutes of constant use, double the amount he could use right now. Switching on and off turned out to be the perfect answer to the mind and body stress, allowing him to extend his powers use by picking the right times to apply it. He also decided to name his powers the very first month he started using them. At first, he was tempted to continue with the original name, but ultimately decided that he wasn't going to live in the past, he wasn't going to worship anyone anymore, to copy attacks and names as he did with All Might. He was going to be himself and choose what made sense to him. Ancestors were the people that gave you your traits and peculiarities, but you shouldn't let them dictate your present and future. That's what Midoriya decided after hearing all those tales about curses and fate. Such thing as fate exists only if we believe in it, and if we don't, the choice is always ours. So fate decided that his power was bad cursed. He didn't care, he was the one who got to decide that. Before changing his identity card, he had to provide his quirk specifications and a name for it, so he could either name it himself or have the name chosen by the association, based on its characteristics. After further thought, he called it Crimson Moon, a little trait to his ancestors and where they came from. He bought a cup of carriage and sat on a bench to eat, looking around to the people passing by. Shinji-san told him months ago that all chakra and shinobi were gone from this world, but that wasn't true at all. He followed a girl with his eyes as she passed by. She noticed his stare and blushed, embarrassed after noticing Midoriya's intense glare towards her breasts, but the boy wasn't looking to anything lewd though. After activating the Crimson Moon, he had noticed a faint glow that he could see next to where her heart should be, like a small white flame. Some people had a bigger flame while others had a small one or even none. Midoriya sometimes could see that the flame fed tiny lines towards the whole body, but he couldn't see those very well. Maybe this is what chakra looks like. I should find a different name to it as well. While he was thinking about a name, he saw people chatting at the distance and smiled. One of the cool things he noticed after he got his second Tamo was the improvement in the ability to mimic things. He could mimic movements so perfectly that by doing so, he could actually read lips from afar, since he could just mimic the movement of the target's lips and the words spoken would be mimicked by his lips. He could reproduce an entire conversation as long as he could see the person's lips. So this turned out to be a subtle but useful power he didn't expect to have. He could also mimic hand movements, meaning he was able to know what people were writing as well, but that had fewer applications. He started having some training on the mimic aspect, and to be fair, some fun as well. Of course, I love you baby, don't be silly. Yeah, I'm shopping alone. A girl was on the cell phone while walking hand-given with a dude who had a nasty smile on his face. Well, yay, did you see that shit? That page 9 was awesome. Two boys talking about some manga, he could only see one. Please, hear me out, this world is nothing but a lie. We live inside someone's novel. This isn't the real world, we're trapped here to do his bidding. A guy was trying to speak to everyone passing by. That makes some sense if you think about it. Who am I kidding? There's no way this world isn't real, right? I told you, make a fucking move and you and your family are all fucking dead. Did you hear me? Move, come on, walk faster, you little bitch. Midoriya froze as the words came out of his own mouth, but quickly recovered, getting up without thinking twice, throwing his empty cup on the trash can before following the man and the girl he just saw. They were using hats and sunglasses, and the girl was grabbing her left arm with her right hand. Her entire body was shaking, and Midoriya picked up the pace, spotting the perfect opportunity ahead. When they approached the place, he called out loud, "Is that you, Nkasano? It's really you. How have you been?" They stopped and the girl's eyes almost popped out after they turned. "I am sorry, you have the wrong P." Before she could finish, she noticed the boy's face and his strange red eyes. That look on his face made her lost her voice. He somehow gave the impression that he was some kind of villain, but at the same time, the air around him was reassuring. At that moment their eyes met. She felt in that instant that he knew her name wasn't Inko. This boy somehow knew what was going on. "Oh, I'm sorry, would you perhaps have a sister called Inko? The resemblance cannot be a coincidence," he said while approaching with a friendly smile on his face. The man started looking around, getting impatient, putting pressure on the girl's arm to make her end their conversation, but they already were too close. "No, I'm an only child. Look, I have to G." She looked to the man and they were about to turn, but the man locked eyes with Midoriya and saw his smile instantly vanish. He felt the danger but couldn't react in time. The girl just felt a breeze passing by her face, messing her hair, taking off her sunglasses, instantly making the pressure on her arm disappear. She saw a glimpse of a shoe sole and a noise when the shoe hit the man's face. She looked to her left and saw the man flying deep into an alley which entranced they were standing right now. She turned her head again to look at the boy, but he was gone. She blinked a few times, confused, and looked again to her left, finding him next to the man, already dragging him to an adjacent alley. She then started walking after him, arriving as he was placing the unconscious man next to a trash can, turning to look straight at her. She saw his red eyes becoming green as if the color was being drained. That was fascinating. "Hi, my name is Midoriya Izuku. Don't worry, I know your name is not Inko, it's my mother's name. This may sound weird, but I was eavesdropping your conversation and heard what he was saying to you back there, so I wanted to help. Are you okay? What's going on with you and your family? They're going to kill them. I need to do something." She started pacing while moving her arms around. "Calm down. Explain to me what's going on first so I can help you. Or maybe we can call the Pollock." "No," she shouted, her face becoming white. "Okay, no police, but you have to tell me what's going on before this guy wakes up. My name is Yaoyorozu Momo and I don't have much time left. They somehow entered our house a few minutes ago and then they took my parents and employees as hostages, demanding me to come with one of them to get titles, jewels, and money from our bank deposit. They said that if I refused, they would just start killing people." She was twisting her hands and Midoriya quickly analyzed the situation. "She's right. Police would mean game over. We need to do something. They gave me 1 hour to come here to take the valuables and go back with this guy. That was 10 minutes ago. I live close, please can you help me? Of course I'll help you. Alright, let me think. Do you know anything about the kidnappers? No, they just came out of nowhere, wearing masks and sunglasses disguised as some cleaning company. Damn, if I could get some information about them maybe I could. Of course, Midoriya said under his breath, and the girl looked at him with questionable eyes. He then knelt, shook the fainted guy a few times, and he came to his senses, a little foggy. Why, moonlight, Midoriya whispered, looking straight into his eyes, and the girl frowned to that strange word. The man's gaze locked onto the boy's face, and he looked hypnotized, like a snake being charmed. How many of you are inside Yaoyorozu's house holding people hostage? 11. Yaoyorozu looked surprised by his straight answer. He looked drunk or drugged. Was that a mind control quirk? What about their quirks? How many have quirks, and what are their quirks? Are they armed? 9 have quirks: electronic manipulation, flashlight, fingernails, hardening limbs, metal forehead, communication, interceptor, fire manipulation, gigantic arms, gravity bender, and finger shaping, all armed with pistols. Midoriya was already with his finger on the quick dial to call Takoyami for assistance, but those two with the flashlight and the fire quirk were going to put him in dark shadow at too much risk. Think, damn it, he whispered to himself, trying to focus, while Yaoyorozu was starting to feel worried about the time. 45 minutes left. Midoriya's expression cooled off as he pressed the buttons a few times and placed the phone in his ear, speaking after a few seconds. Hi Mitsuki-san, it's Izuku. Could I please talk to Kaken for a second? Who is it? It's me, Kaken. Listen, I have a situation happening here. Deku, is that you? Deku, why the fuck are you calling me? Midoriya could hear his mom shouting in the background. Watch your damn mouth or I'll kick your ass, Katsuki. Kaken, listen. I'm in an alley next to the West Park, the right side of the commercial district towards the subway. I need your help. How fast can you be here? Deku, are you fucking kidding me? You got some balls to call me and boss me around? I'll kick your ass next time. Katsuki, I'm not joking around. A family is being held hostage and I can't call the police for help. I can't call anyone but you for help. Since you're the only one I have any quirk and combat information about, I need you to come here fast. We have less than 45 minutes until they start killing people. The shock of hearing his name being shouted and the urge on his voice made Bakugo quiet for a moment, so Midoriya repeated. Alley next to the West Park, the right side of the commercial district towards the subway, 44 minutes left. Use your quirk to get here if you have to, please hurry. He hung up and took a deep breath, looking inside the thug's eyes again, speaking out loud now, with resentment on his voice. Moonlight. The thug just stared back and suddenly collapsed, having a small seizure. A few seconds later, he fainted. That should keep him out for a few hours. What is this, Moonlight, you keep saying? Is this your quirk? It's hard to explain, but I guess you can say that. Well, I have a quirk too, I want to help. What can you do? After a small explanation, Midoriya thought about the possibilities but noticed a small, yet relevant detail. Please, don't be offended, but you're too scared right now to get inside. Although your quirk may help us, on a fight against fire weapons you would be more of a liability. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say anything by that. She looked heartbroken, but her hands kept shaking. I'm sorry about this, I just want to help you and your family the best way I can, and right now, this is the best way. She slowly nodded, but Midoriya could see that his words hurt her. Who do I think I am? I can't tell people what they can or cannot do. I'm not. Perhaps, if you could calm down a little, at least enough to think objectively, you can also help us. I know it's a hard thing to do right now, but try to relax so you can save your parents. Being afraid only gets in the way. Her face brightened and became serious shortly after. She nodded twice, her gaze showing resolve. Tell me, can you create bulletproof vests and a one-handed sword? I can do vests easily, I'm used to it, but a sword I guess I can make. A katana, I think I have enough to build a katana. I just need the measurements. Made of steel, right? No, made of pure silver. He looked at his cell phone again. 40 minutes remaining. 15 minutes remaining, and Midoriya lost any hope that Bakugo would actually come, so he looked at Yaoyorozu and said while shaking his head. I'm sorry, I thought I was sure he would come. We should go. We're almost out of time. I'll figure something out when we get there, for now. Boy Deku, don't you dare to make me come all the way here and just leave. I'll kill you, asshole. Midoriya turned back and saw Bakugo, dripping sweat and out of breath. Kaken, you came this is Yaoyorozu Momo. Her parents are being held hostages. Let's go. We'll explain everything to you on the way, Midoriya said while throwing a vest at him. It was already dark when they stopped behind a short wall outside of an immense mansion, trying to look through the windows for any signals of movement. Midoriya forced his power until his head hurt, but he was able to see the faint traces of their energy scattered all around the enormous house. It's a golden palace. Hey, are you some kind of princess? Before she could answer, Midoriya said while grabbing the sides of his head. There are 2 guarding the main entrance, 1 on the roof, 7 on the second floor, inside that room, but 2 of them are sitting on a corner, so I believe these 2 are hostages, which makes 5 enemies, and 3 watching a numerous amount of people over there. On the other side of the house, I guess that's where the employers are being held. How could you know that? Yaoyorozu asked, surprised. My eyes can see quite a lot. She noticed his eyes almost glowing and couldn't look away from his gaze. It was mesmerizing. After a few seconds, she finally looked away and pointed while explaining. That room is my parents' room and that's where our kitchen is. She pointed to the windows where Midoriya saw the enemies. Is there an alternative way to get inside other than the main door? We should just blast all of them. And why the hell are you the one calling the shots to begin with? Bakugo went to grab Midoriya's collar, but the boy slapped his hand halfway. Not now, Kaken. We need to be smart. We need to divide and conquer. I think we should start getting the one in the roof first. He probably is the outside lookout. Then the 2 at the entrance, the 3 with the employee, and the remaining 5 last. Why, Yaoyorozu asked, and Midoriya thought for a few seconds before pointing while walking them through. The lookout is outside to provide information to the ones inside, so he has to go down first or we won't even make it inside. The first 2 at the entrance, because they are further away from both sides, look, they're right in the middle. Then the ones with the hostages in the bedroom last. That was amazing. They won't be able to see or hear one another being taken down. I can't get to the roof without making noise, so what the fuck am I supposed to do? Yaoyorozu, can you handle the one on the roof and meet us inside? Yes, I'll create a grapple gun or something similar. We have 11 minutes. The moment you take him out, we'll storm through the main entrance and you meet us at the hall to guide us around the house. You sure you'll be okay? Yes, I don't even know how to thank you for doing this. Thank us later when we save everyone. Remember what I told you, leave your emotions in check, be analytic and precise, we'll see you inside. She nodded with a determinate look and jumped the wall, sneaking behind bushes, going to the left side of the mansion. Since we're dealing with bullets, let me go first, Kaken. I'm sure I can dodge and deflect in case anything goes south. I already told you to shut the fuck up. I'll blow you up if you keep giving me orders. You prefer to keep being an asshole than listening to me and doing this the safe way. I'm trying to prevent you from getting killed. I won't be the one responsible for telling Auntie you died today, so get a fucking grip. Bakugo felt stunned by the curse leaving Midoriya's mouth and turned his face away, saying TCH, but that counted as a yes at least. Midoriya pointed at the roof access and they waited until they saw an indistinct shape flying there, and after a few seconds, a girl waving her arms. Good job, Yaoyorozu. Now we're up. They rushed through the garden, reaching the front door in a few seconds. Midoriya looked around and found the faint glow he was looking for next to the door to his right, and the other lower to the left, maybe sitting or crouched. He touched Bakugo's shoulder and pointed him to go right and made a gesture with his hand forward while covering his eyes like he was blind. Bakugo understood the call to use his stun grenade and, despite being pissed, switched places and got ready. Midoriya carefully opened his shinai case and took out a beautiful silver katana made by Yaoyorozu, leaving the second one inside. He held it next to his belt and looked at Bakugo, nodding once and turning around. Bakugo kicked the door open, shouting with his arms open, one to each side. Stun grenade. Midoriya, who was already with his back turned, saw only the garden outside, and after the flash, dashed backward, spinning his body middle action as he moved to the left, giving a small glance to the right to see Bakugo hit the thug with a knee to the chin. Upon reaching the blinded guy who was raising his weapon on his left, Midoriya unsheathed his blade, cutting the pistol in two, missing the thug's fingers by inches, instantly placing his free hand on the floor while spinning in the same place, letting his foot go up to the thug's face, who took the hit and stiffened before collapsing. Midoriya started checking the surroundings, but every flame remained in the same place, and he nodded once to Bakugo, who was facing him with a surprised face. Deku, did you just was that a fucking spinning kick? It's called grounded half moon. It's a Brazilian martial art kick. Very effective for quick knockouts. He answered, distracted, looking around and grabbing some TV cables to tie the thugs down. Bakugo kept staring at him, remembering now that in the past last months, he barely saw Midoriya. Even in class, he was really quiet nowadays, and Bakugo realized now that he was very different. He was showing some agility he never saw before. His arms and legs used to be thin but were more muscular now. What the hell happened to him? What in the fuck are you doing learning these things, Deku? They waited for a bit until Yaoyorozu came tiptoeing, waving from the door on the right side of a giant staircase. You were quick. I tied the man on the roof and gauged him. Come, the place they're holding the employees is this way. They walked a lot, and Midoriya couldn't see the white flames anymore, but he kept his power on just in case. When they were about to make a turn, Midoriya noticed a small family portrait facing the incoming corridor and saw in a small reflection that one thug was coming out of the room they were headed, so he quickly checked through the wall and the flames were back. One of those flames were moving, coming towards them. He reached forward and grabbed Yaoyorozu by her waist, just before she made the turn at the corner, and pushed Bakugo back with his left arm, their backs against the wall. While Bakugo was surprised with the strength, Midoriya shoved him aside using his left hand and noticed by his arm that Midoriya had been training his body hard and probably working out too, maybe even more than him. What else did he miss? Midoriya, and Yaoyorozu asked, startled, blushing because Midoriya didn't let go of her while explaining in a whisper. Quiet, there's someone coming out of the room in the next corridor. He's headed this way, but the door is wide open, so if we take him out, the others may see. Oh, okay, she said, trying to ignore the hand, tightly holding her waist. His face right next to hers, while he kept looking through the solid wall. Unfortunately, the thug just stopped outside the room, not giving any indication he was going to move anytime soon, so Midoriya improvised. Yaoyorozu, could you make a fishing line or a transparent, strong string, something barely visible that I can use to bring down that portrait? Yaoyorozu nodded, still very blushed, and Midoriya noticed what he was doing with his right hand, instantly letting go of her. Sorry. He looked back at Bakugo, blushing as well, and the boy was smirking for some reason. Yaoyorozu just shook her head a few times and made the line with her arm. Midoriya made a knot, and after the third throw, the line went around the portrait. He slightly pulled, and the frame fell towards them, landing outside the corridor. They heard a loud male voice. What was that? Just some painting that fell down the corridor, it's nothing. Go check it out, and since you'll be there, go grab some food from the other kitchen, this one is empty. We're in the middle of the job and you want to eat again, can't your fucking fat ass wait till the young lady returns so we can clean house and go get something to eat, a third voice said, and for their surprise it was female. Okay, no food then, but check that noise anyway. The guy outside started coming down the hall and Midoriya pulled them back until they reached the previous turn and told them to wait. The thug turned and saw the frame on the floor, taking a few steps forward into the corridor they were a few seconds ago. Before the two could ask what they were going to do, Midoriya clapped his hands, making some noise, managing to get the thug's attention, making him walk fast-paced towards them. Kaken, don't shout this time or they'll hear us. He whispered and just raised one hand with 3 fingers up, and as the man approached the turn, he started counting down. 3, 2, 1, and he closed his hand, making Bakugo jump over them, letting a knee hit Midoriya's head in the process, blinding the thug, while Midoriya put one hand over his mouth, getting slightly bit, but managing to prevent the criminal from shouting, holding his hand before he could fire the pistol he was holding as well. They chalked him out, tied him down, and went to the turn ahead. I'll get you back for that knee, you fucker, Midoriya whispered to Bakugo, who raised his eyebrows and smirked, surprised by how Midoriya was speaking to him. I can make some flashbang grenades if you want to. Yaoyorozu whispered to Midoriya, and he saw the 2 remaining had their backs on them, so he checked the room with 5 again. It was too close. It will make too much noise. A flashbang isn't just light, it explodes like a real grenade, so the others may hear it, and she nodded, looking apprehensive, and Midoriya spotted an opening, signaling for them to come. While he walked swiftly followed by the two thugs starting changing positions inside the room, being now too close from each other and facing the same way. Right next to them, Midoriya noticed at least 15 people sitting on a corner. A young girl who was tied with the others saw Midoriya walk by, her eyes almost popping out, but he placed one finger over his lips and she slightly nodded, looking away from him. I can't combine an attack with Kaken like this. If we try to go in now we may be forced to. The only possible way to do this is by killing one of them and immobilizing the other, he whispered as he pointed to their position. Bakugo was serious now, pondering that information and finding strange how easily Midoriya proposed to murder someone. Yaoyorozu covered her mouth but understood that something had to be done. Seeing both of their expressions, Midoriya had an insight. I have an idea, but it's risky. Kaken, be ready to go in at full force to protect the hostages if I fail. Alright, I'll shout out if necessary. Here's the plan. Midoriya was about to tell them the plan when they heard. What is taking him so long? Oi, what's going on over there, Kabakura? Midoriya instantly got up and walked right to the door. One more step and he would be spotted, so he faced forward and both Yaoyorozu and Bakugo saw that his eyes were closed. A few seconds later the lights of the corridor started to blink, suddenly going out. What happened to the lights? The woman asked, and Midoriya stormed in. I don't know what Koda, what the foo. A loud whack was heard, followed by something heavy hitting the floor, and they both stormed the room just as the second body dropped. Midoriya turned, the lights coming on again, and said with blood coming out of his nose. All done. Inside, the employees that were sitting at the corner got up, and after seeing Yaoyorozu, came to her side. A few hugged her, but she was looking at Midoriya's face and his bleeding nose. That worried her because she didn't believe he was ever struck, so that could mean some internal problem, but he was already at the door planning the last part with Bakugo. I need to go. I'm glad you are all okay. She started moving away from her staff, but Midoriya said, you should stay and protect them, Yaoyorozu-san, just in case there's more of them. We'll get your parents out of there, I promise. The look on his face was so trustworthy that she couldn't doubt him for a second. She just felt relief. Running back to the entrance, Bakugo asked, you know exactly how many of them are inside, don't you? Why did you lie to her? Kaken, if this ends badly or not, it's up to us, but if it ends badly I don't want her to feel responsible for her parents' death. Bakugo couldn't understand how Midoriya had changed so much in so little time. Even his attitude was completely different. So the reason you left their room last. You got that, didn't you? I also wondered that if we were to fail the attempt there, all the people in the kitchen would pay the price. So it was about numbers. That too. Bakugo noticed something before replying. Deku, you're still bleeding. Oh, what, that's strange, Midoriya said, turning his power off. So I guess you're abusing your new quirk. How it's true that all quirks have flaws, even yours. Midoriya just kept quiet while brushing off the blood with his hand. He knew he was almost at his limit, but it didn't matter. They went upstairs and arrived at a big corridor where the last 5 were holding Yaoyorozu's parents, but before they could get any closer, they heard sirens all around the house and shouting inside the room. What the fuck, cops? What the hell happened? SHH, their radio is saying that the front door silent alarm was tripped and their security company remotely activated the cameras. Why? Where are those dumbfucks? I told them to not open that door. Fuck, we need to go. Let's clean house and leave through the sewers fuck. Midoriya was at the door, shoulder to shoulder with Bakugo, and looked at him as the boy looked back. One moment of silent communication passed through them as they realized there was no time for pre-planning and no room for error. They were going to kill the hostages and flee, starting with the parents. Midoriya pointed 2 fingers towards the left side and 3 fingers to the right side, looking back at Bakugo, whispering, "Go left, trust me." For Midoriya's surprise, Bakugo smirked. Midoriya stood up with his weapon in hand, and Bakugo heated his hands. Midoriya closed his eyes, feeling the air and the tension. He felt a chill run through his entire body, making his hair stand. He thought about Yaoyorozu and her parents. It was his duty to save them. Right now, at this moment, he was the hero. He whispered while getting into a stance. Crimson Moon. Bakugo kicked the door open again, flashing whoever was looking at him. Midoriya opened his eyes and something was different, but he didn't have enough time to think about what changed, so he stormed inside, close behind Bakugo, and saw everything like a slow-motion scene. 2 at close range on their left, moving towards the door, 1 with a gun pointed to a couple who was sitting on the floor further in the back of the room, and 2 in the right, 1 looking away, and the other crouched, closing bags. Midoriya moved alongside Bakugo as he blasted the 2 in the left and saw the closest one in the right raising his gun, firing twice since he didn't get affected by the flashbang. Midoriya couldn't see the bullets in slow motion, but he could react to them like if it was Dark Shadow throwing rocks at him, the difference being that right now he needed to deflect, not dodge. He saw the barrel and the position it was facing. After the bang, he just had to raise his sword in time, and his timing was perfect, proved by the metallic sound made by the side of the katana when it deflected both shots. The whole time he never stopped moving forward alongside Bakugo, seeing the one in the back pointing his weapon towards him as the other aimed again, now at Bakugo. This was the only way. He stopped, and switching the grip style, threw the sword ahead with all his strength, instantly turning to the right, running towards the guy with the gun pointed at Bakugo, who instantly switched targets and fired at him again, multiple times. Every time he pulled the trigger, Midoriya could somehow see the muscles on his hand, and at the moment he started tensioning those muscles, Midoriya switched his balance, moving slightly out of the barrel's way. To him, this was all happening slowly, but in the normal world, he looked like a red-eyed demon, dodging a rain of bullets at close range, until he suddenly felt something coming from behind him, switching to the last target who was unarmed, shocked by everything happening, but still represented a threat. The answer to why Midoriya switched targets was answered by the explosion that passed right next to his face, completely hitting the thug, making him disappear below the rubble. Midoriya saw as the last one was turning his face away from the blast, and by using an immobilization move, Midoriya grabbed his arm and pinned him down. He looked around to all the destruction and to Yaoyorozu's parents safe and sound at the corner. As fast as it began, it ended. 1 minute later, Yaoyorozu stormed through the door and looked around to all the damage. Her parents were still sitting in the corner but got up when they saw their daughter there, running to a 3-person hug. Bakugo was on the other side of the room, getting the thugs out of the debris. Midoriya was breathing heavily, tired, and feeling a rising pain on his left leg, where he noticed after looking down, he got shot. He looked forward again, surprised by his injury, but saw something more important, something urgent, something that made his heart stop. The one thug who got pierced by his sword was getting up, the sword still attached to his torso, raising one hand with a gun in it, aiming towards the family. "N-O-O-O," Midoriya shouted, making everyone look up to see what was going on, but there was no time, so just before the thug could put his finger on the trigger, Midoriya thought with all his might. Lightning enhancement. The thug stood there, with the gun pointed to the family, while Bakugo looked at Midoriya's face and reacted in time, jumping and blasting him with one more explosion. The thug collapsed and Bakugo kicked his gun away, looking at the sword spiked to the man's chest. The sword was sparkling with white electricity, burning him from inside, smoke starting to appear. "Deku DK, calm the fuck down. He's out, you're going to kill him, you're bleeding too much, stop this shit." "Midoriya-san, are you okay?" Yaoyorozu asked, moving towards him, but before Yaoyorozu or Bakugo could get closer, he stopped and coughed blood once, and then he started bleeding from his mouth and nose. His eyes lost its red color as tears of blood stained his face. He collapsed to his knees, but before hitting the ground he thought, "I told you we were going to save them, didn't I?" Midoriya saw Yaoyorozu's face as she showed a desperate expression, running towards him, and Bakugo jumping to his aid, coming from his right side, but everything was engulfed by white light and he heard a strange noise, like a constant shrill noise. He didn't feel the impact when he reached the floor, but he tried to smile to look imposing. He hoped that he managed. He hoped that for a moment at least, he looked cool, like a true hero. Midoriya opened his eyes and instantly tried to get up, caught by instinct, reacting as if he still was in danger. "Calm the fuck down, samurai. Get up. Come on, we need to get the fuck out of here," Bakugo said, and Midoriya noticed police sirens all around. He was in a different room and saw his leg and arm bandaged. He looked at Bakugo, who at least looked unharmed. "Is everyone okay? What happened? For how long have I been here?" "Shut up already. Apart from the dude you almost killed, everyone is good. He would have died from blood loss because of your sword cut some important vases or some shit like that, but they said you cauterized his wounds with your sword." You lost some blood and your leg was shot, through and through, missing the bone. Your arm was also shot, but just a scratch, you fucking lucky nerd. You were out for like an hour. Midoriya got up and tested his leg. It wasn't hurting that much, so he slowly walked towards the door, but someone opened it first. A man with a dog head, wearing a suit. The chief of the police department, Tsurugami Kenji. Good night, youngsters. I know you're eager to leave this place, but I'm afraid we have some questions for you before you're allowed to go home, waff. Bakugo made a noise, clearly pissed by this statement, and Midoriya, who had seen the chief on TV, almost lost his shit after hearing him say waff live. It was damn hilarious. He nodded and pressed his lips together, holding the hysteria that was trying to explode. Yaoyorozu and her parents arrived a few minutes later and they positioned chairs for everyone in the room with them. Yaoyorozu's parents explained what happened in the house and how one of the bathrooms was having problems, so they called a plumber's crew just to discover they were robbers. After that, Yaoyorozu took on the narrative, explaining what happened until the moment she met Midoriya. Then it was his turn to explain everything. A few minutes later, the chief got up. You, Midoriya Izuku, you do realize you're not a hero, right? You're not even in hero school yet. What you did was a mistake. You should have called the Pollock. They were going to execute them one way or another and escape through the sewers. We heard them talking, Bakugo answered, and Chief just gave him a cold glare. Don't speak when no one asked you a thing, Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo looked away, pissed. I don't know what is your definition of a hero, Chief Tsurugami, but if you're asking me if I think what I did was wrong and if I regret doing it, my answers are yes and no. So even knowing that what you did was wrong, you're still not sorry for what you did, then I believe you're aware of your punishment. He kept looking at Midoriya, trying to understand the boy's personality, intrigued by the way he was speaking. Yes, I am, but since I'm the one who took action and asked Katsuki for help, I would like to take full and exclusive responsibility, so you can punish me for breaking the law, but he's not involved in the decision-making behind this. Bakugo started, but the chief spoke first. You may be even expelled. You know that you may be even banned from attending the exams for hero schools next month. What? Yaoyorozu asked, shocked, but Midoriya looked at her and shook his head, signaling she should stay out of it. I'm aware of that as well, sir, and I don't mind. Being a hero isn't finished training in hero school. Being a hero is doing the right thing to save lives, no matter the consequences, and I respectfully don't care if you, All Might, or the Prime Minister himself tells me otherwise. Why would he bring All Might's name into this? Oh, perhaps because of All Might's definition as the symbol of peace and the true hero. I see. We already have your addresses, so you both are free to go, but expect more questions tomorrow. Don't talk to the press, because if your little adventure goes public, your punishment may be even more severe. Sir, the reporters are already here. One rookie policeman said. What waff? Yes, they've surrounded the area. Somehow, the information about the hostage situation was leaked altogether with the camera's feed of the house. It's all over the internet and news channels. They saw the entire thing. The security company said it was an accidental leak, done by an enthusiastic trainee. Oh, we're dead, Midoriya thought while Bakugo smirked, his arms crossed in his chest while leaning back on a wall. Don't give them any details about what happened here today. We'll see what we can do in order to get these videos removed from the internet. You can go home. Before they could move, Yaoyorozu got up with her parents, offering a hand to Bakugo, who grabbed and shook it. Thank you, Bakugo-san, thank you for coming to help us. Her parents offered their hands as well, promising any treatment for their injuries would be sponsored by them, and that they should expect rewards. And you, Midoriya-san, I don't know what I would have done without you. I had no hope of ever getting out of that situation. Thank you very much. We owe our life to you. She started crying and Midoriya offered his hand, but almost fell when the girl hugged him. He smiled and tapped her back, calming her down. No problem at all, Yaoyorozu-san. I'm glad we managed to rescue everyone. You also helped. Without you as part of the rescue team, we wouldn't manage, so you deserve the credits too. Although it is a secret, so don't tell anyone, haha. She laughed and let him go. Her parents repeated the same procedure. Midoriya denied the reward and instead asked why his leg wasn't hurting at all. Yaoyorozu's mom answered. We have a nurse among our staff, dear. She has a wonderful analgesic Quirk, but tomorrow you may experience some pain. I'm very sorry. Our hospital is open for you and your friend if anything goes wrong. Okay. Midoriya headed out and Bakugo did the same. They walked slowly, but in silence towards the exit. That was strange for Midoriya since he expected Bakugo to just bolt out of there. When they walked past the fountain in the middle of the garden, they saw an army of cameras and microphones outside, and Midoriya sighed. How you want to play this? I don't want those assholes coming to my house, so I'll just answer all their questions here. Yeah, I know. I won't reveal anything. I'm not an idiot. Press X to doubt, Midoriya said while holding an imaginary joystick on his hands, his thumb moving up and down where the X button should be. Bakugo chuckled and looked away. Midoriya was starting to feel some weakness on his left leg, which made sense since he got an analgesic, and not a new leg. He put too much weight on his left and his leg collapsed, but he didn't fall. Bakugo grabbed him at the last moment, holding him up until he could stand straight. Midoriya knew a thank you here would just be awkward, having no meaning to him, so he just kept going. After passing through the last policeman and the gates, the reporters attacked them, asking everything one could ask about another human being. They answered what they could, and after at least an hour, just a few reporters kept asking about how was the inside of the house or if the tapestry was really pretty, so they said that was enough and walked away. They grabbed a taxi a few blocks ahead, dropping next to Bakugo's home, which was a few blocks away from Midoriya's home, who decided to walk the rest of the way. As Midoriya paid half of the amount, he walked towards his home, but Bakugo said, "You know why I always hated you all these years?" Deku. Midoriya halted and turned, looking at his face as he continued. "You always acted like you were better than everyone, better than me with your helping others bullshit. Those who don't have power shouldn't fucking meddle. They should stay behind the strong and be saved, but you always treated me like an equal. Even if you were quirkless, it was like you were saying my strength didn't matter, and that's why I always hated you, boo. I know, Kaken. I used to ask myself the reason why you picked on me so much, but it doesn't matter anymore. I was able to get my answer months ago, thanks to you. You snapped me out of my inertia, and that was the first step for me to get my quirk. But don't worry, this is not a friendship request. I'm just thanking you for all those years, because without them, I wouldn't be able to become stronger. I wouldn't be able to do what I did today. Oh, and I hate you too, of course, more than you can imagine." After that, Midoriya turned and limped away, waving his hand above his head twice. "Knight, thanks for showing up today. Tell Auntie I said hi." Bakugo just watched as he walked away. "I said hated, you fucking asshole," he thought before walking inside his home to get yelled at. Midoriya arrived home and got hugged before he could fully open the door. He felt a bump. Izuku, are you okay? Oh my god, you're hurt. I just saw you on TV. I called you like a million times, but you wouldn't answer." She was crying, and Midoriya just said with a smile, exhausted, "I'm okay, Mom, just some hero stuff, nothing out of ordinary." They went inside, and Enko looked at his injuries twice before allowing him to go take a shower and sleep. He struggled to keep water out of the bandages, and a few minutes later entered his room, seeing a strange box. He opened his door and asked, "Mom, what is this box doing here?" "Oh, I forgot, an old man named Hirotaka Shinji brought you this tonight. He said to give it only to you." "Oh yay, the books I was waiting for, thank you, Mom." "Yay, call me if you feel anything, okay, I love you." "Love you too." He closed the door and almost jumped with the good leg to see the books. One of them had a note on its cover. "I hope this can help you. Find me when you're done. I would like to know what you thought, and I want you to meet someone." He opened a few books and saw the titles, which gave him goosebumps. After dividing a few of them, which were useless, 3 stood out from the rest. The Downfall of a Race, Kaguya's Children. Natural Elements, The Clan Cursed by Hatred. Midoriya laid back and started reading one of them, eager to understand more about his past, but he couldn't stop closing the book and smiling a few times, remembering how things ended today. He looked to his hands, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly proud of himself. He returned to the book, diving into the past to become stronger enough to protect the future. Accept it or rule it. Midoriya woke up with a throbbing pain on his leg, but that wasn't the reason he opened his eyes. The reason was the noisy drone flying outside his window, trying to see what was inside. He sat and tried to concentrate on whatever the hell was going on. After changing into new clothes and new bandages, he went to the living room and found his mom watching TV. "Ah, Izuku, you got up early, baby. What's wrong?" "There's a UFO outside my window. What's going on?" "Oh, I recorded the news so you could see. Here," she said while setting the video. Midoriya sat and the news started right at his blurred face, and the reporter started speaking. Yesterday reports, conjointly with cameras footage provided by the internet, showed to the population the shocking scenes and the full action that happened inside the Yaoyorozu's household. A group of robbers that were wanted for numerous murders infiltrated the Yaoyorozu mansion disguised as plumbers and made the entire family and staff hostage. All the odds were leading to a tragic ending until 2 brave young men stepped up, saving more than 20 lives. The video you're about to see was analyzed by a pro hero specialized in combat and analyzes. He was unaware we were recording, but we did it in a public space, so that's all within the law. Here are these analyses from pro hero Ectoplasm. They never saw Ectoplasm's face, but they could hear his voice as they played a video. Midoriya saw himself, Bakugo, and Yaoyorozu arriving at the street in front of the mansion, and by the angle, he noticed they were recorded by a police street camera. It's easy to see who is the one leading the other two, the green-haired boy. He decided the entire plan based on the footage. Outside the mansion, you can see him deciding the course of action and splitting his assets to a successful invasion, starting by taking out the lookout, instead of trying to sneak in. Inside you can see how his quirk works, or at least get a good glimpse. In my opinion, it's more than a sensorial quirk. He knew where they were positioned. He changed positions with his partner to achieve a better outcome. Here in the last and critical moment, he saved the hostages, protected his partner, who I may add, has amazing control over such destructive power to only incapacitated the threats, and apprehended the villains without any casualties. The databanks show he got his quirk 7 months ago and already evolved to the point he could manage a situation where many pro heroes would fail. No, I cannot tell since I don't know his personality, but judging by his power alone and the growth possibility, I would say he's one strong candidate to the number one spot, and if the other boy can grow with him, they could become a duo never seen before. I can't classify him among the pros, but after I get the chance to know him and his quirk, I shall be able to at least have a solid indicator. My personal opinion, I don't believe personal opinions to be valid, but if you want one I'll give you one you can't distort. We're possibly looking to one of the strongest heroes that ever existed in our country. That, citizens, are the words of a respected pro-hero, who is suing us right now, but still a respected pro-hero. The police and the press interviewed the same two youngsters after the events, but the underage law prohibited us from showing their faces. We had information that the police were looking for a way to punish the two boys for saving a total of 23 lives that night. The chief of police appeared with a statement. We can't have kids running out acting like heroes and exposing themselves and others to danger. How would you all feel if they died? If the two kids and all hostages were killed because of their lack of experience and knowledge, we can't endorse these actions, and our Department of Quirk's misuse will attend to their schools and families so they can be disciplined. Waff. Midoriya didn't find it funny now, seeing the chief of police saying those things, but the reporter continued. After these statements, most of the specialists on quirks and pro-heroes confirmed that he was indeed correct, but also that the logic couldn't apply to the two, especially the green-haired boy, who they believe has something beyond his registered extrasensorial quirk. A retired hero that handled analysis started speaking. How can you call him a kid? I know licensed heroes who would freeze in these kinds of situations and wait for backup that could never come, or even take the wrong decision that would result in bloodshed. We can't praise him for doing something he shouldn't, but we can't condemn and punish him for doing a pro-hero job with excellence either. All this results in two questions. Who are the two boys who saved one of the richest and influential families of our city without getting nothing but criticism in return, and what kind of punishment will they suffer? The screen froze at the end of the record. Midoriya was speechless and a little shocked by all that. After a few seconds, he looked back to see his mom looking at him with concerned eyes. Mom, I don't mind being punished by using my power to save lives. I hope you can understand what I did and why, and I hope you. She ran and hugged him, almost breaking his neck while saying, I know, Izuku, I know this is what you always wanted. Mom knows, and I am proud of you, but seeing you next to such danger and knowing you got hurt, I can't help it, I can't help it. Midoriya got up, gently getting free of her hug, and with a faint smile he said while holding her hands, I'm sorry, Mom, I don't want to worry you, but the power I have, with the power I have, I may have the chance to change the world the way I always wanted, to be the hero I always wanted to be. I'm sorry, but I need to keep going. One day I may even die trying to save someone, but on this day I know you'll look back to all the good I've done and feel pride. Those 23 were my first step. He hugged her, and there was nothing to be said for now as he patted her on the back for a few times until she calmed down. Midoriya walked out of his house and saw the drone flying next to a tree, facing him as he deliberately walked away, limping because of the injured leg. He looked around, and with his hands inside his jacket he did some kind of movement, watching as the drone lost control, hitting the floor like a toy, breaking into pieces. Interesting. He needed to think about a lot of things, so he kept walking, which wasn't recommended for freshly wounded, but he didn't care. He wore earphones, listening to hard songs that made him deaf to the outside. He lost the notion of time as he kept walking, murmuring, almost being run over twice, until he saw someone stopping in front of him while pointing. He took his earplugs off and heard the girl in front of him say with an exciting edge, Hey, you're bleeding? Oh, you're the guy from TV. She licked her lips while looking at his face, and Midoriya frowned. How? Your face was barely blurred, so I can tell. Midoriya stopped and looked to the girl who approached him. A teenager with ashen blonde hair arranged into two messy buns with strands running wild all around. She was wearing a dark blue sailor suit with a beige cardigan that looked too big for her figure, but what stood out about this girl was her eyes. Something was off with her eyes, and Midoriya felt the instinct to take a step back, as if he was in the presence of something dangerous. So he answered without looking at his wound but facing her eyes instead, never looking away. Thank you, I wasn't paying attention. I'll seek a pharmacy right away. The girl smiled while narrowing her eyes, blushing. Hey, you're really cool, aren't you? I saw you yesterday on TV. You were so cool with that sword. Where is it? I also like swords. You know, I think we should be friends. What you think? She looked at him with big eyes and a wide smile. My guess. Yeah. Hey, Toga got a new friend. Yeah. Hey, you know, even after they cleaned you up, I could still see some of your blood next to your ear. And eyes, you know what? I think you'd be so much cooler if you bled a little more. Midoriya saw her hand going inside her cardigan and her changing her feet position, her body language indicating she was positioning to attack. He raised his hand before she could do anything and said, Can I stop you for a second? I don't know your full name and you don't know mine, so why don't we just part ways for now before you do something reckless that you may regret? I'm not in a good mood today, and I don't want to accidentally hurt you. Midoriya wasn't going to fight her. He said that for a reason. He said that because this was an emergency. This girl is a true villain. She must have a quirk as well, but no physical indications in emitter. Then she could be a transformer as well. I can feel something dark around her, something bestial. What is this vibe I'm getting for now? I think I should display strength and indifference to push her off a little. The girl still was with her right hand inside her pocket and became even more blushed before running towards Midoriya like a beast, pulling a small knife out and making a move to stab his chest, but as she placed one foot between his legs, starting the movement, she stopped. He didn't move 1 inch as the knife was about to make contact, and she saw his red eyes glaring at her. She got straight and stashed the knife away, moving forward with her hands behind her back like she was going to kiss him, but he saw what she wanted. She wanted to see his eyes from up close. I could use the moonlight on her now. Maybe this is the best way to deal with this situation. You're more than cool in these eyes. Your eyes color is so beautiful. I like beautiful red things. You know my name is Toga Himiko, but you can call me Toga-chan. She spoke with her face still too close to his, her breath touching his face. It smelled like rust iron. The scent reminded him of something metallic mixed with something sweet, perhaps apples. Midoriya didn't introduce himself, and the girl narrowed her eyes, smirking. You won't give me your name? Oh, I just got rejected by a boy. I don't even know the name. She started spinning in place, covering her eyes like a child, but unlikely a child. She made a quick move, too quick for a girl of her stature, taking out the knife again, trying to slice his throat. Midoriya pulled his upper body backward to dodge the incoming attack, and after losing his balance, he placed his weight on his left leg, feeling the weakness almost taking him down. She came again with a big smile on her face, and even though Midoriya still hadn't tested this on humans, he needed a way out. She was a good fighter. He could tell by the way she moved when another swing came, aimed to his neck again. The knife stopped 5 inches away from Midoriya's carotid artery. She looked again at him and had the same instinct Midoriya had a few minutes ago, multiplied by 100. The boy's face made her eyes widen with surprise and her smile vanish as she tried to take a step back, away from the danger he was emanating. But out of nowhere she felt pain all over her body, and she couldn't move a finger anymore. A wave of constant energy hurt every muscle of her body while Midoriya observed her reaction. He was deciding if he should call the police or not when he saw another drone coming from afar and thought, damn, did they send another? They'll suspect if I damage another also, they'll get the wrong idea again when they see her. I'm already down the neck into problems. This girl is dangerous, a villain for sure, but I can't handle her right now, so I'll have to let her go. He stopped and the girl fell, looking fainted but still trying to move and speak. Midoriya crouched next to her and, taking the knife with his sleeves, placed it inside her pocket, helping her get up just in time as he saw the drone spying again. Can you hear me, Toga Himiko? He kept her up until she came back to her senses, instantly trying to go for her knife again, but Midoriya quickly grabbed her arm and whispered, someone is watching us. Let's not have a scene now, villain. She looked into his eyes, that were almost glowing, and started to pant, grabbing the front of her cardigan with one hand and the front of his jacket with the other, blushing even more than before, showing a strange pair of pointy canines. Midoriya was aware and saw it coming but couldn't do anything but turn his face away as she pulled him closer and leaned forward, giving him a long lick which left the left side of his face wet. He freed himself from her grip and just stared back while she licked her lips. You have a bittersweet taste, you know I kind of like it. She took a few steps back, looking at him with an odd expression, and although Midoriya didn't want to give her any wrong signals or ideas, he had to put up a show now, so he waved and spoke out loud. I hope we can see each other again, Toga Himiko. Next time I'll be sure to talk to you properly. Why would you think we'll see each other ever again? She asked with a devilish smile, and Midoriya answered, because you're a villain and I am a hero. One day our paths will cross again, just like life's path will always be crossed by death. She was speechless for a few seconds, then she giggled and answered, funny choice of words for a hero, Mr. Hirosan. She turned, walking away, stopping twice to wave at him. Midoriya waited, and after sitting on the closest brick wall, he covered his face. Just like life's path will always be crossed by death. What the hell did I just say? Oh my god, what's wrong with me? That was so embarrassing. This is on you, Yami. He tried to calm down now, his face slightly warmer and his heart racing, but not caused by fear. He was keeping his poker face the whole time, but he wasn't cool with that situation at all. He looked to the path the girl went and wondered, what the hell just happened? I'm awake right now, right? The first one was a test, but she really tried to kill me the second and third time. She was serious, a true murderer, and here I am being excited because she licked me. Midoriya covered his face again and felt his phone vibrate. He took it out of his jacket's pocket and saw the name, pressing his lips together, anticipating what was about to go down. Yo. He tried to sound energetic but just sounded frightened instead, like a kid showing poor grades to the parents. I'm sure you have a wonderful explanation for what I just saw on today's news, Midoriya. Do you comprehend what call me if anything happens means if you're caught into a life or death hostage situation? I think that would apply as something happening. Don't you agree? Damn, he's mad. I'm sorry, Yami, I couldn't call you before because look, can we meet next to my house to talk? Actually, I'm not next to my house, hold up. Where am I? He looked around for a few seconds, realizing he had no idea where he was, but it looked like a dangerous neighborhood. Anyway, I'll send you my location so I can explain myself and show you something. Fine, I'll be there soon. Midoriya sent his location and waited, thinking about Toga Himiko again and her murderous aura, and how pretty her face became when she smiled. Murderer, 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 murderer. He kept repeating to himself like a chant, trying to prevent himself from fantasizing about the girl he just met. This is such a mess, damn it. He sighed, remembering the reason he left his house. A few minutes after they ended their hug, the phone rang and his mom went to answer. At first, her face became green, then red and lastly white, as she whispered a yes or a no here and there. She hung up and turned to him, her hands slightly shaking. Izuku, they called from your school to let me know you've been expelled for lawbreaking and that the Quirk misuse department will come to ask you some questions. Katsuki-kun got suspended for 2 weeks. I'm so sorry. They said the police department kept pressuring for punishment. He felt the impact of that new information passing through his entire body, like a bucket of warm water, a warm chill. After hearing his mom promising she would go to the school to try to fix the situation for the 9th time, he decided to take a walk and ended up wandering around the streets, meeting his new crazy friend. But the truth was he just wanted to be alone, which was impossible right now as he saw someone coming towards him, but not the person he was waiting for. Midoriya waited in silence until the boy stopped in front of him, hands inside the pockets. What are you doing here, Deku? Exercising, he answered sarcastically, and Bakugo noticed the faint red color on his bandage. We've got to talk about that shit we pulled. Someone called my home and I got suspended. I wanted to ask you if you got suspended too. Wait, how did you find me? Bakugo just pointed over his shoulder and Midoriya saw a second drone next to the first. I asked your mom and she told me you left towards this place, then I just had to find that flying piece of shit. Yay, and no, I didn't get suspended, I got expelled and they may still ban me from the exams. Bakugo's face revealed surprise, but he quickly controlled his expression and asked, what the hell you're going to do now? I don't know. I'm still considering. Wait a second. Why are you being so friendly all of a sudden? Midoriya narrowed his eyes expecting an explosive reaction, but he got an actual answer instead. Screw you, I wanted to confirm what happened after yesterday. Also, your mom asked me to tell you to go home since you're still hurt, you dumb fuck. So much for the next number 1 hero, huh? Midoriya looked at his face and saw his eyebrows sarcastically raised. He looked pissed, but amused at the same time. Watch your mouth, kid. You're talking to the next number 1 hero, so if you don't behave, I'll find another asset to aid me. He joked again and Bakugo snorted before whispering, over my dead body. What? Speak louder, boy. Over my dead body, you asshole. The number 1 spot is mine. That can be arranged. The over my dead body part though. He found it was actually very fun to tease Bakugo like this, especially when he wasn't being a dense asshole. Come on, I'll fuck your other leg up. I don't discriminate, so I'll beat the crap out of invalids too. He said with a hand up, inviting him. That's a cool hero description for you, Bakugo. Katsuki, the Disable's villain hunter. Bakugo chuckled again, but suddenly became serious and asked, completely changing the atmosphere. What happened to you, Deku? What you mean I got shot, dumbass? Stop fucking around and answer me. What the fuck is this quirk of yours? He took his hands out of his pockets and waited with a serious face. Midoriya was deciding if he should tell him the truth or not, opting for going with the truth. After Bakugo's help, he at least deserved to know, but before he could start, he saw Tokoyami approaching. I guess I'll tell some other time, I have to go. You're not going anywhere until you explain to me what is it, and how you got it. He grabbed Midoriya's jacket, but turned his face to the right as a figure entered his peripheral view. Dark Shadow struck him hard, but Bakugo guarded just on time, counterattacking by reflex, making Dark Shadow retreat from the blast. Who the fuck are you? The fuck is this, huh? It's okay, Yami. I know him. Didn't look like that. I thought he was a villain. My apologies. Tokoyami said, raising a hand as an apology, and Bakugo approached again, pissed. Oi, you have a fucking death wish? Bird brain, what the hell are you doing? Midoriya saw his face and thought that now he was looking like his old self. This is my friend Fumikage Tokoyami, and this is Kaken. Midoriya pointed to one another, and Tokoyami said, oh, he really is aggressive. I thought you were exaggerating. What the hell did you tell him, Deku? Nothing that he couldn't find out himself. Kaken, look, I have to go. I have a few things to discuss with Yami, so I'll call your home if anything new pops up. Bakugo calmed down and said with a controlled voice, I'm coming with you. What, why? Because you won't dodge my questions anymore, you fucking asshole. I will make you spill everything. Midoriya rolled his eyes and answered, fine, let's get a cab. I can't walk like this for now. You're fucking paying. What, we're splitting? I can walk just fine, so if you want to get a ride, you're fucking paying. Just shut up or I'll leave you behind. Try it, asshole, I'll annihilate you. Have you found that word on the dictionary last night? Way to go, Kaken. Tokoyami had the strange impression he was seeing two brothers fighting, but he felt a chill, looking around until he saw one figure watching them from the distance. He stared the person for a few seconds but looked away, thinking it was probably just a curious person, nothing out of ordinary. They walked to the main street to look for a ride. The figure watched them until they turned the corner. The figure turned and walked away, vanishing after in an instant. After arriving at their usual training ground, they walked in, seeing Tanakasen drinking coffee inside his office, waving as they passed by, getting a thumb up back. After they got inside, Midoriya sat on the remains of the sofa they found lying around months ago, while Tokoyami leaned on a beam with his arms crossed. Bakugo chose to sit on a tire, looking around with interest. I'll explain to him first, Yami. He doesn't know much about it, so after I run the basics to him, we'll talk. Takoyami just nodded and Midoriya faced Bakugo, explaining everything at once. Pay attention Kaken because I won't repeat myself. My power I named my quirk, Crimson Moon. As you saw before, it's a power that comes from my eyes. This power basically allows me to access most of the perception and processing capability my brain can offer. I can process and analyze information at least 20 times faster than a normal person. While most of the regular people can split their attention to 2 different things at the same time, and pro heroes can split to 3 or 4 things, I can go up to 10. It's called insight. This insight is my main power, but apart from it, I have a second main power called moonlight. This one allows me to interfere with people's minds. I can overload their brain with feelings or images, making anything I want, sound, look, and feel like reality. Although it isn't perfect, I can immobilize most people. Strong-willed people are tougher to subjugate because it is harder to interfere with their brains. This is what I used when I got inside that room yesterday. Remember first, I overloaded the lights until they went out, so at the moment I walked inside, they could only see my eyes in the darkness, because they glow in the dark. That allowed me to put one under the moonlight's effect while dealing with the other physically. Oh yay, visual contact is required for this power to work. Takoyami, who was silent with his eyes closed, turned his face towards Midoriya when he said that he overloaded the lights. There are a few more things here and there, but it's basically this. Now to the important part, Yami. He explained everything that happened to Takoyami, and after he finished, Takoyami replied, I can't argue with your logic, but I could have held a defensive position. You should have called me as well. That was true. Midoriya knew he was right, but he didn't want to put his only friend at risk. It was just a dangerous situation that would be even more dangerous to you. That's why I decided to leave you out. I'm sorry. Takoyami understood because he would probably do the same if the positions were inverted. Now I need to face the truth, and the truth is that I'm screwed. I got expelled and I don't know how to deal with all this. There's still a chance that they can prohibit me from attending the UA exams or any other hero school entrance exams. I saw something like that on TV today. I can't believe they actually did that. This certainly is a complicated matter. No shit, Birdlock, you're a fucking genius. Bakugo glared at him. The worst part comes now, Midoriya said, making some suspense as the two looked confused, watching him raise his right hand with the palm up, whispering something, making literally small bolts of lightning materialize on his palm, a few getting out of control and hitting the floor. What in God's name is this? Takoyami took a step closer and Dark Shadow looked scared, leaning away. Bakugo was just speechless. Midoriya stopped and gasped, looking at his hand that was slightly burned. I read a few interesting things about my past last night, and I'm pretty sure this is it. This is the end of the story. No more information. After I finished, I started testing the things I've learned into electronic devices, trying to somehow interfere with them, and it worked. Earlier today I used on a drone, overloading its systems with energy, and later on, I used on someone. I was able to incapacitate her for a while, even holding back as I was. Calm the fuck down for a second, you fucking degenerate. Are you telling us you electrocuted some girl with this shit? What the fuck is your problem, and what is this electricity anyway? It is something I inherited from my ancestors, and believe me, you would have done worse to her. She was a villain anyway. I got it all wrong. In one moment of my genealogic tree, a single man became the only living exemplar of this bloodline, but this member somehow gained powers never seen before, which triggered a new kind of natural manifestation on his descendants. What those new elements were, it's a mystery, but they changed how his descendants reacted to the natural elements. I know it doesn't make much sense to you, Kaken, but I'm sure you get the point, Yami. It fucking DOESN't, Bakugo shouted, pissed off, but Midoriya was so focused he didn't even notice. He was speaking faster and was sweating, thrilled for finally being able to share his discoveries with someone. Let's just go practical since it's the only thing that goes through your head, which is also good because I also want to check one more thing. Kaken, can you create a controlled explosion aimed at that part of the ground? He pointed to the center of the hangar. Why, just do it. Bakugo got up, still dumbfolded and pissed, and raised his arm, blasting a hole on the ground, turning to face Midoriya, who was now right next to him, whispering, Now, do it again, but before you activate your power, say this word. You can whisper to yourself and use the same amount of power. Bakugo narrowed his eyes after hearing him whisper a strange word, thinking this was just a joke, but as he exploded the ground again, he was caught by surprise when the explosion went at least 3 times stronger, shaking the floor while sending dust everywhere, setting the grass on fire. Holy, Midoriya covered his mouth in complete shock as he noticed his theory was right. It still exists. The manipulation of the natural elements still exists. Bakugo looked at his hand and aimed again, doing a second explosion, making a few parts of the metal structure fall off. He was laughing, amazing by this extra power, but he heard Midoriya's shouts. Stop it, Kaken, you can't overdo it. What? Stop using it and come here for a second so I can explain. Bakugo walked back and felt dizziness, which made him grab onto Takoyami's shoulder for balance. He faced Midoriya, whose eyes were shining again. What the fuck is this, Deku? What did you do to me? I did nothing, you did it yourself, so sit already. He waited and Takoyami came closer, interested. Inside all of us, there's an energy. You can call this energy by many names: vital energy, stamina, kai, mantra. There are numerous terms referring to it, but all of them came from the original power that ruled the world, the chakra. You are familiar with the myth of creation and the tale of the bamboo cutter. Takoyami nodded vigorously and Bakugo tried hard to remember his classic history class. After noticing Bakugo's face, Midoriya just said, Izanagi and Izanami, then Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo. You remember their tale, right? And the tale about the rabbit princess, or the moon pry. Yeah, I remembered. What does it have to do with anything and why am I still dizzy? Midoriya talked quickly, gesturing with his hands, rushing through the words. It's actually simple. When Princess Kaguya descended to Earth, she found a prohibited fruit. This fruit's origin was unknown, and the only thing they were sure about this fruit was that the fruit was nourishing the earth with all its natural elements, which you can probably guess: water, fire, wind, lightning, and earth. Kaguya found and ate the forbidden fruit, taking those powers to herself, giving such power to her descendants, the power to create and manipulate the elements using their own energy, their own chakra. At some point, one enemy referred only as the second appeared. This individual came and eradicated all of those who had traces of the fruit's energy inside of them and on the face of extinction. The last families still alive decided to seal their power and live as normal humans so that when the second would come again, he wouldn't find any traces of the power and vanished forever. Every newborn on those families was submitted to the same sealing ritual so they wouldn't be found. And at some point after multiple marriages between normal humans and members of those families, people started being born without the chakra affinity, and this brings us to the present. I may be wrong, but I believe that the golden baby has something to do with all these myths and that a few of our quirks are just a different manifestation of that natural manipulation. He turned to Bakugo and continued. The word I told you to use was the word created to represent fire, and the reason you felt dizziness is that you and I are one of those who were born with the affinity but cannot use it, so if we try to push it, this is our body's response to it. I must admit, if I hadn't just seen you create electricity out of thin air, I would probably call your mom to tell her you were doing drugs. Takoyami said, looking surprised while scratching his forehead. Also, I don't have this affinity, he asked, and Midoriya, activating his crimson moon, checked his flame. To his surprise, it was much more detailed, to the point he could see everything now, including the almost absent flame inside Takoyami. I don't think so, Yami. There is something, but it's tiny. And when did you get your third Tamo? Congratulations. What? I didn't get my third? Holy shit, I got my third Tamo. He confirmed with his cell phone, looking into his reflection. He finally realized what happened yesterday in his sudden surge of concentration. Why can't we use it? Bakugo asked with such an interest on all of this that he forgot to be aggressive, and Midoriya realized they were sort of ignoring him. Because the fruit got returned. When everyone abdicated this power, the second was able to recreate the fruit, placing it where it belonged. No one knows how he did that, but he did it. What we just did goes against the law of the universe itself, because if we think about it, we're using a power we shouldn't have access to. Midoriya continued after a short pause. But before I passed out of shock after reading all this, I found something. This may sound crazy, but I think I can turn it back on, at least just a little bit, but enough so our bodies can handle it. I think I can make our energy reconnected to the fruit. He smiled to the two, but Takoyami and Bakugo just stared at him with blank faces. He thought for a few seconds again and said after snapping his fingers, "Picture this, it's like an energy generator owned by some company. This generator was feeding many people with energy, but one day, the energy company came and decided that nobody could take energy from it anymore. They started cutting off all the cables feeding on the generator. Well, in this case, the company actually killed everyone, but you got the picture. So, after seeing that the other cables were being cut, the last ones taking energy from it decided to just stop taking the energy, turning all their devices off. After cutting the last cable that was taking energy from the generator, the company saw that nobody was taking the energy anymore, and for some reason, the company just let them be. Did you get it? My head is starting to hurt, you fucking nerd. Your analogy was terrible, but yes, I got it. Come on, Kak, and the cables are still connected. The cables represent the connection to the fruit. The cables were still connected all this time, and what I'm going to do is turn the devices back on so I can take energy from it again. How? Like this, and if I die, tell my mom I love her, okay? And Kaken, screw you. Fuck you. He sat, groaning because of his leg, assuming what Takoyami instantly recognized as the full lotus meditating position. You sure this is safe? No, but I gotta try. I have to become stronger if what? I decided last night that if they shut me out of everything, I would become sort of a vigilante. You fucking what? Bakugo asked, perplexed. I don't care if I'm going to be called a villain or anything similar. I'll do what I think is right and fight for the ones in need, even if it means fighting the heroes too. Ooh, so you'll start going out there fighting heroes so you can do their jobs. I guess you'll introduce yourself like this to everyone. Hello, my name is Deku, dipshit. Congratulations. You're being fucking rescued. Please do not resist. Midoriya laughed out loud to that, but Bakugo kept staring at him. Takoyami shook his head, also disliking that idea. This is not funny, Midoriya. He has a point. You cannot go against the law to enforce the law, against the heroes to become a hero. I can, Yami. I already did, and I'll do it again if necessary. I'll go against them for the sake of the people, and I'll do anything I can. I know that look, Yami. I'm not going crazy, you know me. I just want you to understand that I won't give up on being the hero I always wanted to be just because the police think without 3 years of training and a piece of paper I can't save lives. I know the hero training is important, but isn't saving lives the most important task of any hero? We can talk about this later. You're bleeding again because you're sitting like that, so just finish what you were going to do and be careful. Midoriya looked at his leg, straightening his stance, dropping his hands to his lap, making the Jainana mudra symbol while taking deep breaths, just like the book taught. He felt the surrounding air again, also feeling Tokoyami and Bakugo next to him. He could almost see their shapes with his eyes closed. He followed the instructions he read on the last page of the book and tried to think about nothing except the belief of the chakra's existence inside every living being. The key was to believe it was real, to make it real. He then raised his hands, stopping and turning his hands until he placed one palm facing the other. He waited a few seconds and slowly raised his right hand, touching the side of his head with 2 fingers while whispering, "Release," and he felt the surge of energy and pain through his entire body, barely managing to stand still. Seconds later he couldn't move or open his eyes, and all he felt was that something or someone was pulling him ahead. He lost his balance, falling forward on the ground, but not on the ground of the old hangar. He touched the grass he was on, and it was oddly beautiful. He felt in his hand that everything was real, and when he looked around his mouth fell open. He was in a small ravine, and in front of him there was a path leading up to a giant tree. Besides the gigantic tree in front of him, there was nothing but lights all around. He looked to his hands, flexing his fingers and touching his face. Everything felt real to him, so he started walking uphill, towards the giant tree, so big it was almost impossible to measure. The trunk was white, and the leaves up top had a reddish color. They reminded him of the color of the sunset. As he walked closer, he saw one vine around the trunk, coming from all the way up, until it turned into some kind of hanged altar, leaves coming out of it, creating a small vessel for what resembled a big dark red apple-shaped fruit. He approached and the leaves moved out of the way, presenting the fruit as a gift, and Midoriya, raising his hand, went to grab it, but stopped just before his fingers touched the fruit, having second thoughts about that. "At least you are smarter than me." The proper response here was to break his neck at least twice after the surprise, but he didn't feel afraid or surprised. He just looked to his right and saw a woman. A woman with long white hair and white eyes, wearing a white kimono, a woman he instantly recognized as the woman he saw portrayed months ago at the bookstore. Princess Kaguya. She left a delicate chuckle out before answering with a smile. "I have not heard that name in a long time." She walked with her hands behind her back, looking lovely and so beautiful that her beauty was odd. All of her traces were at the right place, but she didn't look human at all. Midoriya took a few steps back from the fruit and saw how it recoiled itself to the inside of the altar again, as the princess started circling him, looking at his body and hair. Midoriya didn't know what to say, so he just waited in silence, feeling nervous. "There is no need to be shy or scared, my child. Nothing will harm you." She stopped next to him, and he could swear she was glowing. "Am I dreaming?" he managed to ask with a barely audible voice. "Yes and no. This is reality and it does not exist at the same time," she said with a smile and asked, "For you to be here, son of mine, you must seek power to achieve your ambitions or salvation for your people. Which one are you searching for? I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm your son." After hearing that, she tenderly smiled while tilting her head a little. "But you are, silly boy. The human that brought you to your world is only your caretaker, a vessel. Everything that you are, that you think, that you feel, everything came from me." Midoriya had a glimpse of his mother's smiling face and felt a little irritated, hearing her being called a vessel, but he understood that she meant no disrespect. She wasn't being offensive, so he tried to relax and answered without a doubt, "I'm sorry, princess, but I don't think that way." He was worried that he may have offended her, but she continued to smile. "And that is the beauty of the human race, being able to achieve such love in such limited time. The gods could learn a little with them, don't you think? I'm a little confused about the reason you're here, princess. You can call me Kaguya. And as for the reason that I am here to warn you about that fruit." Midoriya just waited in silence and she touched his face. Her hands were really warm and she said with a sad expression, "Before we jump to that, I should clarify a few aspects of my existence that were written as reliable knowledge but are untrustworthy. Do you mind hearing my accurate history?" She dropped her hand and waited, never looking away from his face. "Yes," he whispered and she started. "I never had value as a being to my clan. All they cared about was my blood and the prospect of purity within the family. At a very young age, I was told to wait for my husband to be born, so we could marry and mix 2 individuals whose blood could transcend the most heavenly blood they knew, achieving a new power, a new evolution, but in the meantime, I was to bear children from all of them. I refused and asked for help from the older gods, but none answered. A few lower gods took pity on my suffering and tried to fight my clan. That was when they hid me on Earth. The humans created tales about my sadness. They said I cried looking at the moon, but that was not sadness, it was only despair. Every night I looked up and wished the moon was destroyed, that I could live in peace as a human, but every night it was there reminding me they were still there, waiting to take me back. I then found this place after hearing tales from the humans about how it was cursed, so I came looking for the forbidden fruit and ate it without a doubt on my mind, thinking I had nothing to lose. How mistaken I was. She turned and walked to the edge of the ravine, sitting, leaving her feet dangling, placing her hand up to invite him to sit with her. Midoriya sat, hypnotized by her tale, unaware that below him was just the infinite. She continued, "It was not a curse, it was a price. The moment I ate it, I felt something dark inside my body, and before I left, I used the rest of the control that I had to hide a part of my existence inside the tree. This dark being took control of my body, making me its prisoner. Sometimes I could reclaim control over my body for a few hours, and in one of those moments, I used my new power to give life to my 2 sons. For some time, they were my biggest joy. Even if I spent most of the time locked inside my own body, I could still see them, but as they grew, something changed, and after that, I was not in control of my body at all. I saw myself walking around, but I could not stop. I saw myself silent, but I could not speak. I was imprisoned inside my own flesh without any hope of ever being free, and had to watch as that thing wearing my skin and my face manipulated, killed, tortured, and enslaved my sons, their sons, and grandsons. It was unbearable to watch as I saw curses and wars falling upon humanity, all caused by me, until my sons, my 2 sons, managed to stop her to stop me. Although they won, I still was not destroyed. I was still there, and years later, I was revived. But my 2 sons' reincarnations finally brought an end to me. I was able to restore my body using the small part of my conscience hidden inside the tree, but someone was already here, waiting for me, and as he pierced me with his sword, leaving me to die, he uttered these words, "Perish as the filth you love, you are a disgrace." Before I drew my last breath, I tried to hold to my life, so I did it again. I became this memory, waiting, hearing nothing, seeing nothing. I do not know when, why, or how, but someday one being appeared here. Since I had lost my body, I could not see Earth anymore. I just existed floating around this place. But on the day this creature came here, I was still able to see. I saw it touching the tree, making a new fruit sprout. I could not see his face, but he saw me and vanished without a trace. I had been waiting since that moment, waiting to know what happened to my 2 beautiful boys who changed the world that I almost destroyed, my 2 boys who saved their people just like they said they would. Midoriya wasn't sure if he should tell her what happened, but he decided to go for the truth. I can't say how reliable our books are, but your descendants, all of those who had traces of this fruit's power inside of them, were hunted and killed by a being called the Second. Only a few survived, and when faced with extinction, the last 3 families decided to seal away their power till the end of times. Kaguya's expression was heartbreaking. Midoriya felt a sadness without precedent, seeing her face full of despair and sorrow like that. "But you are my son, I can tell." She looked at his face, searching for comfort, searching for a small glimpse of hope. "I'm a descendant, but I may be the last one. I can't say what exactly is happening behind the curtains, but in my world, I never saw anything even remotely close to chakra. I'm sorry, and I should be sincere. I indeed came here searching for a way to get stronger. I came looking for power so I can protect everyone back in my world." "You came for power, but you want the power to protect all the others." She was incredulous, but suddenly a warm smile spread on her face, and after getting up, she grabbed his hand, pulling him towards the fruit. "I believe you could be the exception, my son. After this moment, my existence will finally vanish, but I am glad that you came to see me one last time." She started to cry while holding his face between her hands, always smiling, and Midoriya didn't notice he was crying too. "I am glad I could see my sons' faces and hear their words one last time because you represent both of them. You are carrying their will inside of you, but you must leave us behind and begin a new journey, your journey. You possess the connection to the fruit, but you do not have to eat it. You will become something new, and with that, I hope this entity called the Second will never come to harm you." Midoriya saw as her hand started to turn into light, her touch disappearing, and for some unknown reason, he tried to grab her. But she wasn't there anymore. He could only see her body disintegrating, hearing her last words, like a whisper inside his head. "I love you, my child, and it does not matter that I will not be there to see your future. I am certain you will make me proud of your righteousness and compassion, proud of your strength and courage. Never forget that I love you. Now go ahead. I am too tired. I cannot go any longer. It is my time to finally rest. Touch it and begin your journey. Good luck and goodbye, my sweet angel." Her face turned into light and silence filled the air. Midoriya kept staring, but there was nothing left but the feeling of emptiness. He turned and looked at the fruit again, realizing he was crying this whole time. He wiped the tears and touched the fruit, whispering while closing his eyes, "Goodbye, mother." Midoriya felt engulfed by something coming from the fruit, pulling him forward until he fell again. Opening his eyes but seeing Bakugo crouched 10 feet away from him and Tokoyami using his battle stance while Dark Shadow stood in front of him with his claws on a defensive position. Midoriya slowly blinked and felt tears rolling down his face. "What's going on?" he asked, a little dizzy. "We should be asking you that, you fucking bastard. Look around you, Midoriya." Tokoyami pointed. Midoriya looked down and saw himself in the same position he was, but now the surrounding area was burnt and destroyed. He was feeling awake now, so he got up and asked, "What exactly happened? Did I hurt you?" "No, but if we weren't paying attention I believe we could have died. Some kind of energy started coming out of you and out of nowhere lightning bolts struck everything around you. We tried to call out, but you looked asleep. What happened?" Midoriya looked to his left hand and raised it, feeling the link to the fruit alongside with the new link he made with his mother. He was able to feel all that power now. He was the one connected to the fruit. He felt like he could do anything. He felt he could be anything. He felt like a god. I felt the darkness inside of me. How pretty accurate. Tough luck you're stuck with me because you can send dark thoughts as much as you like. You'll never see daylight through my eyes. You'll remain there in the darkness, being used until the day I decide to get rid of you. Midoriya thought that as if he was speaking towards someone or something, feeling hurt. It wasn't really an entity, but he felt disgusted and revolted by the thing that did all those things to Kaguya. She didn't deserve all of that. She was so kind. He raised his right hand as well and said out loud while activating the Crimson Moon. Ragin. Both his hands literally disappeared under the immense amount of bolts of lightning gathering on his palms, but this time, they weren't completely out of control. He looked at Takoyami and answered his question with a sad smile. Nothing happened. I just had a pleasant dream. Midoriya, Bakugo, and Takoyami were walking in silence, heading towards Midoriya's home. None of them could think about a topic to speak, so they just kept walking in silence. Out of nowhere, a cruiser stopped next to them, two cops getting out of the car, one of them speaking loudly. You must be the two troublemakers, Midoriya Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki. How the chief of police in the Quirk misuse department wants to interview both of you. Let's go, you're coming with us. Midoriya looked at his face and noticed an angry edge to his tone. He felt so annoyed because of how unfair this situation was. Bakugo was about to explode as well, but even he knew they were in a tight spot, so he spat on the floor and started walking towards the cruiser, making the policeman smirk. It was a thing that started happening in this Quirk-based society a couple of years ago. People who were born quirkless were knocked into less relevant security jobs, developing some kind of resentment towards those who had powers. It was only natural if you think about it. While Bakugo walked, Midoriya thought for 1 second about all this and if what he was feeling right now was all coming from him or if the darkness had something to do with it. For the moment, he felt only himself. I don't mind going along, sir, but could you please stop your assumptions and judgment toward us? We did nothing wrong. Hey Brad, you're already deep into trouble and you want to run your mouth? Get in now. Bakugo stopped moving towards the car as well, his hands closing into fists as he looked down, biting his lips until blood started coming out, frustrated. Yes, Bakugo was out of options, but Midoriya didn't feel that way anymore, so he took one step closer and said in a controlled voice, "If you'll behave like this, sir, I'm afraid I can't comply with your request, so, the other troublemaker and I will walk back to my home and wait for someone else to come pick us up. Let's go, Kakin." The police officer couldn't believe what he just heard and his face changed into one filled with rage and disgust. You're committing a crime, you spoiled little shit. You're not going to follow a policeman's order. We represent this city, and if someone who can make a face like that towards 3 teenagers is representing the city, maybe it's time to change the police staff. Who knows, maybe we should change the entire city instead. Let's go, Kakin. Midoriya turned, starting to walk away, but snuck a glance over his shoulder, noticing the man's hand on his gun, his face showing concern and worry as he was deciding if he should arrest them right now or not. Boy, if you reach for that shit, I don't give a fuck if you're wearing a uniform or not, I'll blast your arm off. Bakugo hissed and walked past him, going with the other two, as the policeman's partner radioed about what just happened. 2 hours later, at Midoriya's home, they were waiting inside his room. Takoyami was reading the book about Kaguya's children, completely absorbed while Bakugo was sitting, facing Midoriya. Dumb move back there, aren't you supposed to be the obedient kid? He chuckled, and Midoriya, who was facing a wall lost in thoughts, turned and answered. I guess I changed and I guess I have a weak spot against humiliation. I wonder where that came from. Fuck off. Guess it's a mystery. Suddenly they heard sirens coming from afar, and Midoriya said to Takoyami while getting up, "When I have news, I'll call you. Okay, thank you for coming today." He raised his closed fist towards him, but Takoyami walked by and gave him a one-arm hug. After letting him go, the boy bumped Midoriya's chest with his fist closed. Be smart, be cool. Hey, I'm always cool. Don't worry, I'll see you later. They went to the living room while Midoriya led Takoyami to sit in the kitchen, so he could wait for everything to end. Someone banged on the door and they heard a loud voice. "Police department, open up." Inko, who was aware of everything, opened the door and got swarmed by at least 10 special agents, all wearing black and using tactical helmets. "You two on the ground now." Midoriya looked at Takoyami, who raised his eyebrows, saying, "I told you without words. I'm sorry, but we won't get on the ground, officers." "What do you want?" "You're being taken into custody for refusing to obey police's orders and for threatening a policeman. Now, on the ground or we may be obliged to use force." Midoriya raised both his eyebrows to that absurd and got a little out of control. "We're not showing any aggression, but if you use any kind of violence toward us, I'll retaliate. Please, I'm more than ready to go with you to your station and answer all your questions. I'm not declining the order, I'm declining to obey this kind of approach just as I did before. I guess they were right to send us, then." Midoriya saw two forms coming between the cops and instantly recognized the two pro-heroes facing him. Kamui Woodson, Gang Orkeson. "Would you be a good boy and comply with the agents? We don't want to hurt you in your own home and in front of your mother." Yang Orca said, trying to be reasonable. "I have nothing but respect for the two of you, and I never said I wouldn't comply with an order. I said I won't obey this kind of approach since I'm not a criminal. Please, lead the way. I'll be glad to follow you to the department." Midoriya waited and saw Kamui duck. "Enough of this, young man. Arbor, he said while aiming his arm forward, making wood expand and grow towards Midoriya, but he was waiting for that, making a gesture with his hand while saying, Raging Blade. As the wood was about to touch him, an energy flash coming out of nowhere cut everything in its path, opening a hole on the ceiling. The policemen aimed their guns. I told you that any violence towards us would be retaliated. I'm not refusing to obey. I'm not going to obey your approach. If I feel threatened, I will defend myself. You think you can decide what you can or cannot obey? Kid Kamui asked, a little edgy, and feeling this was no joke, he went all in. Chains prison. Both his arms sent wood everywhere, growing into every direction, twisting and going towards Midoriya, but as he activated his secret technique, he saw Midoriya's eyes change, and so did Gang Orca, feeling the danger the boy was emanating. Rage and enhancement. They saw the moment that actual bolts of lightning started covering both his arms with its energy, and before the wood could expand and reach him, they heard a shot followed by an explosion that shook the whole small room. After the small dust cloud faded, they saw Bakugo next to Midoriya with his hands sparkling, looking at Kamui with a cold expression. Midoriya had noticed Bakugo deciding if he should attack or not and was now surprised that he really went for it. Kamui-san, you asked me before if I thought that I could decide what I want to obey, right? We all can decide that. And I want to obey the law, but I won't obey overreacting law enforcement officers in some kind of personal vendetta against Quirk's users, or pro-heroes who decide to use brute force and repression as their first tool dealing with teenagers that aren't showing any sign of aggression. Bakugo looked at him and whispered, What the F are you turning into some fucking SJW now? Midoriya chuckled but quickly recovered. He couldn't laugh right now. This was a serious conversation. Freaking Bakugo. Kamui was positioning his arms again and the policemen disabled their safety locks, but before hell went down, they saw a boy walking into the scene, followed by a big bird-looking dark entity. They saw the entity instantly assume a defensive position, blocking the policemen's aim. A mutant-type Kamui Woods thought, putting his arms down, rethinking his battle plan. That should enough, Takoyami said, and the tension could be felt in the air until Gang Orca grabbed Kamui's shoulder and said, Enough, all of you, lower your weapons, now. They all looked apprehensive but obeyed. Gang Orca then turned to Midoriya, Bakugo, and the newest addition, Takoyami. You three will be in trouble for attacking a pro-hero and going against our orders, but I understand your heart. Please, come with us quietly. You too. He pointed at Takoyami who nodded, making Dark Shadow retreat and Midoriya stopped his rage and enhancement, also turning off the Crimson Moon. Yes, sir, but we didn't attack anyone, we just defend ourselves. Midoriya answered and Bakugo started walking ahead with Midoriya following behind, and Takoyami closing the line. Or sir, they're supposed to be in handcuffs, a higher rank officer said, but Gang Orca quickly replied. I'll take full responsibility, let's go. Bakugo passed directly facing Kamui before turning to get out, followed by Midoriya who walked by without looking at him at all, while Takoyami nodded once as an apology before heading out. Outside, there were a lot of cruisers and next to one of them was Inko, who shouted when she saw her son, turning to a closer officer to ask, Izuku, where are you taking my son? What is going on? Calm down, ma'am. Gang Orca-san, can I have a second to calm my mom, please? Gang Orca looked at him for a second, like he was evaluating his intentions, and nodded while saying, Make haste. Midoriya walked towards her and got a hug while she started saying incomprehensive words. Calm down, Mom, I'm just going to answer some questions. Don't forget to eat. I'll be back soon. He gave her a kiss and walked back to Gang Orca's side, getting inside a big black SUV, with Bakugo on his left looking outside the window with a bored face, his chin resting on his hand, and Takoyami on his right, eyes closed, sitting with his arms and legs crossed, looking like the badass he was. They saw Kamui sitting in an adjacent sit while Gang Orca used the other sit across the car. It was a big car. Why did you lie in your Quirk description, Midoriya Izuku? Gang Orca asked, making Bakugo's eyes switch to the inside of the car, and Takoyami's face slightly turn. I didn't. Everything there is true. I don't remember reading anything related to energy or electricity manipulation. I can assure you it's a derivation of my power, and that I didn't lie on my record. You don't realize the trouble you got yourself and your friends into, do you? Kamui asked rhetorically. They just remained in silence for the rest of the ride, heading directly to the central precinct while back at Midoriya Street the neighbors stopped the camera that was getting everything from the beginning of the approach. They saw again the moment the boys were taken, rewinding the video to see all the action, including everything that happened inside Midoriya's living room, everything that they saw through the open window. They were put on the same room while waiting for the authorities to come and Midoriya asked to Takoyami, Why did you meddle? Yami, everything was under control. I know, I just felt like meddling, he said dismissively, and Midoriya sighed while looking at Bakugo. Are you mad I put you into this? Bakugo didn't turn, answering while looking straight at the one-sided mirror. I decided to help you save those people. If it weren't for me you would be 6 feet under. Hey, that's debatable. Midoriya scoffed, tilting his head. Oh, yay, tell me, oh mighty one, what would you have fucking done if I wasn't there? The only real issue would be the last room. I guess I wouldn't be able to finish without villains' casualties, Midoriya said while holding his chin. You became such an arrogant prick. Kakin, was that an insult or did you just do a self-evaluation? I'm so proud of you right now. I'll blow you into pieces, shitty nerd. I should have stayed at home, Takoyami thought while sighing. The door went open and 4 people entered the room: Chief of the Police Tsurugami Kenji, a man using a suit who Midoriya didn't know, Pro Hero Gang Orca, and finishing the line Pro Hero Endeavor. As they entered, the 3 boys instinctively looked at Endeavor, feeling the heat of his flames and his presence that demanded attention, but only 2 felt pressured by his intensity. Now, I believe we have a lot to discuss, Chief Tsurugami said while sitting, and Midoriya used his Crimson Moon, making everyone inside tension their muscles, but he just wanted to check something and instantly turned it off. I believe we do, Chief Tsurugami. Midoriya felt a little nervous now, knowing that behind that glass were the 3 Yaoyorozu family members, the UAS principal, a representative of the government he saw on TV, and at least 6 pro heroes, including one he instantly recognized, All Might. Verdict. Chief Tsurugami opened a folder on the desk and asked without beating around the bushes. An officer said you refused to comply with his order to get inside a police vehicle and said, quote, I don't care if you're wearing a uniform, I'll blow your arm off, end quote. Is this correct? Bakugo was eager to answer, but Midoriya knew he was going to lose his temper again, so he elbowed at him with a suggestive face while taking the lead. No, this report is incomplete, so it's not wrong. Bakugo Katsuki really said that. No, I didn't say that. I said it is incomplete, so we can assume the report is wrong, since the report is incomplete. And what is the actual history here, young man? They heard Endeavor asking, but Tsurugami spoke first. Please, Endeavor, let me finish the standard procedure first. He then turned to the boys again, cleaning his throat. Sorry, Mr. Endeavor was around and I invited him to watch since he was curious. Don't you actually mean he was called? He was called because you weren't sure if the police officers or the other pro heroes could handle us, am I right, Chief Tsurugami? The man with the dog head stared back with a serious gaze while Endeavor left out a tiny chuckle. We'll come back to this. Next, Midoriya Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki resisted following the policemen's instructions to get on the ground, and later, Midoriya Izuku threatened to retaliate any aggression from Pro Heroes Gang Orca and Kamui Woods. Then Midoriya Izuku proceeded to use an unidentified power to repel Kamui Woods' attempts to restrain him, followed by Bakugo Katsuki and later, Fumikage Takoyami, who interfered, stopping the police's advance. Is all the information written in this report correct? No, sir. The only correct part is the last part you just read. He closed the folder and placed his hands on the table. Do you realize what you have done? Do you realize you have committed a crime? The thing is, I'm pretty sure I didn't. What? I'm a minor, so I don't have to enter any police vehicles if I'm not being detained, which I wasn't. This may be a hero-based society, but we do have laws. Also, I didn't refuse to follow the policemen back to the precinct to provide answers. I refused to get on the ground because of their unreasonable approach and caused by the concern towards my safety after my home was raided. Since you lacked a cause, considering I didn't commit a crime refusing to enter the vehicle in the first place. A rude and disrespectful officer invited me to join a vehicle without my parents' presence, so I refused. The officer then gave the impression he was going to take his firearm out, so Katsuki said, quote, Oi, if you reach for that shit, I don't give a fuck if you're wearing a uniform or not, I'll blast your arm off, end quote. Your tactical team then storms into my house, drags my mother outside, points guns at me and my friends, even though we didn't commit any crime, and you dare to ask me if I know that I've committed a crime. The entire room was silent and perplexed, except maybe for Endeavor, who was looking at Chief Tsurugami with disgust. Who do you think you're talking to? Boy, I find your tone very disrespectful, and you. I'm talking to the Chief of Police, Tsurugami Kenji, and it's Midoriya Izuku, not boy, sir. Chief Tsurugami was visually irritated now, and Midoriya thanked God for the internet and his powers that allow him to remember everything he read about the law before their arrival, his heart racing. Right, you think you're so clever, but we have the first accusation about your conduct inside the Yaoyorozu mansion. Before he could finish again, a woman stormed through the door and everyone looked at her while she took a chair from the corner and sat next to Bakugo, saying nothing. Well, what are you doing? We're in the middle of an interrogation. Who are you to begin with? Oh, did I forget to introduce myself? I'm their lawyer, so I decided to join you since they're being charged as adults for inappropriate conduct and nobody cared to read their rights. I'm sorry, I just got assigned the case, but as I can surmise, all they did was to protect human lives, saving 2 parents with the consent of their daughter, actual owner of the house they trespassed, as you said in your report, and 21 other lives. Here you can see how the Yaoyorozu family signed this letter, publicly thanking the 2 for their help and disapproving the police's response and treatment towards them. Also, I have this log and security footage where we can see one of your officers, representing your department, putting pressure on the boys' school principal for more severe punishment, asking specifically for Midoriya Izuku's expulsion. Lastly, I would like you to watch this video that is everywhere on the internet. She handed him a small device that Chief Tsurugami held in his hands, watching for a few minutes, giving it back to her with his jaw locked. He glared at Midoriya and said while getting up, I'll keep my eyes on you, Midoriya. Your lack of discernment is a big flaw for someone who aims to be a hero. I guess coming from someone who runs a department that threatens and bullies to get the wanted results, your opinion and definition of what a hero should be are worthless to me. Midoriya said that without any hint of provocation, he was simply speaking his mind. With this, I believe all charges will be immediately dropped, right, Mr. Tsurugami? Yes, I'll file the papers in a few hours. Thank you. Do it in the next 30 minutes and I won't press charges specifically against you for illegal arrest. Feel free to contact your superiors, because your department is being sued for harassment, misconduct, illegal arrest, defamation, and false report since we have a record of the conversation between these three and your two troopers. The actual conversation. Have an excellent day. He narrowed his eyes and left the room with his right fist closed. Yang Orca left as well, while the man wearing a suit started talking. Midoriya Izuku, my name is Kazuma Ryu. I'm here because the Department of Quirks misused pointed inconsistencies between your report and your current power. Could you clarify what your extrasensorial quirk can do in detail, and what is this electrical technique called Raijin? Midoriya tried to read his face, but he was good at pretending. He had his pen pointed to a chart, waiting for him to speak. I'll be blunt then. The first document is correct. My extrasensorial quirk allows me to have faster reactions, and a few days ago I started developing control over electricity, more specifically, over lightning. Maximum power is unknown, weaknesses are unknown, range is unknown, continuous use limit is unknown, techniques are still in the process of creation. The man looked up, glaring at him as he played with the system, giving only the information necessary, and after quickly writing what he said, he got up and left without a word. Endeavor was now the only one who remained inside the room, against a wall with his arms crossed. Mr. Endeavor, I would like to talk with my clients in private, if you don't mind. If you don't mind, I would like to have a word with Midoriya Izuku alone. You can use the empty room on the left. I won't hold him for long. There's no protocol. It's okay, miss, I'm sorry I don't know your name. It's okay, I'll join you soon. Midoriya looked at Takoyami and Bakugo, both staring back, trying to figure out his plan, and nodded once. They got up and left, giving him one last look before the door was closed. Midoriya remained on his chair while Endeavor started asking. Tell me, what is the meaning of the word hero to you? Someone that won't fail. A hero will do whatever it takes to ensure everyone's safety, no matter the cost. Even his life. He answered instinctively, since this probably was what Endeavor wanted. What would you consider being the most important attribute of a hero? The most important attribute of a hero. The most important attribute you should have as a hero is strength. Endeavor raised his eyebrows, looking impressed by that answer. How so? The hero doesn't win because he's right, or because he's good, or because everyone is cheering for him. No, in the end, he wins because he's strong. With strength, you can protect everything, but at the same time, with strength, a villain can destroy anything. That's why a hero must always be the strongest. Endeavor smirked and continued. Who is your inspiration? Who is your role model hero? No one. He instantly answered, and Endeavor's smirk widened. If you're willing, could you show me your quirk? Sure, no problem at all. Crimson Moon. Raijin. He looked at the glass and there were more people than before. He guessed they wanted some evidence, but it was strange being looked at like a freak. What could be considered strange as well was the fist coated with fire that was coming straight at Midoriya's face, making him dodge in the last moment by reflex. Watching Endeavor right arm passing by, and after leaning his body all the way to the left, deactivating the Raijin on his left hand, Midoriya placed his hand on the floor, making an improvised side flip, getting off the chair and aiming his right foot, already coated with lightning, straight at Endeavor's face, who blocked with his left like it was nothing, holding Midoriya's leg. But Midoriya wasn't done with this silly test. He was upside down, so he switched hands, creating a new point of balance and getting an impulse that allowed him to spin his torso. He used his left leg to deliver an axe kick. However, Endeavor was aware and moved his right hand to block it as well, but Midoriya predicted that. He changed the kick's trajectory in the last moment, using some physics knowledge, aiming at his shoulder instead of his head. Midoriya stopped just as his foot, completely coated by white lightning, was about to touch Endeavor's shoulder, and he instantly let go of the boy, who put both his hands on the floor again, doing a backflip to return to the ground safe and sound. That was an incredible reaction time, and your body was well trained. Martial arts as well, how your quirk's use can still be improved. Who is your mentor? Endeavor commented as if nothing happened, just a civilized fight to lighten the mood and gather some data. Here I trained with my friend for combat awareness, but I created and trained the techniques by myself. Endeavor smirked again. One last thing, how did you change the path of your last kick that was physically impossible? It's something that I'm still developing, so I can't explain yet, sorry. That was a lie. He could explain, he just wasn't sure if he should. Is this paranoid state coming from my power? Even I can see that I'm being unreasonable, but for some reason, he doesn't seem like he cares about my strange answer. Not at all, young man, excuse me, and good luck on your exams. I'll be sure to watch your performance. He left, closing the door, and Midoriya sat, scratching his head. I just fought the number 2 hero inside a precinct interrogation room. He looked to the window again. With his third Tamo, he could actually see through thin superficies such as glass, not perfectly of course, but well enough for him to see their faces and expressions. He saw Endeavor entering the room and something sparkled inside his head. He took advantage of the glass and started reading the lips of everyone inside, whispering to himself while watching the conversation between the pro heroes. Midnight, so what was that? Was that really lightning? Gang Orca, he didn't use his full potential at all, just his athletic capacity and his fighting skills. I can tell since he used techniques called enhancement and rage and blade back at his house, but didn't use them here. Endeavor, he's good, and that was really an electric force, some kind of energy, still weak, but I'm sure he'll improve. I guess he'll be a good adversary for Kamui. I have the feeling he's dangerous. We should keep an eye on him as a potential villain. Snipe, wow, aren't you going too far there? He's a kid, maybe you're judging him too soon. Kamui, a kid who was able to cut through my quirk. Do you have any idea how hard it is to do that? What happened at his house just shows he'll stand his ground against anyone. He has no respect for authority, and with that kind of power on his hands, he's more dangerous than a few villains I fought. Endeavor, how is he wrong about standing his ground against false accusations? Kamui, he's supposed to obey the law enforcers no matter the implications, and just after coming here, he could give his side of the events and walk away if he did nothing wrong. Midnight, I get your point, Kamui-kun, but I don't think I could endure being handcuffed for doing nothing, although I'd love to put them on people. Kamui, I'm just saying that I believe he's dangerous and can become uncontrollable soon. Nezu, do you know what I believe? Nishiekan, I believe he's watching and listening to every word we're saying right now. Midoriya should be embarrassed by getting caught spying, so the usual response would be to look away, or at least try to fake it, but some unknown feeling made him want to show off a little, so he smirked. Kamui, what, how this is a soundproof room and a one-sided mirror. Nezu, I believe he has some kind of sonar, or he may be reading our lips. I just don't get it why he's whispering at the same time. I should probably stop, but this is too funny, Midoriya thought while looking at their perplexed faces. Finally, the only person who hadn't said a word spoke. All Might, that's impossible. Why? Because I couldn't become a hero, because without a quirk I was useless, and now I have one strong enough to be at the same level as some pro heroes. Nezu, look at his eyes and how he glances towards the person who is speaking. Midnight, let me check if he really changed. Nezu, if you're hearing us, could you give us a signal? Midoriya-kun. Midoriya stood motionless. Nezu, if you're reading our lips, could you give us a signal? Midoriya-kun. Midoriya moved one hand to his forehead and saluted them with 2 fingers. Kamui was perplexed, as much as he was mad. Kamui, what did I tell you? Hiding his powers from the association. You want to be a hero, but you don't endorse our ideals, you're just prideful and arrogant. Midoriya finally spoke, and his words were addressed directly to Kamui. I suppose you can say that, but in my opinion, you just got your feelings hurt because you couldn't restrain me. Try to get over your frustration and make no mistake, I assure you that in a fight one-on-one, even 2 against 1, I could easily defeat you. And Midoriya stopped for a second and broke eye contact, looking to the table, realizing that something was off, feeling nothing but shock. Why am I being such an asshole to them? I'm speaking like Kek, and actually I'm being worse, I'm only using better words. He's a pro hero that I also admire, but I'm just mad at him for going against me, so much that I want to— what is this feeling, this urge? I want to fight him, to somehow hurt him. He gasped, being taken by shock again as it finally struck him. He remembered what left his mind after today's trouble. He remembered that he wasn't alone anymore, that inside him, something existed. He looked up again, seeing everyone facing him, but he didn't know what to say, so after a few seconds of thinking where nobody said anything, he finally spoke. I'm sorry, Kamui-san. I lost my temper. I was being disrespectful to you and to Gang Orca-san. I understand that even if I'm right, I should have never fought you or Gang Orca-san, because the only message that I'm sending by fighting you both is that I don't value the heroes' jobs, what they represent, what they stand for, as much as I value myself. For that, I apologize. What I did was wrong, so I owe you 2 an apology. I'm very sorry. He slightly bowed, and after breaking eye contact again, he left the room, leaving a few pro heroes in complete confusion. What an interesting boy, magnificent quirk as well. I guess what he told the association could be only the tip of the iceberg that are his powers, but I believe a few of you also saw what I just saw. The heroes looked around and none could identify what the principal Nezu was talking about, all but one, the only one who saw what true evil looked like. All Might saw that behind his eyes lied some kind of monster, a monster that was trying to get out. Let's leave it at for now. I'm sure he'll be a magnificent addition to the school, and by turning him into one of our students, we can also keep an eye on him, since he'll need guidance in his development. Nezu smiled while Midnight asked, how do you know he's going to apply for UA? I don't. I'll invite him using the special recommendations exam. Midoriya took the first door on the left, desperate to get away from the heroes before they could come and ask him more questions. Walking in to see their lawyer, a lady with short brown hair, and Yaoyorozu Momo, waiting for him while chatting with Tokoyami and Bakugo. The moment he entered, he saw something on Bakugo's expression that was off, but the boy turned his face away before he could see what it was. I'm sorry it took so long, Midoriya-san. I asked my parents to help you 2 get out of this mess, so they called our family's lawyer that was on vacation. She's been gathering data since yesterday. Oh, where are my manners? This is Azusagawa Ryoko. She pointed to the woman and Midoriya bowed while saying, sorry for getting you out of your vacation, Azusagawa-san, and thank you for your help. For Midoriya's surprise, she laughed and spoke with a devilish smile while waving her hand. For the money they're paying me to save such a simple case, I wouldn't mind if you boys were to get into trouble more often, she said while laughing out loud. Ryokocha, and Yaoyorozu shouted, embarrassed by the woman's manners, but Midoriya liked her free spirit and could almost laugh almost. Although you were doing a fine job defending your case from their accusations, are you training to be a lawyer? No, I just used the internet and memorized a few things. I had no idea how to escape the last accusation. They do this when they want to make an example out of someone. In this case, this whole thing is related to a robbery that happened months ago where someone tried to chase the offender and ended up being mistakenly shot by policemen. The victim survived, but the police department was blamed and flamed for relying too much on heroes, to the point they were forgetting to train their officers by themselves. The community said that ordinary crimes happen between normal people as well, not only Quirk's users, and that these crimes were the police's responsibility, not the heroes. Ever since this incident, they became more aggressive, especially against Quirk's users, who they blamed for their failure and the massive amount of dismissals following the repercussion, so be careful. Thank you, Azusagawa-san, and thank you, Yaoyorozu-san, you saved us. Oh, where are your parents? I want to thank them as well. They went home already. It was nothing. What you and Bakugo-san did for us can't be paid, so the least we could do was to get you out of this situation that happened because of us. Yes, we should go. Oh, you think I can get my swords back? They took them right after I finished giving interviews and said they were evidence. Yes, I'll get it done in a moment. Azusagawa left the room and Tokoyami asked what Endeavor wanted. I think he was testing me. He tried to punch me, so we fought a little. What did you win? Bakugo asked desperately. No, if it was a proper fight, I think he would have kicked my ass. He didn't even use his quirk, while I had to use Raijin and the Crimson Moon. I'm still weak in comparison. Raijin, Yaoyorozu asked, confused. It's something new. Let's say I'm a little stronger than yesterday when we met. Oh, that's nice. A little try a lot. You fought and repelled Kamui Woods, for God's sake. Tokoyami sighed. What, you really did that? Midoriya and I thought they were exaggerating on their reports. That part was real, although I was a little mad and never had the intention of fighting him. I admire him. Midoriya was glad the subject changed because he didn't want to tell them what happened a few minutes ago. The door went open a few minutes later and Azusagawa Ryoko showed a smiling face while bringing two swords to view, asking cheerfully, "Are these the ones?" Outside the building, two cars were waiting, and Yaoyorozu Momo explained to the boys, who looked confused about why she was leading them towards the vehicles. One is for me and the other is to take you home. I heard you'll attend the UA exams, so I hope we can get in and be in the same class. Thank you again, and let me know if anything happens. Bye," she said, waving while getting inside the car that instantly took off. Bakugo and Tokoyami got in the second car, but Midoriya said before shutting the door close, "I have something to do, so I'll talk to you later." Wait, Tokoyami tried to ask what Midoriya was going to do, but the driver instantly took off, leaving only the green-haired boy with two swords on his waist. He asked Yaoyorozu to create something to help him carry his weapons, and she asked where he wanted to carry them, crossed or in diagonal on his back, or maybe the classic way on his waistline. Midoriya chose his waistline, but the classic way was uncomfortable, increasing his body radius, so he asked her to do a few adjustments so he could position both swords diagonally on his lower back. The bigger one made by Yaoyorozu diagonally, and the shorter one he inherited, slightly more parallel to the ground so both could fit the space behind his own body, allowing him to move freely. They positioned both to his left side, contrary to his dominant hand. The short one could be unsheathed by his left hand since her handle and length were smaller, but the bigger one could only be unsheathed by his right. He actually liked it since he had two options to start an offensive move. She created some kind of harness for him to tie the scabbards and taught him how and where to strap everything. After one explanation, he memorized the entire process, using the Crimson Moon. Midoriya was finally alone now. He wanted to be alone for some time, so he could think without having someone looking at his face. It was almost nightfall, so he checked his phone. And after calling his mom to let her know everything was fine, he took a closer look at his bandages, remembering his leg felt just fine while fighting Endeavor. He touched his leg, feeling almost no pain, so he turned to leave, saving the questions about his new super leg for later. After ignoring a few calls from Tokoyami, he walked slowly, remembering what went down inside that room. So much for my big words. I sensed it back there. It may not be as strong as the being that overtook Kaguya's body, but it's something strong enough to turn me into someone despicable like that. He was feeling a small crack on his resolve, but he had a strange impulse all of a sudden, so he stopped, giving a little thought before crossing the street, taking a different path. Arriving at his destination after dark, he turned the corner and saw the person he was looking for, realizing he wasn't the only one thinking about what happened earlier today. He approached while watching the girl dangling her feet, looking to the sky. She noticed him and turned, her face brightening, as Midoriya kept walking towards her with his hands inside his pockets. He came here with one objective in mind, to get an answer from this girl. "Hiro-san, I knew you were going to come back. I was waiting for you. I wanted to talk with you more. I wanted to know you more." Midoriya noticed her face, feeling tense and concerned. Toga Himiko. She may have some major mental illness or some intense trauma. I can't picture a high schooler willingly becoming a criminal. Something must have happened to her, something very traumatic. "Hi again, my name is Midoriya Izuku. I wanted to meet you again, Toga-san." He tried to be civil since he wasn't in a mood for another fight. Toga-chan, it's Toga-chan, and we're friends, so we can call each other without the formality. I finally know your name, Izukyu-kun. She almost purred his name, her face completely red. They were close now and Midoriya had an insight, a normal one, regarding the girl's behavior, so instead of being on guard, he walked towards her, watching her reaction very closely as he sat next to her, as close as the space allowed, practically invading her personal space, their shoulders touching. He waited, but she didn't say a thing. I came here because I have a lot on my mind right now. I want to ask you something though. It's about… Yes, she choked, looking at the ground. What I haven't asked yet. I know what you're going to ask, and the answer is yes, I'll be your girlfriend. AWWW. I can't believe I have a boyfriend now. Midoriya just stared at her, horrified, while she was covering her face, embarrassed. Toga-san, I'm sorry, but I wasn't going to ask that exactly. He tried to sound as kind as possible not to trigger her, but the girl turned her face towards him, her eyes narrowed and her smile gone. She looked like an animal, like a monster, her yellow cat eyes almost glowing. Oh, that was all she asked with a different voice, deeper than her usual shrill one. Aw shit, here we go again. Midoriya prepared himself for the worst but tried something to avoid the conflict. Don't snap, I wasn't going to ask that. We just met today, so we need to work on our friendship first, right? And you need to work on your… He was going to say madness, then he changed to behavior, and then he gave up, trying to point at something on her body that could be worked instead of calling her nuts, but gave up on that too, looking away while she glared at him. He was waiting for the verdict until she finally gave it to him. Since we're friends, I forgive you, but only if you let me see some of your blood, okay, she said with her hand slowly going down to her pocket, so Midoriya had to act quickly. What's up with you and blood? How you mentioned the first time we met and now again. Why is blood somehow related to you or your quirk? He tried to keep her mind busy and her hands steady. I don't know how to answer that. I just love blood. It's so cute that I can't control myself. So, can I see your blood now? Izukyu-kun, pretty please. She was insistent, but Midoriya wanted his blood inside his body, not being displayed. Thank you very much. No, you cannot. And before you snap at me again, let me remind you that you can't beat me, so no blood for you and no more fighting me or trying to stab me, or trying to cut me or whatever. Nuwo, why are you so mean even though I love you, Izukyu-kun? I knew the moment I first saw you, the moment your eyes became red. Awa, they are so cute. I want to be closer to you. I want to be even closer to you now, so I can become like you, so I can become you, she said while leaning on his right arm, resting her chin on his shoulder, facing his neck. What, this is a nightmare. I never saw a person so perturbed in my life, not even in horror or psychological movies. What the hell is she talking about? And there's one more thing, blood obsession, crazy, kind of pervert, and long canines. Is she some kind of vampire? Midoriya felt the urgency to turn his face towards her, hiding his neck while slightly leaning away. Midoriya also felt something strange on his lower body, but instead of asking out loud what was going on, he just let it happen so he could understand what that was. I don't know what you meant by that, and also love, I'm sorry, Toga-san, but you don't seem like the loving type, you're more like the stabbing type. She laughed out loud to that and said, but I am. I love lots of people. She got up and started walking back and forward on the sidewalk, gesturing while explaining her twisted notion. It's hard to live, you know, so I want the world to become an easier place to live, and then I can have lots of friends. Midoriya could almost understand, but he needed to leave before the situation could get out of control. I came to ask you something. I don't know what happened to you, Toga-san, but I know you're a villain and that you're a little mentally unstable. She stopped walking and faced him, her smile vanishing, but Midoriya kept going. I want to ask you, Toga-san, why did you become a villain? After hearing that question, she just stood there, staring at him for some time until she answered. I already told you, Izukyu-kun, I just want an easier place to live. This one hurts me, so I want a new one that doesn't hurt, and Toga isn't a villain, Toga just likes a little blood, she said with a smile. So you don't even understand what you are. I guess you can't give me an answer then? I'll have to keep looking. Midoriya got up and took 2 steps away from her, but stopped and asked after turning. I gotta go home, could you please give me back my sword? He raised his left hand and a smile started spreading on her face as she moved one arm from behind her back, holding a big silver katana. That was the strange thing that he felt before. Was that part of her quirk? How did you know that I took it? You didn't take it. I allowed you to take it because I wanted to understand what exactly is your quirk. So, can you give it back? How about we play for it, Izukyu-kun? Oh dear God, please watch over me. I'm not going to die. And my Midoriya could almost hear God answering back, probably, and you're on your own with this one, good luck. Will it end with someone bleeding? He asked, already knowing the answer while she giggled. Probably, but if you win, I'll give it back, I promise. Come on, play with me. She started doing some weird sword stances, swinging the sheathed weapon around. It was kind of cute. Fine, can you please make it quick? What are we playing? We're playing cops and robbers. Seriously? Yes, but a different type of cops and robbers. A different type, okay, I'm listening. If you catch me, I'll return the sword I stole, but if you don't, I'll stop being a robber and become a killer. I'll kill the first person I find in the streets. Ready, go. She said all that in one go and turned, running away. Midoriya didn't have time to be even perplexed or to think it was a joke. She was dead serious. He ran after her, feeling his leg tingling a little. She was fast. Midoriya looked at her back and saw that she already had a good 20 meters advantage over him, running while laughing out loud. He wasn't going to catch her with his wounded leg. Damn it. He tried to feel the sword, to move it with his electricity just as he did before, but she was too far and he was too agitated to concentrate. He was thinking about a plan to stop her when he saw a man, probably an office worker, coming back home, wearing a suit, with a briefcase in hand. He also saw that Toga knew how to handle a sword, she was just messing around before. He noticed her assuming a drawing stance while running, ready to slice sideways. No, Toga, stop it. Midoriya knew it was meaningless to talk to her now, but he tried anything to make her stop, as she was 100 meters from the man. 90-80. Hey, you run now. Midoriya saw the gap between them become larger and saw that the man started running after seeing Toga coming from afar, laughing like a maniac, but Toga's speed increased. 60-50. Toga, don't hurt him. He needed to think, but all his options were limited by the distance and his leg, so he stopped, looking completely astonished. She's going to kill him, she's going to murder him with my sword. And I let her take it from me, no, this can't be happening. 30-20. She was leaning forward, preparing herself to strike, when Midoriya had an image of someone. RAIJIN enhancement. He shouted and felt the lighting around his hands, up until the elbows. He started increasing and gathering his strength in the same place, concentrating his energy, shouting while throwing his hands behind him, releasing all the lighting at the same time while impulsing his body up and forward. RAIJIN blade. And then he was flying. Well, flying wasn't the actual word. Just like Bakugo once said that he was just jumping using explosions, Midoriya was jumping using lightning. He gained at least 30 meters, but he was still too far behind, so he pushed his limits. Ragin' blade, Ragin' blade, Ragin' blade. The third one got him 10 meters from her, but he saw the silver of his blade being unsheathed and knew he wasn't going to make in time, so he did the unthinkable. RAIJIN blade. He said one last time, launching himself directly at the man's back, so the motion would make him hit Toga, who was close behind. After getting the last impulse, he weakened his left arm's lightning, swinging his left hand at the man's legs, and saw as he tripped right when Toga made a wide horizontal swing, cutting the back of his suit, but missing his body. She stopped, sliding across the street, and was about to crave the sword on the man's back when Midoriya landed a little too fast at her side, also sliding and tripping forward because of his left leg, but he saw her beginning the next movement from before he landed. So he knew he had no time to do anything other than impulse himself with his right leg, doing a front flip, and after looking back at her, completely upside down, for an instant he could focus and thought while aiming his right hand. Rajin's wrath. Midoriya heard the thunder followed by her long scream, but fell on his back after his improvised move and crashed against a dumpster and later to a wall, feeling pain on his leg and arm. He looked up trying to figure the outcome. She had stopped screaming as the giant lightning bolts that came out of nowhere vanished after electrocuting her for a few seconds, making her drop to her knees and fall backward, hitting her head on the street while letting go of Midoriya's katana. Midoriya saw the man getting up with fear on his face. "Are you okay, sir? Are you hurt?" Midoriya couldn't finish because the man desperately limped away, trying to get some distance from them. Midoriya watched him disappear and went to check on Toga, noticing that she wasn't breathing, unmistakably dead. Oh no. No, Toga. She was irresponsive. She had a few burning marks, especially on the hand she was holding his katana. He started CPR, but she still wasn't responding, so he had a dumb idea, the kind you have when you're desperate. He whispered Ragin and his right hand was coated by lightning again. He felt dizzy after using his power multiple times. But he couldn't let this happen, so this time, he tried to lower the power till the other end, the lightning almost fading away, barely visible. This should be weak enough, right? Please let this work. He placed his hand above her chest and aiming where her small flame was almost gone, he delivered the shock. She jumped but remained dead, so he tried again, slightly increasing the energy before discharging, hearing a hard gasp as she opened her eyes, instantly sitting, gasping and grabbing her chest, groaning just to collapse again, too weak. Ugh. Oh, thank God. Is you cute? If I peed myself, could you pretend it's only rain? She weakly asked, and Midoriya frowned while panting. The skies are clear today, you idiot. Oh, you're really mean, ugh, she uttered before fainting. Midoriya checked himself and saw a few things he should worry about. He had a sprained ankle, his left leg where he got shot was now profoundly bleeding, and he had injuries all over his arms and torso. He took the katana and wrapped it on his waistline before trying to decide what to do with her. She was just struck by lightning, so he had to call an ambulance, figuring that if she had any internal injuries, which were highly probable, she would need further treatment. But he also remembered that she was a villain, so she could end up locked, and he saw that as an absolute win since he just had to literally kill her to stop her rampage. He didn't move her since it was dangerous, but he unfolded her legs that were on a strange angle. He was at a safe distance after a few minutes, watching from afar as the ambulance arrived, leaving after 5 minutes with Toga on the back. He made sure to let them know that she was aggressive and dangerous on his call. Well, that could have been worse, but I guess she was right, someone bled in the end. He thought while looking down to his leg, starting to slowly limping his way back home, dodging the destruction his attacks left on the street, feeling bad for doing such damage. But he just wanted to go home, barely capable to stand on his feet, exhausted, with more bruises and lesser answers to his questions than he had before. After giving the excuse that he got ran over and the driver fled the scene, he threw in Ko-off. But he could see in her eyes that she also thought he could be lying, so he was thankful that she at least didn't push for the truth, giving him some space. She helped him clean his wounds, and after his painful shower, he went to his room, turning his computer on, looking for the news about his case. Sometimes it was strange seeing information related to him on the TV or the internet, but he didn't find a thing about him or Toga, so he decided to take her off his mind for now and focus on his goal, to pass the UA exams. Now with his lightning power, Midoriya felt confident about his offensive set and thought about going to bed early to rest so he could begin his training the fastest he could. But he saw an article on the left part of the website, the kind of advertisement you usually ignore, but this one caught his attention, not because of the title, but because of the content. Get yourself a new body with our electromagnetic therapy, a revolutionary way to end your back and neck pain. Electromagnetic therapy, wait a second. He started searching for pieces of information about that, ending up with articles about other uses and applications such as cellular response to energy influence, uses of electromagnetic therapy to augment the healing process of the body, control of magnetic polarity of ions in the air, how energy could allow attracting and repelling magnetic forces, magnetic fields and magnetic forces against different kinds of metals. The moment he stopped, he had his notebook with 3 pages full of numbers and speculations. All he needed now was a way to measure his electricity's strength and intensity, but how? I never considered this. I was so focused on the crimson moon that I may have misunderstood what this lightning means. This could be the real source of my power. How deep can I manipulate this? He felt really sleepy now, so he left his notes on the desk and went to bed, trying to suppress the new ideas popping inside his mind so he could get some rest. After laying down, he dozed off in a matter of seconds. 2 days later. What happened to you, Midoriya? I heard you got a recommendation letter. Wait, who told you that? Yeah, Yorazusan did. She also received a recommendation. Well, I did receive the letter, but I declined. I don't want to get special treatment for doing nothing, so I'll just enter UA the way I see fit. Now, did you find someone who has what I'm looking for? I comprehend your resolve, but are you certain this is the best choice? Yes, just let it go. Very well. I indeed found someone who has what you asked, my teacher. He said he could help, but he can't bring it here by himself. You must go to his lab to either do your tests there or to bring the equipment here. It is your choice. Can we go now? He said tomorrow. He's busy for today. Okay, tomorrow then. You asked for a strange thing. What are you trying to achieve here? Yami, remember the fruit's tail and the natural powers? Yes, I found them oddly hard to forget. Midoriya chuckled. Now look at this and don't tell these words to anyone. I don't want to take any chances, and it's not like I need to say anymore, but I'll say to you now so you can understand. What you mean you don't need to say anymore? Will you do it with your thoughts? Actually, yes. Saying out loud enhances the element for some reason, but to quickly react, I can just think of the word and the power activates, weaker, but way faster. Now, look at this. Midoriya concentrated the maximum he could, fixating in the fruit's image and pulling the power from its insides, acknowledging its existence to make it exist, and raised one hand saying, Kajin, nothing happened. Suijin, it looked like his hand was sweaty. Daijin, nothing happened. Fujin, a very small whirl appeared and vanished. Rage and lightning gathered in his hand, big and concentrated. Midoriya looked at Takoyami, smirking. You must be joking. That was all Takoyami could answer after seeing that. Yeah, that was my reaction. I had the idea yesterday. At first, I thought I was crazy, then I realized that the natural elements could be what I have as my strongest power. The Crimson Moon is like nothing I've ever seen, but the cost of its evolution is too big for me. I like how it is now, don't get me wrong, but this, look at this, rage and enhancement. What do my hands remind you of? I can't really tell. Right, now try to imagine black lightning and not white. Also with sharper fingers, like a claw. Wait, impossible. Those would be just like Dark Shadow's claws. Yes, the reason would be that the idea, concept, and physics behind these came from Dark Shadow. His concepts were inside my head the first time I used it, so it took its form. You following? Yes, but I still can't understand what that has to do with you creating water and wind out of nowhere. I'm getting there. I read the natural elements again and saw an interesting fact actually. You could say I didn't see a fact and that pointed to an answer. There's no page telling me that one person can manipulate only one element at a time. I deduced that because of my ancestors' book that said most of the people from my bloodline had an affinity to fire, but after I read everything again, I found out that one of them had an affinity to lightning, so I thought those were my only choices. After seeing the red book again and analyzing my genealogic tree one more time, I realized that the marriages that happened between people with power and random normal humans weren't exactly random. Most of them were between clans, and every clan had their own peculiarities, sealed away, but present and possible to be inherited. These eyes were one of those peculiarities, and I'm not sure, but maybe it came from my mother's side, although I never asked her. They could even come from my father's side. They said his quirk was to spit fire, and I don't think it's a coincidence at all. So what if these three elements came from the other side of my family? What if I got my eyes from my father and the ability to wield lightning, water, and wind from my mother, or vice versa? But that's not important. What really matters is the applicability of such powers. They lacked most of the knowledge we have now, our knowledge of physics, chemistry, and biology. What if I can develop and manipulate things in a better way, in a way they never could? Then you could be the king of the fucking world, Deku. Bakugo, what are you doing here? Takoyami frowned while turning to Midoriya. I called him since he went to my house yesterday to check up on me. The hell I did. I just went there to give you some soup the old hag made for you and forced me to deliver it. I'm just joking. Just joking. You don't have a heart, Kaken. You're a ruthless and frightening explosion beast. There, better. Screw you and your shitty sarcasm. Why am I here, Deku? I want your help to train some new things. He was going to give more information, but since it was Bakugo, he just smirked. Oh, why? He looked and sounded confused, so Midoriya teased. Wait, you're declining a fight, less thinking and more shouting? Come on. Hey, you're right. Bakugo jumped, landing an explosion directly at him, who dodged, rolling out of the way, shouting. I didn't say right now. Kaken, wait for me to finish talking to Yami. Who's running now? Shitty nerd. Midoriya sighed and went to the sofa, calling them and repeating everything to Bakugo, who had a similar reaction to Takoyami. You must be fucking kidding me, how something so overpowered as this can exist. Calm down, let me finish. I can't produce or manipulate any of it yet, and there's little information about that on the books. I deduced, for the few lines, that you can improve by continuous use, but I may have misunderstood. In your request, Takoyami asked. Look at this. Midoriya rolled his pants leg and showed an almost healed bullet wound with a few burning marks around it, almost healed as well. I can only think of one person who could have healed that. She's the legendary hero working as a nurse. Yes, so now there's two. I took my idea from her quirk. Recovery Girl Quirk's description says she uses her quirk to activate and speed up the healing process using the target's strength. So I thought about that after seeing an advertisement on electromagnetic therapy and tried something. You guys won't believe me. Spill it out already. What happened? What happens when you get a cut? I'll skip the scientific terms. You bleed for some time and then the platelets start the clotting process, making the bleeding stop, and after some time, the healing process begins, with the flow of blood below the wound, bringing nutrients to help heal the damage. But how these cells behave: a cell needs the energy to do its job and depending, becomes inactive after runs out of said energy, or just dies after getting damaged. But what if you could energize it beyond the maximum limit and maintain the cell working doubled, tripled? Of course, there's a limit, as you can see in my burning marks. I applied the same amount of energy used on electromagnetic therapy, but the results were too slow. So hold on for a second. How could you apply the exact same amount? How could you know the exact amount to begin with? Takoyami asked. Good question. I tried to turn my TV on and maintain it. At first it didn't work, so I kept increasing the power slowly until it became stable. Then I kept pushing until it started to overheat and blur the image. The intensity between both voltages was the required amount to turn a TV, whose numbers are known. After that, it was easy to decrease the intensity to the lower amount, at least close to what I needed. I just lacked a starting point. That was some good thinking. Thanks. Moving on. The results of the therapy were too slow, so I used an increased amount until I felt it was working, but I also pushed it a little too far until it didn't work anymore and ended up destroying the cells and consecutively, the tissue. So you boosted your cells so they could heal you faster. Yay, I found the right frequency. It's imprinted on my brain since I did all while using the Crimson Moon. I'm still weak if you're talking about usage. I don't know why, but I can't use both Crimson Moon and the electromagnetic therapy for very long, maybe because I'm just weak or maybe because I was wounded when. He stopped talking and changed the subject. I just wanted to find out my breaking point. What are the limitations? What can I actually do with these powers of mine? And why you need me here? You got Birdface to help you. How? Why do I need him here? I guess I don't, but I don't know. Maybe this is payment for what he did helping me against Kamui. This will also help you grow, so consider us even. Variety of styles. Let's start. We don't have much time left, and I have a tougher job than my ancestors, so instead of taming the lightning, I should become the lightning. Marvelous. Yay. Shut the hell up and come at me. Deku, I'll fucking kill you if you hold back. Remember what I told you at the school's rooftop? Don't worry, Kaken, I like to keep my promises. Midoriya smiled while his hand started cracking with white energy, and with a wide arm gesture, opening his hand, his sword flew, raising dust and landing on his hand while he brandished to the side, making dust fly everywhere like a small explosion. Just try not to die, Kaken, he said while closing his eyes, and Bakugo dashed forward. Midoriya opened his eyes. Crimson Moon. Midoriya looked around, a little startled. He blinked a few times and got up, going to turn his lamp on. He was still feeling tired, and after looking at his clock, he realized he woke 3 hours earlier. He walked to his desk and sat, looking at the day circulated on the calendar. Finally, today is the day. UA Exams Day Hero Course. The breaking point. Midoriya looked at his costume, made by his mom when he was obsessed with All Might. He touched the green fabric, remembering like it was yesterday how he wanted to go around town, displaying his smile to let everyone feel safe. He took the costume and quickly ripped the hood part, leaving a small piece of the fabric dangling, and placed the ripped piece inside a drawer, something keeping him from throwing it into the trash can. From the drawer next to the one he just opened, he took out a flask containing a strange dark substance, and taking water from his sink, he filled a bucket, submerging the costume while dropping the liquid inside. The whole water became dark and the costume couldn't be seen anymore. "Ragin'," he uttered, aiming at the water, energizing it, making it boil after a few seconds. He kept the boiling going while brushing his teeth, and after he was done, he went to the kitchen to have breakfast with a very talkative Inko. "Don't be nervous, okay? Keep your head straight and you'll be fine, Izuku. Just don't be nervous. Mom, you're shaking and spilling the coffee." Midoriya pointed, and she placed the cup down while giggling. "I guess I'm more nervous than you. How can you be so calm all the time, Izuku? Not so long ago, you were much more emotional, but now you look so much more adult. I guess it's part of my quirk. It may have affected me, but don't worry, I'm still me. Most part at least. I also kind of have something to tell you, Mom," he added. "Hey, what's wrong, baby?" she asked, startled by his expression. "I've changed the costume you gifted me a little. I'm sorry, I know it was your gift, and I wanted to keep using it, but a few things annoyed me. Does this have something to do with you throwing away all your All Might toys and posters?" Of course she knew. She knew something had gone wrong between him and his ex-favorite hero. "Yes, but nothing major. From now on, I've decided to do things on my own." "It's okay, honey, it's your costume, so you should decide how you want it. Let me see it later." He just nodded, imagining her reaction to his new choice. An hour later he took his jumpsuit out of the dryer, checking both sides. "Well, you were right, Yami, it's really cool." The green color was completely gone, and instead, a light gray took its place. The white lines around the costume were also gone, giving space to black. He dressed up and looked in the mirror. Yay, definitely better. He got his red sneakers to see the contrast, and it was pretty cool. He thought if he should dye his hair, the green just felt out of place. Midoriya took his harnesses, which were also black, and after putting everything in place, walked out of the room to show Inko his new look. She was on the phone and turned after hearing his footsteps, making such a surprised face that Midoriya had to laugh, going back to change into his uniform. Midoriya waited for Tokoyami and Bakugo to arrive next to the park, where they set up their meeting. He saw Bakugo approaching with a dark expression. "Morning, you look pissed as usual, Kaken." "Yo, do I? It's because I fuck him. I can't believe that shitty bird brain owned me yesterday." "You're really dwelling on that. How's the overall score? 86/6. That's the fucking point. Deku, I have a quirk advantaged and still lost because of that fucking technique you taught him. He won 6 in a row because of that. If I remember correctly, I also taught you one, so no double standards there. Just let it go and concentrate on the exams." "Shut up. I don't need to focus to get the first place in this shit. I'll kick both your asses up and down." "Sure, why is Yami so late? Maybe I should call him." "Oi, don't patronize me, you shitty nerd. I'll kick your ass right here. I can't catch a break, can I?" "Oh, there he is." Tokoyami turned a corner and walked slowly until he reached them. All three started walking together towards the school grounds. "Good morning." "Morning. So how is it?" Tokoyami gave them a tiny smile and said while looking at some soda can on the floor. "Dark Shadow, throw the can inside the trash." "Understood," Dark Shadow said while stretching his arms and getting the objective done, bringing his arms back right afterwards. "Cool. With training, he may even increase his speed." "Excellent work, Dark Shadow," Midoriya said while giving him a thumbs up, making Dark Shadow blush. They could see the big entrance now and Midoriya felt eager to get in and start, but after feeling something, he stopped. "What's wrong, Midoriya? Did you shit yourself or what?" "I think I lost my wallet." "Go on, I'll meet you guys inside. I'll go back to the park to look for it. My ID card is inside." "Do you need help? We could go help you," Tokoyami started asking. "No, it's okay. I'll meet you inside. There's still plenty of time." He turned and walked back, but after looking over his shoulder to make sure they weren't watching, instead of keeping going straight, he turned to an alley and asked, "I thought it would take longer for you to appear again. How are you? How cute. Were you worried about me? I killed you for a few seconds, didn't I? How are you feeling?" "Aha, yes, you killed me. How did that feel? Did you like it? Was it good? Was I your first?" She giggled. "Toga, we're not having this conversation. I didn't want to hurt you, but I had no choice. You need professional help. You know that I'm not a villain, and after I start in the UA I'll be an actual hero, so these meetings and this stalking have to stop. Izuku and I thought we were friends. Friends shouldn't lie, you know. I have to go. Try not to do something stupid. Please. I don't know why, but I feel weird when I see you worrying about me like that. Well, I guess I'll see you later," she said after waking away, turning once to look over her shoulder, smiling. Midoriya left and walked back to the UAS entrance, lost in thoughts. Maybe I should seek the Heroes Association, or even the police. They have to help her, she's completely nuts. Then why aren't you defeating her and bringing her to the police station? Izuku, why damn, I guess I'll ask Yami for advice. He was so lost in thoughts that his foot bumped a loose brick and he lost his balance, falling forward, but he just placed one hand on the floor and after doing a frontal flip, landed with something in his peripheral vision. He looked to the left and saw a girl with short-length light brown hair and a rounded friendly face looking at him perplexed with a hand raised in his direction. I'm sorry, I was about to use my quirk to keep you from falling." She said while scratching her head, feeling embarrassed. She looks like those kinds of people that bring happiness everywhere they go. She also looks cute. Oh, I forgot to answer her back. Aren't you nervous? She asked as if she was asking about the weather, and when Midoriya was about to say no, she spoke again. Let's give our best today, right? Bye. She walked inside, leaving Midoriya confused after this strange monologue, and then he noticed two guys pointing and laughing at him with disdain in their eyes. Next time, try to answer when a girl asks you something, kid. Well, looking at your face, I think you should grab any chance that appears. His neighbor laughed, and Midoriya's expression darkened, turning again and walking towards the doors. Yay, you should run after her. Maybe she'll lower her standards. Actually, it's not like hers could be too high to be fair, with that pancake face. Midoriya stopped after hearing that, and looking over his shoulders, showed a broad smile, walking inside. "TCH," one of them said, and the other pressed a finger on his ear. "Yes, sir. He didn't use violence or his quirk, he just ignored us." "Yes, understood." They turned and walked away while Midoriya watched them from behind a pillar inside the building, his eyes shining with a red glow while he was reading their lips. "Hey, police or UAS staff, well, either way, I should be extra careful." A few minutes later they were all gathered inside a theater with a small stage. Everything was quiet, even the students there, maybe too nervous to speak. Midoriya found his seat and consequently Bakugo with his arms crossed. "Where the fuck were you, bird-brain bitch? We should go looking for you." "I got lost. Where is he?" "I don't know, way over there." He pointed to the far right side. "Oh, so I guess we're divided by schools' names alphabetically, huh?" Suddenly, lights focused on the stage where they saw and heard a man. "Welcome to my live show, everybody say hey." The silence was embarrassing, but the man that Midoriya recognized from the TV continued as if nothing happened. "I'm going to briefly present to you the summary for Heroes Course Practical Exam. Are you ready?" "Dude, just give up, please. This is embarrassing. Everybody is too nervous to even respond to you." Midoriya thought, slightly embarrassed for the man. "It's taking too long to start. I want to start already." Midoriya whispered, almost bouncing in place. "Shut the hell up," Bakugo said quietly. "You're going to be divided after this and enter different urban areas to simulate battles." Bakugo checked his card and Midoriya saying, "So they're trying to separate possible people who can work together. Huh, damn it, I can't crush you because of this shit." "Yay, if they knew how dumb you are, they wouldn't mind letting you in my block. But don't worry, the overall score will be our battleground. I just hope Yami can pull it off." "What do you mean? It's almost noon, and if these areas are under broad daylight, it'll be harder for him in dark shadow. You'll all have 10 minutes inside these areas and you'll find fake villains. Your aim is to use your quirks to defeat or immobilize them. Each type of fake villain will reward you a certain amount of points, being 1, 2, and 3 points based on its difficulty. Obviously, attacking others' examinee or any anti-hero conduct is forbidden." "Excuse me, may I ask a question?" A guy stood and called the announcer. "Okay, the flyer distributed to the examinee shows 4 types of villains, so if this was a printing mistake, then the UA, the most prominent school in Japan, should be ashamed. We, examinees, are gathered in this place today because we wish to be molded as exemplary heroes. And also you, with curly hair, you've been talking the whole time and it's distracting me. If you're here to have fun, you should leave immediately." He finished, turning to Midoriya with something that he would probably call an angry expression, making Bakugo laugh. Midoriya looked at him, unable to believe that audacity, sighing and speaking out loud, using the same volume as him. "Sorry for breaking your concentration. You're right to be angry since I distracted you, but if you need to keep your entire attention to understand such a simple setup, I guess you're the one that should leave immediately." From the other side of the room, Takoyami shook his head, covering his face. While the blue-haired boy started, but the host stopped them. Okay. Examinee 7111, thank you for pointing it out. The 4th type of villain is worth 0 points. That's right, it's more of an obstacle than an enemy. It's not impossible to defeat, but there's no advantage to do so, so we advise you to avoid it. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption, the blue-haired prick said while sitting again. And for last, I'll give you our school's motto. A true hero is someone who surpasses the adversity of life. So go beyond. Plus ultra. Alright, good luck with your suffering. Midoriya parted ways with Bakugo without a word and went to change into his outfit. He took his shinai case and placed his swords in his harness, grabbing the pair of gloves he brought. Back leather with small pieces of metal on the back. After they arrived at an enormous gate, they were told to wait. Midoriya spotted the girl from before, who tried to prevent him from falling. She looked very nervous, so he thought while heading her way, maybe I should talk to her again. Small chat may decrease her tension a little and I could ask about her quirk. Midoriya felt a presence behind him before the hand tried to grab his shoulder, making him stop and turn, slapping the hand midway. He looked and saw the blue-haired prick from the instruction session, who looked astonished now. "Keep your hands to yourself," Midoriya said with a cold look, and the blue-haired boy just narrowed his eyes, looking angry again. "That girl is trying to concentrate. What are you doing here? Are you attending the exams to get into everyone's way? Right now you're the one getting in my way, and you're getting on my nerves too. Back off. Go do your thing somewhere else and just leave me alone, I'm warning you." The blue-haired boy felt threatened and instinctively looked to Midoriya's swords, but a noise startled him. "Alright, start." "What's the problem? There are no countdowns on real fights. Run, the dices have been tossed." Everyone started running inside the city, pushing each other to pass through the doors first. everyone but one person, who stood motionless at the entrance. "Oh, what is this brat doing?" Aizawa Shota looked at Midoriya through the monitors, noticing his strange behavior. After everyone disappeared, Midoriya walked slowly through the door, cracking his neck and his fingers while whispering, "Crimson Moon." After walking a little, he knelt and placed one hand on the floor while whispering again, "Raijin." He stood there for at least 2 minutes, his body motionless, only his eyes moving. He got up after at least 3 minutes and after deactivating the Crimson Moon, started jogging, seeing a few people attacking a 3-pointer to his right. So he turned left and saw 2 robots worth 2 points each, but instead of destroying them, he just dodged and touched the machines, snapping his fingers twice after the contact, making the robots shut down. He kept going, repeating the process at least a dozen times and suddenly stopped, placing both hands on the ground and whispering again, "Raijin's web. What are you doing? Could it be that you?" Aizawa was speculating, watching Midoriya's actions closely. He returned to his jogging and destroyed a few 3-pointers that he could turn off with his bare hands, not even drawing his sword. 3 minutes remaining. Everybody heard the announcement and started rushing, looking for targets, but all of them passed by the many fallen, yet unscratched robots on the ground. They looked effective, so the examinees paid them no attention. Midoriya heard a few people counting their points. 28, 45, 32. "Well, I have 16, so it's more than enough." And then they all heard and saw the 0-pointer. The robot was huge, bigger than the buildings. It rolled by, and after some time, delivered a blow that destroyed an entire street, sending dust and debris everywhere. 2 minutes remaining. Midoriya stopped, looking at the giant robot while everyone was running. The blue-haired prick passed by, looking at Midoriya's face for a second, startled by his bored look. Midoriya turned to leave since it was almost time, but he heard someone groaning. "Ouch." Midoriya turned back and saw the girl from earlier, buried by debris from the destructed street and the 0-pointer behind her, rolling her way. "Boy, this thing has a sensor, right? It's not going to run her over, right? I need to get to the center to wait. It's not stopping." "What?" Midoriya saw that the machine wasn't stopping, so he didn't think. He just dashed towards her while saying, "Crimson Moon." He didn't have time to do both things. He could either save her or get to the center of the city to get more points, but he didn't care about points anymore. He was blind and deaf to everything but that girl in distress. He stopped next to her, and she looked up to his face, while he took the silver sword and spiked it on the floor next to her leg, making a gesture over it and crouching next to her before saying out loud, "Raijin enhancement." His feet were coated with energy up to the knee, and after concentrating, he jumped, destroying the ground below. The girl looked up, dumbfounded, and felt her hair going up as the wind from his jump passed by. She felt another tingling sensation as the rock that was pinning her leg down started to slowly move until it rolled to the other side. She tried to get some distance, but as she took a step back, she felt something pushing her. She pushed against the invisible force with her hand, but whatever that was, it was keeping her there, like invisible gelatin. Midoriya flew past the robot's fingers, placing his left hand on the sword sheath, making it shine with electricity. Raijin's augment sharpen. When he reached the robot's head height, he placed his free hand on his sword's grip and after a wide movement, drew his weapon, cutting bottom to top diagonally without even touching the robot with the blade. He sent a slash coated by lightning while shouting, and a flash blinded everyone who was watching below. Rakurai. People on the street saw a white flash, making them close their eyes for a second, and heard a sound they had never heard in their lives before. It was like a giant bell being pounded, echoing a BLEM everywhere, when the giant metal robot got cut in half, exploding in some places and just getting on fire in others. The giant robot's upper left side slid down from the right's downside as Midoriya was now free falling. The girl on the ground tried to break free again, unsuccessfully. She wanted to help him, but as he approached the ground, she saw he was calm and falling with his body standing. Midoriya kept approaching and sheathed his sword, passing the building's height, and using his right hand, he aimed at the sword on the ground. The girl saw as the sword started sparkling and noticed the dust being pushed as if the invisible enclosure were expanding. Midoriya was a few feet from it now when he closed his fist, and after a few moments, opened his other fist and started gradually decelerating while he kept slowly closing his hand, adjusting something until he reached the ground safely, and at the moment he pulled the sword from the floor with one hand, the girl felt that she could move freely again. 15 seconds remaining. "Damn it," Midoriya said, and the girl was about to ask what was going on and how many points he had when she saw him concentrating so hard that his whole body started sparkling with energy. The surrounding ground started to shake, and static appeared all around while he bent forward. Raijin enhancement. His eyes became pure energy, his hair stiffened, and his gloves and sleeves were torn as energy coated his arms till it reached his shoulders. Just by being close, the girl could feel tension and static on her hair and clothes when the boy whispered, "Raijin's wrath." And everything went white as flashes and thunder's noises struck around the whole city, making people jump and get to cover under structures. But a few just observed standing still as the bolts of lightning kept destroying robots, shattering windows, and making the ground slightly shake. The robots that people considered defeated were being targeted. It was like a lightning storm that lasted a few seconds and vanished. Midoriya stopped and fell, one knee touching the floor as he exhausted his power, pushing his limits even further. After taking a sit, he heard the speakers announcing, Time is over. Midoriya looked at the girl who was staring at him and asked, "Are you okay?" She just nodded, and Midoriya smiled. "Good, please tell recovery girl to do not heal me or I'll die. I'm going to go now, good job." The last thing he saw was her confused expression as he fainted. People started to gather around them talking. What the hell was that guy? Was he the one who created that lightning storm? He jumped at the obstacle, dude. Did he cut it with a sword? That's impossible. Not even Ed Shock could have pulled that off. He didn't see much, but he cut the thing in half with a sword. I saw it. The lightning storm was also him. He must have been hiding his power for some time now, but he must have a reason for doing that, without a doubt. But if there's one thing I'm certain is that he's an amazing guy. After hearing the people talking about a fainted Midoriya, the blue-haired prick thought, "Didn't you see it? He jumped to save that girl. He didn't care about the points. If this wasn't a test, I would have done the same." Right, good work everyone. Recovery girl approached, going towards Midoriya. "What happened to you? You don't look hurt, but a quick heal for any internal damage should do you some good." She was going to kiss him when the brown-haired girl said, "Please, don't do that. He said that you shouldn't heal him or he was going to die." "What, he said that? Darling," the girl nodded frenetically. "Oh, why would you say something like that? I'll run some tests on the infirmary then, let's go." A few hours later, Midoriya woke up and looked around. Takoyami was sitting on a chair to his right with his eyes closed, and to his surprise, Bakugo was lying down on the sofa next to the wall, watching something on his phone. Midoriya felt his head was about to explode and asked with a weak voice, "What happened?" Takoyami opened his eyes and Bakugo got up answering, "Well, people are going nuts saying some monster released a lightning storm on Block B. All I can say is that the monster is just an asshole." "What have you done?" Midoriya recovery girl was worried about your vitals, saying you were at risk of even losing your life. "Damn, I pushed just a little and I get a death flag as a reward." "How were your exams?" Midoriya asked, interested in the important stuff. "I got 95 villains points. They said it was the highest someone got in a long time. I told you I was going for the top, didn't I, shithead?" Bakugo bragged. "Turn it down a bit, will you? My head is killing me." Midoriya felt something inside his chest, a sharp crescent of pain that turned into an unbearable burning agony as he grabbed his shirt, looking astonished. "Boy, what's going on, Deku?" "Midoriya, I think I need help." His face twisted in pain and he screamed so loud that both boys jumped. Takoyami stormed out of the room and recovery girl arrived with him a few seconds later, seeing the scene, running to apply a sedative on Midoriya, grabbing the nursery phone, and saying after pressing a number for a few seconds, "We need an ambulance. This boy may not survive the night if he stays here." 1 week later, Midoriya was lying down on his bed, still recovering from the exams. The outcome of his little adventure was his near-death situation. The doctor said his heart had stopped twice on the way to the hospital and that he spent 3 days in a coma. Doctors noticed that his body had simply stopped working for some unknown reason. After further exams, the doctors concluded that everything was fine except everything wasn't working. After the second day, his body started to function again with no help, and he woke up the next morning feeling weak, but with no pain. When asked about the reason for this, he answered he didn't know, but that was a lie. He knew exactly what happened. Those were the consequences of exceeding his limits recklessly. Even after using the electromagnetic heal on his entire body, he still could feel the after effects. He stopped using his powers for a few days and started training meditation, trying to get his control stable and to improve his energy capacity. He used his free time to reach out to Shinji-san, explaining his absence caused by the training sessions for the exams, and promised that he was going to visit soon. The UAS letter was to be delivered today, but he got some time to spare. He dressed up, grabbed his shinai case, and left his room, heading out. "Izuku, are you going out? You sure you're okay to walk?" and Ko asked, alarmed, and Midoriya said while moving his arms and legs to show his body was really okay. "Yes, Mom, I'm sorry I worried you. I promise it won't happen again. I just had to make a call, but it backfired on me. I'll be back later. I'm going to Shinji-san's store to thank him for the books." "I'm out," he said, heading out and leaving a worried Ko behind who wondered, "Then why would you need your weapons for that, sweetie?" Midoriya walked to the train station and after the train had passed half the way, he noticed a few whispers and people glancing at him. He heard 2 or 3 people saying the words God Warrior and Thunder God Raijin. He knew that the media and a few pro-hero agencies had access to the exams footage, but he didn't notice he was the primary focus of those cameras. How wrong he was. They saw everything he did, and the videos were uploaded everywhere. That was the reason he was wearing a hoodie today, but it didn't do much since everybody recognized him. A middle schooler boy came and stood next to him, whispering, "You're the Raijin guy from the internet, right? I saw your video. Is it true that you're the reincarnation of the god Raijin? People are talking about the craziest theories on the internet." Midoriya felt slightly shocked by that, but answered in a whisper as well. No, I'm a normal person. I don't know where that came from. I'm not a god or something like that. Although I named the elemental powers before the gods that came from the myth of creation, I never intended to become one of them. This is just insane. I was just giving the elements suitable names. Maybe some people see you like this. Anyway, your power is totally cool. Sorry for bothering you and good luck. I'll be cheering for you when you become a pro hero, okay? Heh, thanks. Midoriya noticed a few people moving towards him like they also wanted to chat, so he took the cue and left a few seconds before the train door closed, deciding to walk the rest of the way to the bus station. He arrived a few hours later at the bookstore to have a chat with Shinji-san. As he placed his hand on the handle, he saw Shinji bleeding on the floor and a woman on top of him with her fist closed like she was beating him to death with a smile on her face. She also noticed him standing by the door but couldn't react in time. Midoriya had already taken his sword out of the shinai case and dashed using his unspoken rage and enhancement, weaker but faster, to close the gap in half a second, kneeling next to her, placing the blade on her throat. But it was Shinji-san who shouted, "Midoriya, whoa, it's okay." "What you mean by okay, Shinji-san? This is my student, she's not a villain, don't kill her." "What is that supposed to mean, you crazy geezer? I'm not a killer." Midoriya felt hurt by his assumption, not remembering that he had actually killed someone before, but just for a few seconds. Midoriya doubted she wasn't a villain but removed the blade from her neck, getting up and taking a few steps back. They both got up and Shinji cleaned his bleeding nose, turning to the girl. "I told you I wasn't lying, there he is." He pointed to Midoriya, and the girl glared at the boy, who held her evaluation look. "Can you explain what was going on here?" Shinji-san. Midoriya turned to Shinji after the staring contest with the girl. "Oh, I kind of made a joke and Katha-chan got a little angry, haha," he said, smoothing his hair, and the girl tried to kick him in the head. "How's grabbing my butt a joke, you pervert geezer? I should cut your hands off." "I regret nothing," he said, while a single tear fell from his closed eyes. Well, whatever reason Midoriya expected, this wasn't one of them, but he went back to the door to close it and crouched to retrieve his fallen case when he felt the wind and raised his left hand to the right side of his face, blocking a kick from the girl. He looked over his shoulder and glared at her before turning to Shinji while saying, "Is this a common thing you teach everyone?" Shinji-san tests them by surprisingly attacking them. "I mean, couldn't it be a pop quiz or something?" "Are you looking down on me, kid?" the girl said in a serious voice, emphasizing the boy, trying to diminish and intimidate him. "If this was your best kick, then definitely yes," he answered, irritated, pushing her foot and getting up, facing her. She wasn't Japanese. She had vivid red hair, but it didn't look dyed, white skin and green eyes. Add freckles and a slender body and you'll have all the parts to summon Redhead, the Forbidden. Midoriya chuckled at his inside joke and heard Shinji speaking while pilling books that they probably knocked down previously. "Be nice, Midoriya, she's my student, Kathleen. She's from Ireland and came to live here a few years ago. She ended up taking an interest in classic Japanese history and archaeology. That's when I met her. She was eager to learn all about our folklore and she's the person I wanted you to meet." He approached and after grabbing a few more fallen books said while looking at Midoriya's face, "You already look so different. You're not going crazy, are you? You look like a completely different person after such a short time. I heard the most bizarre stories on the TV. Something about you using lightning powers. Haven't you seen the videos? I kind of used the lightning as my power." He showed his hand and finished. Raging, lightning materialized on his hand, making Shinji drop the books he was holding, approaching with Kathleen like moths attracted to a lamp. "How are you draining power from the demonic fruit?" How, Kathleen asked with a strange accent, and Midoriya looked at her, surprised. "How do you know about the fruit?" "I'm the one that found the books scattered around the world. I know everything recorded about the fruit." "Wait, I thought we brought the books from the US and Europe." Shinji-san, Midoriya asked, narrowing his eyes since the old man was with his back turned, taking books he already organized, pretending he was organizing it again. "Why, did you really trick him into giving you cash?" Kathleen asked with a disgusted expression. "I was a little short on money, haha." "Sorry, Midoriya-kun. Now I feel dumb for stopping you, Kathleen-san. I'm sure new opportunities will appear, don't worry, and just Kath is fine. Now please, tell me, how did you manage to gain access to the fruit's power?" "He didn't give me any information at all," she said, pointing to Shinji. "With this crimson moon." Midoriya showed it to her and tried to hide his amusement as her mouth fell open and she approached, walking slowly, grabbing his face with both warm hands, leaning in to analyze it, their noses almost touching. She dropped her hands and Midoriya saw they were slightly shaking. Suddenly she sat on the floor, her back against the counter, and hugged her knees, her gaze becoming distant until her eyes closed as if she was asleep. "Is she asleep?" Midoriya asked, tilting his head. "Well, this is everything you'll get from her tonight, haha." What you mean?" Midoriya asked, confused. "She just went inside her little world. She won't answer us unless we physically hurt her." "What do you mean by her little world?" "She has a funny quirk. She can go to another dimension, but it is inside her own mind. They said that inside her mind, she can create and manipulate a lot of things. She told me she uses it as storage for pieces of information and memories, but no one can really know how it looks like." "Huh, well, maybe I can," Midoriya thought out loud. "How? Remember the eye of hypnotism I told you on the phone a few months ago? Well, turns out I interpreted the kanji wrong. I thought it was only a form of hypnosis, but the truth is that I'm the one who gets to choose what kind of illusion the person will see. I read a thing that explained that the 3-Tamo mark develops the hypnotism to another level, allowing interaction between consciousnesses. I read it as interaction to manipulate consciousness. Do you get it where I'm going with this?" "No, but if I have to guess, I'd say you know a way to enter her dimension." "Yes. In other words, I'll implant a version of myself in her subconscious or something like that." I just hope she won't get angry. Don't worry, her punches don't hurt that much. Midoriya rolled his eyes and knelt in front of her, opening her eyelids with his fingers, looking into her eyes, and tried to enter her mind. Moonlight. Nothing happened. He placed one hand on his chin and began to think. What is the mind? Synapses. The mind defines the human being, right? You're only you inside your mind. The definition of you as a being is what is inside your mind. So to put it bluntly, you exist only inside your mind. Your mind is your everything because without it you're just a piece of meat. He thought, while looking into her eyes again. I want to see your soul, your everything. I want to see the true you. Moonlight. Midoriya blinked and found himself inside a white space where there were no walls, no depth, no height, and the only thing he could feel was the ground he was standing on. He turned and saw a girl sitting while moving her hands, so he walked slowly and cleared his throat to announce his presence. Kath looked like a remake of that girl from the Exorcist movie because he could swear her neck made a 180 spin when she heard his voice, screaming briefly. She was clearly confused and said, I didn't create you. What the hell? Leave? She made a dismissive signal with her hand, but Midoriya just tilted his head. Well, why isn't it working? Why can't I erase you? Are you a memory? Why are you still there? Because I'm real. Excuse me. Midoriya started looking around, interested. To him, this place could be the infinite or just a room designed to play with his sense of space. How did you manage to get in here? This is impossible. No one has ever entered here. It's something I never had the chance to test. You see, I can implant images, noises, and feelings inside your head to confuse you. This is the base of one of my powers, but when I decide to use it, I'm actually creating a feeling or thought and implanting it inside your mind. What I just did was to implant a copy of my own subconscious inside your subconscious. I can do this to most people, but I guess it won't work on everyone. And why are you here? I need to think. I need to make sense of this. She was already looking away from Midoriya, moving her hands again. Well, you kind of left in a hurry, so I came to ask what happened, and if it's okay to leave your semi-unconscious body out there with Shinji-san on the prowl. Shit, I forgot about him. I wasn't thinking. I just needed to make sense of all this. What do you mean by all this? This. She threw something at him, and the white was gone. He felt a gush of strong wind passing by him and colors started appearing all around until he focused again and his mouth fell open. It looked like he entered a giant library, but everything was ethereal. He could only see the images, names, and content of books and notes. After looking around, he faced her again, completely amazed, and saw that she was facing a group of people. They looked like ghosts, barely visible. What are those? Pieces of information. Those are the first shinobi, and to their left, you can see where they all came from. Midoriya saw a hologram of a giant fireball that he instantly recognized as Earth. Are those? Yes, Izanagi and Izanami, and that's you. She pointed to some creature clinging to Izanami's rotten body. Say what? I guess I was right. You have no idea the power the names possess. When you named your power Raijin, you gave life to this deity and acknowledged it. I believe you can also manipulate wind to a certain extent, right? Midoriya just nodded, impressed by this girl's sharpness. They were brothers, so it's only natural. After this, we have your predecessor, Uzujiime or Princess Kaguya, who wanted to enslave all mankind. Midoriya saw someone, but that wasn't Kaguya, just an imaginary version made by someone who had only seen her on paintings. Her ears are longer and her eyebrows are thinner also. She's taller. Show me, she said, turning. Show you what? Remember her and visualize it as a movie or a picture, like you're the third party watching from above, and then push the memory out with your hand like this. Imagine it's flying outside of your body. Since you're in my quirk, maybe you can use it as well. She made a gesture and Midoriya tried her instructions. He remembered the smell, the air, her face, her words, all the information given, and made the gesture with his hand. He saw it as if it was flying water, but before he could say anything she got up and started moving it with her hands, turning and reshaping it. This was surprisingly good for a first try. She whispered to herself, and after a few more seconds she threw it at the other displayed information. It was like a timeline slow-motion change of all the events that happened, but in 3 dimensions, and with flying notes orbiting every hologram. Midoriya saw his own image, and it was crystal clear, not foggy like the others. He saw the same scene he experienced with Kaguya and felt the same sadness after seeing all that again. Holy shit, she's real. I can't believe it, she said while covering her mouth. She was real. Haha, what do you mean by that? Your version is wrong. That is the real Kaguya who got possessed after eating the fruit. That was the part of her own soul that she hid inside that tree to prevent her destruction. Once the entity inside her body was destroyed, she attempted to get her body back but was murdered by something who uttered these words after piercing her with a sword: perish as the filth you love, you are a disgrace. Midoriya saw that as he kept speaking. A note was being written alongside the little movie of him and Kaguya, and that to his left. The evil Kaguya eating the fruit was replaced by the real one, and new images were created, illustrating what he just said. Another Kaguya hiding inside the tree and the evil one taking over, later Kaguya being struck by a shade, still indistinct. Kathleen started passing the line like she was swiping a phone and stopped where another undefined shade murdered a lot of people. This is as far as I go, and then there's you here. She pointed to the far right end and Midoriya saw his red eyes displayed, but there was a huge gap between the slaughter of the clans and his appearance. Here, take this to fill the gap. Midoriya created another image of his genealogic tree and their marriages until the last one they recorded. Well, that makes a lot of sense. What happened here? She pointed and Midoriya explained. They sealed away their chakra, hiding the traces of the fruit's power so the second wouldn't find them. They carried as a tradition, sealing every newborn. The second, that's the name of the being that murdered all the clan members until they started with the tradition. But how I mean, doesn't that mean we are all Kaguya's descendants? Maybe. I'm not sure since I can't read the kanji. Show me. Right, he forgot. He threw the kanji at her, who instantly translated. Means cutting the flow or stopping the flow. Midoriya realized what it meant then. I kind of feel embarrassed seeing a foreigner knowing more about kanjis than me, but I see it's simple then. The ritual is done at the moment the umbilical cord is severed. That's the reason it's cut at a certain length and later dries and crumbles. That was the flow that got severed. Then where it should be severed? I don't know. Maybe I should show you the red book so you can translate the other kanjis. There's still a lot of information that I can't make sense of, but the real question is, who or what is the entity that killed Princess Kaguya, and if that thing is the second as well? They kept going for some time, writing any relevant information next to the new images. May I ask you something? Kathleenson Midoriya asked after they finished and were sitting, looking at the new timeline. Only if you stop calling me that, you make me look too old. I'm only 21, damn it. Sorry, Cats and Kath. Why did you say that the demon clinging into Izanami's body was me? I told you already, you turned yourself into it when you named your power after it. You told me about the darkness inside you, the feeling of power, and the desire for violence. That's not coming from the fruit, it's coming from Raijin and Fujin. I don't have any clue why Suijin also recognized you, but the two brothers were born from Izanami corpse, and later escaped the underworld through a breach on the boulder Izanagi placed at its entrance to rule these elements and protect the shrines. Raijin took the right to command the thunder and the lightning from Susanoo, who remained ruler of the sea and the storms. Midoriya's mind was racing as he registered all that information. By the way, for how long have we been here? Midoriya asked, realizing this wasn't real, feeling strangely disturbed by that fact. Don't worry, it's normal to have the feeling you're having right now. It happens when you realize this isn't real, but at the same time, your mind can't stop telling you this is too real to be fake. We've been here for about 80 minutes. I guess I should go then. I shouldn't be using my powers so early and for so long. He started imagining how he would get out. It was wonderful having someone to talk about this. Thank you for sharing this with me. To me, there's no greater joy than understanding the past to find out the real origin of humanity. We should probably do this again. It was really amazing. Thank you again, Midoriya. Now, I need to shut this down to get you out of here, but I don't know how since you're my first visitor. Let me try something, Midoriya said, and before she could ask he grabbed her arm, and as he imagined himself coming back to reality, he flew away, feeling her arm the entire time, until he returned and saw the inside of the bookstore. Oh, you're back, Shinji shouted from the back of the store with a broom in his hands. Midoriya saw the woman in front of him also coming back. Hey, did you just pull me out of my own quirk? She was surprised. I guess I did. I never used the moonlight like this before. I just tried something that I read but didn't make sense at the time. Anyway, I should go, it's getting late. Come back soon, please. And bring the red book too, I always wanted to know its content. Sure, good night Kath and good night Shinji-san. I want my money refunded, alright, or I may find a special way to persuade you. Hey, don't you have any respect for the elderly? He shouted, brandishing his broom like a spear while Kath and Midoriya laughed. Nope, after all, age is just a number. He said that facing Kath, referring to her words from before about her age. Midoriya felt the desire to ensure her that her age didn't mean that much. The only one worried about it is yourself. Maybe this will make you understand that you are not that old. He headed out waving one last time, missing the fact the girl understood his words differently. She was good with books and written knowledge, but emotions weren't her forte. Well, everyone could figure that out after seeing her face right now, blushing after taking his words as a sign of interest. I mean, I'm just 6 years older than him, right? I guess after a few years when he's an adult. She then shook her head, realizing she should stick to the books for now, at least. Midoriya got out of the second bus and answered his phone. Hi, Mum. Izuku. What's wrong? TTT the letter. The letter has arrived. Okay, I'll be home soon, Mom. Bye. Yay, me too. He hung up and felt anxious for some reason. What if I ended up doing too much damage to the buildings? What if the ones I destroyed didn't count? What if my fainting made me lose more points? Will they notice what I did to my swords? I guess I'm just overthinking, but what if I'm not? The train arrived, and he got in. It was empty, so he took a seat and kept thinking. What if I didn't make it in time? Oh my god. I should have burned the web sooner. He started remembering people calling him Raijin and Kath's explanation about names. Wait, there's another important character on Raijin's tail. The entity that helps him hold on. Does that mean I also have control over the Reiju? That would be funny. People would really call me a god if that happened, but if I could, how should I call him out? Maybe like this, Raijin augment Reiju. How about Raijin enhancement invoke Reiju? When I created the Raijin blade and the enhancement, I had solid images of its form since I shaped the blade after a sword swing and the enhancement after the dark shadows claws in the feet. But that was after normal boots. It said Reiju was the loyal beast who followed Raijin, but his shape always diverged, and that indecision may be the reason I can't picture him or her. Wait, maybe if I could choose one. Yes, let's try this. He took a deep breath, imagining what he wanted to create, raising his hand. Raijin's call Reiju. Midoriya felt shocked. His energy started to create lightning bolts that started being drained by something. It was like a living being was draining his energy for some time, but he kept producing them, aware of his limits. Damn, I can't go for much longer. He noticed he was still weak, and that he should stop, but instead, he pushed through his limits again for a few seconds and the draining stopped. He was out of breath, seeing a ball of lightning standing there, floating 5 feet in the air. Then after some time, it started expanding and taking form. It looked like some kind of animal, a dog, no, a wolf, made of white electricity. This isn't quite like I imagined you, to be honest, but it's okay, Midoriya said with a smile, and the wolf made a quick spin, like a tornado, reappearing, looking 3 times bigger and 100 times prettier. Its fur was white, and it was wearing some kind of ornament on its torso, legs, and tails, since it had 3 of those. The ornaments were all lightning-shaped, made of some kind of metal with a faint blue color. It also had some kind of mark that emitted a faint blue glow that Midoriya couldn't understand. These marks were around the ornaments and on its forehead. Its eyes were light blue, just like the mark's color, but what stood out the most were the ornaments. After a closer look, Midoriya noticed they weren't ornaments, they were its fur, but for some reason, a few parts were so compressed together that they looked rigid like bones, and others on its torso and tails were so long and fluid that they looked like human hair. On its forehead, Midoriya saw a symbol shaped with blue light, a 3-tamo symbol, just like the one Midoriya had on his eyes. Okay, this is odd. I wasn't expecting this to work. What now? I wonder if it can at least understand me. Yes, I understand you. Oh good, that makes it easier. Midoriya stopped and looked at the giant wolf again, tilting his head while narrowing his eyes. You just spoke to me. Yes, I did. Okay, I won't lie, I'm a little confused right now and a little frightened, to be honest. Before I can start with the explanations about my existence, I possess information. Humans are approaching at great speed. Question: should I maintain my current form or should I hide my presence from them? Hide, he said, and saw they were approaching a station. He faced the Reiju, who was closing its eyes, and after some blue lightning showdown, it stood there with a faint blue light around him. A group got inside the wagon and went to the front to take a seat, not noticing him in the back, so he whispered, "What exactly are you? Are you really Reiju? Does that mean he stopped talking because the group stopped talking as well after noticing him, turning to check him out?" Answer: I am you, an external projection of your own power designed and programmed to replicate the behavior of the deity called Reiju. Explanation: are you really makes an unnecessary interrogative, therefore, this phrasing is incorrect. Answer: I am not the deity called Reiju. Since your question is incomplete, I deduced and constructed according to the context the following answer: no, it does not mean you are the god Reijin. Explanation: I can read your thoughts since they are just electrical signals inside your brain, so if you do not want the surrounding humans to hear your voice, you can directly address to me using your mind. Like this. Answer: precisely. Why do you sound like a machine? Answer: because you designed me this way. Could you stop saying answer before answering a question and I didn't design you this way? Answer: command received. Yes, you did design me the way I am. What I already told you, I didn't design you this way. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Question: would you like me to show proof? Sure, go ahead. And stop saying question and explanation too, it's slightly annoying. Command received. Accessing memory located on the hippocampus. Dated 5 years, 2 months, 13 days, 4 hours, and 32 minutes ago. What if my power is something like summoning a demon that could explain why I can't do it, right? I would only be able to use it if I were a bad person. Yeah, but that would be so cool. If I ever summon something, I wish I can make it speak like a robot, like in the movies. End of contextual linked memory. Well, damn, I don't remember thinking that. He was about to ask how the hell he could access that when he saw the group coming towards him. 3 girls and 2 boys. They look my age. Female, 16 years old, signs of euphoria. Female, 13 years old, signs of fear. Male, 15 years old, signs of irritation. Male, 14 years old, signs of arousal. Female, 13 years old, signs of anxiety. Excuse me, what the fu? Midoriya was about to ask when they arrived next to him. Hi, good evening. We couldn't help but notice you're carrying a shinai case and you have green hair. Are you Midoriya Izuku? The oldest girl asked, and Midoriya somehow knew who was who. Strange. Yes, I'm me. Yes, I'm me. Wait. Sorry, it looks like I forgot how to speak. Give me a second before I have a stroke. They all giggled apart from the irritated boy and the girl, who looked like she was afraid of something. Yes, I'm Midoriya Izuku, but how do you know my name? They all took a seat on each side of him, and the angry boy with the scared girl sat in front of them on the other side of the wagon. We shouldn't tell this to anybody, but we saw your video. She whispered. I don't think it's a secret. I guess lots of people have access to the UAS exam footage. Midoriya shrugged once. No. Not that one. The one where you, Bakugo Katsuki, and Fumikage Takoyami handled Kamui Woods, Gang Orca, and the police officers. What? I never saw this video. I didn't even know there was a video or... Oh, sorry, I'm Chisato. These are Megumi and Yakokan, and those over there are Hanako and her brother, Shunkan. The girl called Hanako was visibly uncomfortable, and Midoriya mentally asked Reiju. Can you also read other people's minds, Reiju? Yes, but only what they are thinking at the moment, since I do not possess the necessary neurological information to access memories of unknown individuals. Why haven't I heard of this video? Oh, the police got it out of circulation really fast. They said it undermined the police's authority and could incite someone, so it got removed from the internet's surface. But let me guess, there are still copies of it on the other layers. Yep, we fantasized about meeting you so we could ask you about your power, so I can't actually believe this is happening right now. Hee. Tell us, what is this power you have that is strong enough to go against one of the strongest rising heroes? She was almost invading his personal space, eager for the information. Just a manipulation of energy, and it has many flaws, like tiring me really fast. Midoriya lied, and her eyes narrowed. I see. I found something. I believe her fear is somehow related to the male sitting next to her. Every time he moves she remembers about something unpleasant mixed with pain. What something unpleasant mixed with pain? What could it possibly wait? No way. Midoriya stiffened and looked at her expression. Yay, it was crystal clear by the way she held her arm with her hand and how her legs were slightly positioned as far away from him as possible. Midoriya didn't know what he was doing, but he got up and everybody looked at his face while he walked and knelt before the girl. Are you okay? Hey, that was all she could answer after looking at his intense expression. It was almost like she could feel the depth of the question he made. Oh, don't worry. Hinechan always looks like she's afraid of something, Chisato said, laughing with Yahiko, but Megumi didn't laugh. She just looked directly at Hanako's face, showing worry. Something is going on here. Read her mind as I ask questions. Command received. Hinako-san, are you sure you're okay? Has anyone somehow hurt you? Her face went white as she looked away, shaking her head. Come on, you're overreacting, Midoriya-san, Yahiko said in a playful voice. Yes, she remembered. Here are the memories I managed to copy. Can't you see you're making her uncomfortable? Dude, back off, Shun said, moving his hand to shove Midoriya away while Midoriya was still seeing the inside of her purple room, where this same boy, her brother, tried to abuse her multiple times, beating her to the point she lost consciousness when she refused and fought him back. Their parents weren't around enough, a sick mother and a non-stopping working father. Got it, Midoriya whispered when the hand was about to touch his shirt, and grabbing his wrist, pulled him from his seat, throwing him on the floor, pulling his arm back, and pinning him down. Everyone got up shocked when they saw Midoriya knelt on his back, speaking while restraining his movements. Listen carefully, Shun. Tonight when you get home on Street 11, house number 83, Shimei District, you'll tell your parents what you tried to do to your sister. The girl was covering her mouth and started crying, while the others just looked confused. What the hell are you talking about? Let me go, you're breaking my wrist. I'm talking about the multiple times you snuck into her bedroom and tried to rape her, being stopped by her quirk. So you took advantage of her quirk's weakness and beat her until she passed out. But at that point, you weren't in the mood anymore, right? You wanted to see her cry. I'm talking about those moments. Do you remember those? Midoriya asked while twisting his wrist harder. No, Oh yes, I remember. Megumi ran to hug Hanako, who hit her face on the girl's chest, shaking and sobbing while Chisato covered her mouth in shock and Yahiko grabbed his head, panicking. Now continuing, you'll tell your parents what you tried to do and they'll decide how to punish you. If the punishment isn't enough for me, don't worry, because I'll find you no matter where you try to hide. I'll drag you out of whatever hole you hide yourself in and I won't handle you over to the police, that I can promise you. You're not getting away with this. Reiju. The giant wolf materialized and Chisato screamed while Yahiko, Megumi, and Hanako just moved back, watching Midoriya turn Shun's body up to where he could see their faces, as Reiju also appeared in his field of view. Midoriya asked with a dangerous voice. Would you be willing to bet your life on that? He asked while his eyes turned red and whispered. Moonlight. Shun's eyes slowly closed as he was placed under an illusion that would hold him for at least 20 minutes of nothing but darkness. Oh my god. Did you kill him? Chisato asked and Midoriya turned to them. No, he passed out. He'll wake up in 15 or 20 minutes. Now you two call yourselves her friend. Megumi-san at least asked her what was wrong, tried to help her, tried to get someone to help her. And even after being turned down every time, she kept trying. But you two, this isn't the kind of thing one doesn't notice. Tell me the truth, you just pretended nothing was going on, didn't you? He asked and waited for Reiju to read their thoughts. No, you're wrong. Don't bother lying. I have my answer already. Hinako-san, Midoriya called, and the girl looked at him while he walked towards her again. This wasn't your fault. You did nothing wrong. You didn't have to endure that for so long, but you were brave trying to keep your family whole. The thing is, having the same blood doesn't make you two family. He was never your family and you don't owe him anything. I don't know you for long, but I can say for sure that Megumi-san was suffering as much as you. She looked up at the other girl, who was also crying. This feeling you two have for each other is what family really means. I won't let him hurt you ever again, so all you'll need to do. He wanted to explain that she shouldn't be afraid when she said something that made Midoriya's brain freeze. No, I can't. If my father finds out, he'll kill him and mommy can't take care of herself. If they find out, my family will fall apart. I don't want it, I can't. She is certain of that. Do not even bother, she will not change her mind. She took that as her job, as the only thing she can do to take care of her sick mother. Midoriya could barely hear what Reiju was saying. He looked at Megumi, who was trying to put some sense into Hanako, but she kept refusing and shaking her head. Reiju was right. I understand you won't change your mind, but I'll make sure he doesn't hurt you anymore. Can you at least allow me to do that? Midoriya almost begged. No, he needs that. She almost whispered. Why? When he doesn't try to, and when he doesn't beat me, he goes bad at school and he'll get a good job. He'll sustain mommy's medications. You're not a punching bag, Hinako. I don't know who told you that, but it's not your job to endure this. Megumi screamed, but the girl was decided. It didn't matter who tried to talk to her. Midoriya's station was near, but he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. This is wrong. You're not saving your mother, Hinako-san. Your mother will blame herself for everything that happened to you and for allowing this to keep going unnoticed. This will haunt her. This will hurt her 100 times more. Don't do this to her and to yourself, please. Outstanding job. Her frontal lobe is showing inconsistencies. She is having second thoughts. This is the best you will get for now, and maybe someday she will change her behavior. Midoriya couldn't believe that. The train was stopping. Don't let him do this to you. This isn't right. I'm sorry, but this is a family matter. You shouldn't meddle. She tried to sound convict, and the doors went open. Midoriya said before turning to leave the wagon while pulling his hood up. Reiju and the wolf disappeared. He gave one last glance over his shoulders before leaving the wagon, watching as the doors closed and the train moved until there was nothing to see or hear except for the empty station and his own heavy breathing. Midoriya walked slowly to his home, stopping twice to sit and think about the girl and how unfair this world could be. He always thought the evil from this world lived only in the villains, but it never crossed his mind that you don't need to openly call yourself a monster to be one. He arrived home 1 hour later, and after going to his room, he saw the letter addressed to him from UA. He could hear his mom walking in circles outside. Reiju, are you going to exist all the time now, or do I need to invoke you again? The giant invisible wolf turned and answered. Only if I perish. Then you will have to recreate me. Otherwise, you just need to provide me with a steady source of energy after some time so I can maintain my physical form. I see. Let me get this out of the way, he said while taking the envelope. Are you sure you are all right? Your limbic system is displaying anomalies. Stop analyzing me. Command received. Also, stopping speaking like a machine at all. Understood. Midoriya ripped open the envelope and a metal chip fell on his table, switching itself on. I came as a hologram. Midoriya just stared at the virtual All Might in front of him. You have to be kidding me. You see, I remembered you after you got involved in trouble a couple of times, young man. You were the one who asked me if it was possible to become a hero without a quirk, and I answered no. Later I wanted to tell you that you had the spirit of a hero, but you misunderstood me, young man. You thought that I was deciding if I should save your friend or not, but that wasn't the case. I can't tell you the reason now, but I'll be sure to explain to you once we have a chance to meet. Someone said something to him from behind the cameras and he waved. Okay, I'll make haste. He turned back and continued. About your score, well, first I'd like to show you something. A video started playing and Midoriya recognized the brown-haired girl. She was speaking to Pro Hero Mike President. So do you know that boy with curly hair? He had 2 swords and was wearing black. I couldn't find out his name or if he passed, but he saved me. He lost precious time saving me, so is there a way that I can share a few of my points with him if he didn't pass? He was a true hero. Please, allow me to do that, please. The video was paused, and All Might returned. A true hero. That's what you are, young man. You were recognized by others and by the examiners. You displayed strength and intelligence and the most important quality of a hero, the spirit of self-sacrifice. All Might built up and shouted. Midoriyaizuku, 174 villain points, 95 rescue points. Urarakao, 28 villain points, 45 rescue points. Midoriya's hands were closed while he started crying. You both pass. You were the one who scored more points in the history of any battle simulation exam. Come now, Midoriya shouted. This is your hero academy. I can't call myself a hero. I'm not. Midoriya thought while getting up, dressing again, and storming out of his room, surprising his mom. Izuku, what's wrong? Izuku. But he was already gone. A few blocks away, Midoriya stopped, feeling a presence well known to him by now. He turned to lock eyes with Toga Himiko, who asked after her smile faded. I was not trying to find where you live, Izuku-kun. I just happened to be walking by. What's wrong with you? You're looking quite dangerous right now. Tell me, Toga, what would you say if I tell you I'm going to kill someone right now? He asked with his eyes full of despair. Toga smiled and, placing her hands on her cheeks, answered. I would ask if I can come and help you, of course. She had a wide smile and a warm look towards him. Then yes, you can come. Let's go. He resumed walking and Toga ran to keep up with him, looking at his face while blushing, her hands behind her back. A figure on top of a building sighed while watching that scene. You always choose the path leading to ruin, cursed one. The figure vanished as the darkness walked towards the beginning of its reign over the earth. Would anyone be able to stop it? Would anyone be able to stop him?